NovaTitanProductions.
Hello and welcome to a playthrough of Blair Witch. This is NovaTitan. Let's get started.
What it is.
I don't think he's mad, and I don't think you get judged for what you did. I don't.
So if he tells you that you think you're navigating your life, right? I think he has nothing to do with you being here, you being the funny man that you are.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, because I feel that, like, if I do good things happen. There's definitely these laws. See, my thing about religion is I think that people came up because they couldn't explain how we got here. So I think everybody has these theories that turned into religion, and then there's elements. It's like if you're a conspiracy theory, you got enough conspiracy, one of them has got some truth in it. But like, I think all religions are inherently flawed because they were made by people who are alive. So they don't know the biggest answer, which is what happens to you after you die. So that's like the biggest guessing game. And I needed a whole new reprogramming. So what I wanted to do was, I went the entirely other way. This is all bullshit, people made it up. You die, you go into the ground. I went through that, and now, since then I had kids, it's just, there's no way to describe it unless you had a kid, and I'm just like, there's gotta be something, there's something beyond this, there is something beautiful behind all of this control of,
So what are you talking about, the Wizard of Oz? Yeah, that's not like the Wizard of Oz, there's something behind
yeah, but
that's not like the Wizard of Oz, there's something behind
Pull the
it.
curtain, meet the wizard.
Yeah, like...
yeah, but don't you, but religion is inherently that too.
Huh?
There's this guy, he's watching you, he's hanging
listen,
out.
No, but check this out, I know religion has its flaws, I'm with you 100%.
Okay.
But how do you think we would be without it?
Hey.
You think we would be better? Really, what do you think? Imagine us thinking.
No, I don't think you need to go all the way the other way where now there's no judgment and blah blah blah, the bullshit that I'm was at. I think that if there was a
No, since you're thinking so bad, just say, what do you think? It should be no religion.
no, I don't think that. I think
It
that
shouldn't be no Catholic religion.
no, it's like you're looking at an old house that needs to be redone. You don't need to tear it down. You just need to upgrade it.
What about spirituality, Mike? There's spirituality, your connection with God, without being in any one of these religions.
I don't know spirituality, but spirituality comes from religion pretty much.
It doesn't have to.
You know.
You know.
So you're dictating your own show then. All these rules are my rules now. So I'm spirituality. So I'm pretty much I'm a prophet or I'm God. Since I'm going to do a spiritual perspective, and this is my spiritual perspective. Why don't I write a few lines in the book or something? Matter of fact, why don't I make up my own book?
People have made up their own book.
Yeah,
But I'm sitting over here, I'm the Jewish guy. You knew it, he smelled the Jew. The ginger smelled the Jew. The children.
Marriage joke. I'm fucking with you. Breaking balls. I miss it.
Like looking at you, you're not special from an outsider. You're crushing it. You're fearless, saying what you want to say. And at the end of all that, you're in love. Great reference point because you didn't grow up there. And at the very end, you're there with your kid. And this is how, like, I'm not kissing your ass. I'm just being honest. But there's something about it that really struck me. At the very end with the credits, and you're there with your kid, and it's that silhouette of you guys in the back.
Yeah, Royal Albert Hall. Yeah.
Come on, boy.
It looked like someone.
Contact Sheriff Lanning.
I don't want to say who has it all, but you had figured some stuff out.
No, I did. No, I definitely figured stuff out. That's why I'm trying to figure out how to come back to a higher power thing, trying to figure out my temper and all of that. I mean, I just, there's something wrong with you if you have a kid and it doesn't change you. It doesn't make you look at yourself and be like, well, I got a lot to work on. Because, there was a lot of stuff I didn't like about myself. And then when I had a kid, I was like, oh my God.
Your kid?
I feel like, yeah, I'm contagious.
And you think, no.
I don't want to pass this shit.
You don't think you could take, you thought you could hide something. You know?
No.
We like secrets.
I have a temper, man. You can't hide that. Like if I was,
No, we're not hiding your temper. We're hiding the cause of the temper.
Well, if I could, I'm trying to figure out what is the cause of it.
You know the cause of it, brother. Oh, don't start that. Why am I mad? Why? I know you know why you're mad. Why are you mad? Who hurt you?
Oh, yeah, but that's what I just figured out. But for years, when I would yell at my phone, I thought I hated technology.
Oh, this guy's
It had nothing to do with your phone.
No, I'm serious.
Clever.
I'm being totally honest. That's
no, you're not. You silly dude.
no, you know what it is. No, the thing is you're more evolved. You've worked on yourself more, so you think I'm where you're at. I'm not. So I'm learning shit from you right now. I'm not trying to be clever. I'm being totally honest. Like, you know how many times I've said that? I fucking hate technology. Technology kept me alive. I had a ruptured appendix. I don't hate technology. I just get frustrated with shit. and I have this.
No, this is what you hate. You hate this phone.
It's an aggressive therapy
You
session.
you hate this phone. You don't hate technology. You just hate this phone, okay? This phone.
It's too light out. It's the afternoon to go into my demons here. Smoking a cigar, man. I feel like it's my last cigar
Let's
here.
Sigmund Freud him, man. Let's Sigmund
Yeah,
Freud him.
fuck, man.
I don't know if we should drag him into deep waters.
Yeah, I see. This is the good cop over here. You're pivoting over here like, hey, I feel you're special. I really enjoyed it. And you're like, you know why you're angry, motherfucker. It's just like, Jesus Christ. I want to fucking sit here and smoke a cigar, Mike.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Bill, you know that Mike had a one-man show. Did you know that?
I loved it.
Okay. What'd you love about it?
There was a couple things that really struck me as performance and a sports fan, where you were talking about, you were in a fight, I think it was Holyfield, and you were getting hit by this guy, and you said, maybe this was an interview. I've watched so much of your stuff, but I think it was a one-man show. No, I think it was an interview. You said you were going, I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
You want one of these,
And I thought
buddy?
that was so amazing that you would think that. I would be thinking like, oh my God, end this. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here. And you're just thinking like, what the fuck is going on right now? Why is he hitting me and I'm not hitting him? That you could be that clear in the middle of that when you have a world-class athlete in front of you, teeing off on you, trying to knock you out, that you could be relaxed enough to think, what
That's
the
what
fuck?
fighting's about.
looks
That's
like
what
they had the whole
acting's
forest
fighting is about.
covered.
It's all about relaxation. The most relaxed actor is the best fighter. The most relaxed fighter at that moment is the
true.
best fighter.
That's true. And then the story you told, and I remember when that happened, was somehow you ran into the dude you were going to fight before you fought him, and you punched him in the head, and he's somehow running after the limo or something like that. Like, I heard the full story of that.
Mitch Green. This is
Yeah,
Mitch
oh my
Green,
God. Like, that to me was like, it made, when I watched it, it reminded me of like Charlie Murphy had stories like that, where it was just like, you're just like,
Weird.
this can't be real, but the details, you know it's true.
Listen, right? I didn't want listen.
Found something, buddy?
When I was fighting the screen, right? This guy, he was on Angel Dust, and I was
not leaving that
wondering
one.
why I was
Right,
hitting
boy?
this guy, and he was like moving, but he wouldn't hit the ground. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? My hand is hurting like
Right.
a motherfucker.
Right.
And
You tase him, he's ripping it out of his chest.
yes, I hit him. Boom! I hit him with a shot, and he was out. Right.
Right.
So I get back in the car, and I said, all right, let's go. And next thing you know, he busted the camera. It's just like Jason. Boom, no. He got up, and I'm in my car, and he breaks. I'm in a Rolls Royce at the time, and he breaks the fucking the side view mirror. The mirror, what's the side view mirror?
Yeah,
He
rear
breaks it
mirror.
off, and I tell my friend, 1 minute, please. I go out, I fucking beat the shit out of him. Boom! I hit him. His head hit the fucking concrete. I said, oh shit. You know when people hit the car, boom! You hear that shit? Like, oh shit. So I got in the car, and I said, let's get the fuck out of here. But man, when I saw in the morning he was awake and he was just really fucked up.
Remember that picture in the paper?
I was like, wow, he's glad he didn't die. Shit.
So did you guys ever talk about that? Did you ever run into him again and say, hey,
No,
you know, sorry about the curb?
No, listen, the next time after I ran into him, right, you would think that he'd be scared to fuck with me. And he saw me, I'm in there, I'm hanging out. The people have, like in Harlem, the people have the chairs outside and in the restaurant. He's saying, you fucking bitch, they go, you Cicely Tyson
Forest
motherfucker
is
in
the
front of
other way.
hundreds of thousands of people. I said, oh, fuck. He just, he had no, I mean, he's a born again Christian now, but back then he had no self-respect. He didn't care. He had a jerry curl. Remember that guy in Last Dragon? Come on, you remember the Last Dragon, the movie? That guy had the jerry curl. You know, he looked just like him.
I think he had the last Jerry curl, the guy you fought.
Yeah.
Literally.
Curl was
Better
great
not
for
rush into
boxing
this.
because when a guy would take a stiff
You
right,
need to
the
find a way to
product would come out of his
contact
hand.
the
Right.
But sometimes that
Like
shit get in your
enhance-
eye,
It was
though. But it
fantastic.
gets
The
in your
punch,
eye
yeah.
sometimes. You can't see shit, man.
Yeah.
Fucking jerry curl and shit.
So, Mike, you said everything changed for you. You were terrified and you were so scared, and then you realized they were more scared of you, and that empowered you.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
what Bill was just talking about when Evander was hitting you, was that one of the first times that you thought, oh, wait, maybe he's not more scared of me? There was a moment where it flipped, and that's why
No.
you were like, what in God's name is happening?
I didn't know what was happening because he was clashing me with his head.
Oh,
Say
shit.
it plain.
And I'm saying, hey, what are these-
Headbutting you.
But I'm saying, where are these
proven
punches
wrong.
coming from? And I've seen these shits, right? And that was where it basically came from.
Got it.
Hey, what's the first car you bought when you made it?
I
Oh,
mean,
Mrs. Lanning.
Oh,
Lovely
that was the car?
No, that's one of them. That wasn't the first one, but that
How
was
much does a side view mirror cost on a Rolls Royce?
I don't know, because like 9,000 back then, something like that. Probably.
So he kind of deserved the curb. On a little way, maybe not the curb. His head should have hit the sidewalk with a little bit of grass.
I don't know. He just decimated it.
Just so vivid. Like, dude, fights are like, I don't know. You know, I actually learned a lot about comedy watching a fight one time.
Fight is comedy.
Yeah, I saw two guys spill out of a bar. I was walking home from a club, and I saw these two guys spill out, and they were, posturing, but you could tell neither one of them wanted to fight. But all their friends were there, so neither one could back down, so they were both scared. And I was watching it from across the street. I was crying, laughing. I didn't know anybody there, and I was crying, laughing. It just struck me that, like, true comedy is like, if you were experiencing it, it's not funny. But if you're watching it, like, the shit is hilarious. Like, maybe I'm explaining this wrong. Like, truth is funny. Like, their fear is fucking hilarious.
They can always go another way. That one of these guys can have a fight and kill the other guy, and he has a family and people that love him, and he has to leave them now because of that one moment of ridiculousness. That 1/10.
I know, but if you saw these two guys, that was not going to happen. They were built like me. was a couple of guys who shop at the Gap.
They should never go to the bar again.
No, they shouldn't. It was just two ego who weren't going to back down, and they were just hoping the other guy was going to walk away, and they didn't. And next thing you know, they're standing outside the bar with their Gap jeans. It was just funny.
We need to
So
find a way
did
to contact
you take that and
the
run
search
with
party.
it? I mean,
You're a comedian. They're comedians are dark people out here, huh?
Pointless.
That's just stuff my wife like going to the drive-ins and stuff. We would go see your show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Well, hopefully this vaccine's going to work. We'll see.
You know, once I became a thespian, I realized I would perform anywhere. I would perform pig shit. And there only has to be one person there, but somebody has to be there. And that's what I get on.
Hey, Jess, looking good.
you love it.
It's like she hasn't aged a day since then.
I'm ashamed that I do.
Why would you be ashamed?
I just want to be out there in front of people talking
Little
shit
something I
and
brought
talking
back
about
from our
me and
trip
letting
to
people
Santa
look at
Monica.
me and all that shit.
Bring
That's,
us up for
that's
that.
just really interesting stuff, right?
Yeah, no, but your one-man show was good.
Yeah.
I saw Chad Palminteri do it.
Yeah.
I said, baby, I think I could do that. He is so breathtaking when he did it. He has inspired me. It was
That's
awesome.
great. Yeah, man, I remember coming to see you, and you were having so much fun. He started going off script, started improvising, and he's got his wife in his ear. And she's
And
saying,
sometimes
"Get back on track."
if I'm flirting with a good hair, they stop being an asshole, okay? In my ear. Fuck, she just left me up there.
How did it go?
It went great because I was live talking about stuff, and it went great. But I can't believe she did this. And I learned to memorize.
You could have opened with that
Huh?
and just say, usually my wife's talking in
no
my ear, but I
way,
pissed
no
her off,
way.
so you guys are going to get a freestyle show.
Oh,
They would have gone
God.
nuts.
Oh,
Because that's
God.
something that I learned.
Mike. She I said, baby, this is me. You married tight clothes. What are you mad at wearing tight
You
clothes?
married tight clothes. Absolutely.
So you never got into the baggy shit when it came out in the 90s?
Fuck no, man. I wanted to show my bows and all that shit.
You know what's hilarious? I thought once baggy pants came back, I thought, and longer
Sorry,
shorts, I
Anthony.
never thought short
First
shorts
come, first
or
served.
tight clothes would
I'll
ever
call
come back.
landing once I'm in the forest.
Oh,
I
yeah,
never-
they absolutely have to
Mike
come
would wear
back.
tight
Ready as
shorts
I'll
even
ever
when he was
be.
boxing. I mean, if you think
Absolutely.
about it,
To the woods
everyone else
then.
was going for the Jordans down to the knees.
I
He had
put
no
sexy
socks on,
back to
short shorts.
boxing, dude. I put sexy back to boxing. Then I go on the Wayne with my Versace tights and shit, man.
You
Bling,
wear a
bling.
tight Versace suit?
I wear Versace till I die.
Wow.
Now, what is it about that you like?
Huh?
It fits your junk better than
No, yeah,
Yves Saint
that
Laurent?
too. It was made for me. It was made for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
He made it for me. He made it. It was about me, baby.
I've dressed like this since the 5th grade.
And that's
I
beautiful.
have no style whatsoever.
That's beautiful, and hopefully you saved a lot of money by doing this.
You
It is
say
the most eloquent way anybody's ever shit on what I'm wearing.
Oh God!
You are saving a lot of money. Wait, what do you do with all the money you don't spend on clothes, Bill?
so, Mike, do you want it? Because he is a master. He really is.
know,
hate
I
to-
know he is.
So,
He's
Just
saving
trying to
it.
get you in the film.
He's still
I know what he's
doing.
doing. He's still working it.
I'm trying to get in the film too. I'm asking him about the film. I'm not even. Please, may I be able to be in your film and show my acting?
Come on,
skills?
boy.
You don't have, like, yeah,
go
I
find
never
this
thought you
kid.
would want to be. I'm already thinking of 3 different things you can do in it.
Yeah.
and
Thank
you didn't think you were going to get married.
No, I didn't. When I was growing up, being married did not look fun. Nobody in my neighborhood looked happy. Everybody was just, it was, you know, I don't, it was, this is like pre-self-help. People just, whatever happened, you shook it off, you buried it, and you just fucking, you know, they just kind of funneled you down something. I think a lot of people that I grew up, unfortunately, weren't doing what they wanted to do with their lives. Yes, is what they did, and then the reality of that hits, and you got, you know, people back then, everybody had 5, 6 kids. You
Yeah, but I don't
can't
look
pull the
down on
ripcord.
those people, though. I don't look down. Those guys were great. Some of those guys' kids ran this country. Those people back then started, they had all those kids. Some of those kids wound up being leaders of this country. So
No, I wasn't shitting on their kids. I was just saying that it's tough to change a job.
What changed your mind that you could pull the trigger
To do what?
to get married?
He had no power over that.
Huh? What did do that? I don't remember, but I can tell you this. It seemed like a mountain that I had to climb up, and it was like so many of the demons that you have, because you get them when you're a kid, they look like mountains, and then you realize all you had to do was step up on the curb. That's all it was, and I gave her the ring. She broke down and cried. I never felt better. And I was just like, I should have done this forever ago.
Right.
And,
The fear of it.
oh, I'll tell you, I got a Chaz Palminteri story for you. So, it's the day I'm going to get married. And like most guys, I'm freaking out, like, what in the fuck am I doing? What am I
I'll
about to do with
pass.
my life?
Sorry.
And so I was getting fucking nervous, getting cold feet, So I'm with my brother. He's my best man. I go, hey, let's go down to the bar. I just need to have a drink before, you know, I do this shit. And he goes, cool. So we go downstairs, and I'm at the hotel bar, and I got like a Budweiser because I don't want to be fucked up at my own wedding. So I had a Budweiser, and I'm sitting there, and I look over. It's the middle of the day, and I look over, and I see Chaz Palminteri standing there with like 4 other people, and I immediately thought, a Bronx Tale. Now you can't leave. When they close that thing and they get the shit kicked out of them, and then I got in my head going, oh my God, that's a fucking sign. I need to get out of here.
I'm that kind of guy. I go by sign.
Yeah.
I'm that guy that's
Yeah.
a sign.
Why? And I wasn't in New York where he was from. I was in Boston. Why is he here? Why
I'm a
is he in
weirdo
this
like
bar
that. I'm a
when
weirdo
I'm
like
going to
that,
get
too.
married?
What is he
and
doing here, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm the fucking same weird
Why
motherfucker
the
like
fuck?
that.
I always wanted to meet that guy. Why am I meeting him right now? He's trying to tell me something, and I had to get that out of my head. Thank God I did, because my wedding.
I be
was
saying
shit.
this means I'm going to die. So this means I'm going to die. I'm seeing him before I go.
When was the last time you remember you went somewhere where you saw either something or you saw a person, and then you were like, this is a higher power trying to help me out. It's saying, Mike,
No.
don't do this, or you're
No.
doing the wrong thing.
It's just that I thought about this person, and this person's somewhere else, and I'm in this other city or this country. Now this
it's
guy's
me,
right here.
Ellis.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's weird.
I did not expect to
What
hear
the
from you
fuck
so
is he
soon.
doing here?
Is Bullet okay?
And no one can answer
Ear
those
acting up
questions.
again?
I think this is what I think.
I had that
It's
last
fine.
night when you
Alright, just,
FaceTimed me.
Yeah, you serious?
You know
I
what?
was
It's
sitting there.
nothing.
I thought I was watching,
Sorry
because I
to
watched so many videos on you and interviews. I forgot I was talking to you for half a second. I'm like, wait, he's talking to me right now.
You know, sometimes I think.
why I don't need
this ever
mushrooms.
happens to you when you think about somebody and say, I'm going to call this guy, and all of a sudden he may pull up on you in the car, he may call you, or you think about him. He said, well, I was just thinking about you. And I think that's something that we have that we don't know, that we can't operate, that
Can't tap into it.
Yeah, that we'd be able to do it instantaneously all the time.
If you had that power, who would you make walk through the door right now?
Excuse me?
If you had the power to do that, like if you had control of it,
Right this second.
and you were like, who do you want to walk through the door right now?
My kids.
Dude, that's the fucking nicest answer ever.
All my kids are hanging out. I wouldn't see this nigga and shit and talk to your guys. You meant you to make jokes on him and stuff.
I would pick Lee Majors personally.
You were saying that your fear is always worse than what it is. Your fear is always worse than what it is.
All of our kids
Your
are.
fear of getting hit.
I have a question.
We
Did
wanna
you
hear
find the
your
coat
question.
first or the boots?
Oh, you're a cool dressed motherfucker. Oh, excuse me. I know, like I said, I'm gonna start
See,
conducting myself
Mike
with some
meant
kind
that,
of
and you were
distinguish here.
you're going down a different path, and I have no idea.
He looks
Yeah.
beautiful.
He
He's
does.
Beautiful.
I mean, to have that type of color coordination on a podcast is incredible. I mean, I thought I was
See,
crushing it with the black and gray.
You are, and by
with,
the
with
way,
the gray
you're
hair.
being self-deprecating, but you put it together.
I
as
did
well.
put it together.
Don't
This
pretend
came
like
right
you
out of the
fell
dry
into
cleaner.
this.
But look at
So I can show you all my COVID
Hey,
with
listen,
it.
listen.
I should have worn the jacket like you.
Hey, listen.
You got to cover up.
Forget
You
it.
gotta
No,
cover up during
That
the
reminds
COVID.
me of Bonanza. I love
No
the carpets.
way. Ain't no fucking Bonanza.
Bonanza was the
It's a
shit.
tough
Regardless
room,
of the
man.
tight pants, we're fashion plates, man. Look at that.
Those
Yeah.
pants look like it went with that outfit. And you said, you know what, I like those. You guys broke it up. It's perfect.
Mike's got some. He's got a hat going on as well. He's got, you know.
Yeah, you are.
Player.
Now, do they send you at your level? Do they send you like a rack of clothes and just go, Mike, if you could fit this into your schedule, because if you wear these shoes or this shirt, we're gonna, they're gonna sell a bunch.
Well, I don't know. Some of them is the clothes are just not cool enough. I have to ask them, this is what I want. Because some people, they offer their clothes, they just, I'm not going to wear it.
Right. Isn't that weird though? You can't afford shit, right? Coming up, you're broke, and then when you finally make it and you can't pay for shit, people just want to give you stuff.
Then I realized that's entrepreneurship. Nobody's giving me anything. You know what I mean?
That's true. Mushrooms.
Yeah. See, another
You
reason why
you
you
see
need to
all the
jump in.
angles. I did. Sitting here with my sober mind.
What's the best part about mushrooms, Mike?
Huh?
For you, the best part, the best feeling on mushrooms.
Not being badgered with questions as you enjoy the high.
No, it just doesn't.
It's kind of the nature of the beast here, Bill.
It's certain elements. What you mean? Sometimes it just doesn't judge you. You don't have to worry about being judged.
But you can get bad mushrooms. You ever get mushrooms? You're just like, this didn't take me where I wanted to be.
100%, yeah.
So what's the name of this strain of mushrooms?
Penis envy.
No, the mushrooms.
Peanut
It's called
envy
penis.
mushroom. Peanut envy mushroom.
I hear you. I was just waiting for the joke. You serious? That's what they call it?
Absolutely.
All right. I owe you an apology. I thought it was a joke. Hey, I'm Bill Burr for Penis Envy Mushrooms.
You did get
You
envy
know,
with these
called
shrooms.
raining.
When you want to get down to your kid's level, or maybe talk to God, this shit tastes like foam. I like that dirt shit of vagina envy.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Growing up, Bill's reference for mushrooms is when we were growing up. They were dirty, they lasted forever, and they were intimidating.
Just sanitary now, baby.
It is kind of cool that shit is, once it becomes legal, then it gets way cleaner.
The note said to
fine-tune
use
it.
channel 2.
Yeah, like weed stores.
What do you like doing, Bill? Though, right? I mean,
Ellis to base. Did you copy?
The fucking buddy down.
Why'd you say Humpty Dumpty because of my head?
No, I'm just
I see what you're saying.
No, you let the guy get the fucking.
I see what you just did there.
Nah,
He snuck
right?
one in. He snuck one in after the bell. Well, you saw that.
That guy ain't worth shit, man. Listen, what do you do, man? You just have the things that you lay back.
What do I do? I kind of got rid of everything.
help.
Once I had my
many
kids,
kids you have?
I got 2, and I quit.
Bullets with me.
Oh, young. I started
He
late.
can't
Drive me
descend,
crazy,
he'll lead us
huh?
No, I
straight to
love
the
him.
kill.
How old are they?
I love them. One's gonna be 4, and the other's 7 months.
Listen, can I tell you something, brother?
What?
My advice? Enjoy it.
No, I am.
Enjoy it.
I am
Sure.
because that's why I kind of
You're
love.
not
I
gonna
love the
screw this
pandemic
up.
because I'm not on the road and I don't have a lot of shit going on. I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
All
I had a girl first and then the boy, which is great. If you have the girl first, because they are way more receptive
now.
to having a
Yeah,
sibling,
but listen, man.
where a boy kind of looks at a baby like
listen,
Time
they
to
don't
get
give
to
a
work.
shit.
when they get like 12 and 13, whoa. Then they're now you got another person in the house.
I know.
Girls are a trip. They take over stuff.
Well, that already happened.
Yeah, you just have
It already happened. She's, I'm definitely the good cop in the relationship. But I think that happens with, I think girls, obviously, the kids get away with murder with the opposite sex. So my son's going to get away with murder with my wife. The fuck was that?
Uh-oh.
My daughter will get away with murder with me, basically.
And they know how to play
that-
you too. You know how to
Well, that's the, I think because my wife
you can
is sitting
find
there
something
going like,
like-
well, no,
Lead on, buddy.
that's a fake cry. Like she knows the thing. So now that's making me look at my wife like,
but subconsciously,
why do you know all these
Hey,
tricks?
but subconsciously, hey, you picking on my baby. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's happened my day. What are you
Looking
making a
for
call?
Peter,
It's not
not
that
the search
important.
Yeah.
party, buddy.
No, I feel that
Right
because like
here.
when she'll discipline her, you know,
Bullets.
we don't spank or anything like that, but it just goes like, she'll just be like, hey, you got to stop doing that or whatever. There is a twinge of me going like,
Yeah, I'm the same. Wow.
yeah,
I'm the
don't,
Same way.
yeah,
I'm the same way my daughter. I feel like that.
yeah. She can do nothing wrong.
And it's so interesting, Mike, because we were talking before about the fact that you
Come
can
here.
get love from all these strangers and you can be celebrated, and then you're looking for it from your own
Search.
kids, and it doesn't necessarily come that way.
You
It's
know,
not that easy.
This the real deal,
We're
right?
taking a detour.
Our kids, right? And just when they get that age, they want to take that. They see the bullshit in us.
Yeah.
That our family, our people, they don't see that bullshit that the kids see. When we're not us.
Great. I bear that.
When we're not
So,
putting on.
that's so true.
I see that bullshit. So it's hard for them to. So they look at you now. So it's hard for them to fucking like be
Check.
jumping on your junk when they
The
see
handle
these
is
flaws
Ellis.
going
I'm
on.
joining the
Yeah.
search.
My daughter gave me that look at about 18 months.
Yeah.
My heart dropped. I was like, oh my God, she already figured me out.
That's how I was feeling. Huh?
It is.
And you think
It's
these
humbling.
people
She was
smarter
looking,
than me. I'm saying these people smarter than me.
yeah.
I
Thanks.
don't say these kids
I'll
are
stay
smarter
behind.
than me.
Double
They're
check
aliens.
the area.
How do you know all this stuff?
They also have access to a lot more information. on it.
Maybe,
No, but they know.
maybe it's
way
just
more-
another breed of human being. They're a different breed of human
Bullet.
being. They're
No,
so
you think
perceptive.
because they can't walk and they can't talk that the brain's working, and they are just processing shit. They just don't have the ability to sit there and be like,
around,
wow,
buddy.
what you just did was really fucked up. They just sort of look at you. You just
Bullet.
like
Search.
you just gotta look at your baby and just be like, I know,
Ooh, what?
I know,
Kids, right? What
I'm
the
working
fuck?
on it.
Yeah.
Nothing, eh?
I'm working on. But the thing that I am happy about is that I apologize.
hear me?
I admit that I'm wrong, and I talk shit out
Hello.
with my kid. My
So,
son's not old enough yet, so
A night in the woods.
I am my best
like
thing that I
old
like
times,
is
huh?
my daughter is not afraid of me at all, which is she respects me, but she's not afraid. So at least I got that going for
I
me.
was talking about, you know, your grandmother would have did to you. You said that to me.
This'll be different.
Your ass. She said, well, my grandma's not here. I hope you're right. My kids did what they said.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love this bug.
that's what you're supposed to. I mean, to a certain degree, you're
They
supposed to
could
do that.
bat me every time I talk, but that's not good. That's not right. That's not right.
I got nieces and they bust my balls and
Yeah.
they crush me.
Oh.
It's pathetic. I took them over to Jamie Foxx at a Christmas party and I brought Pearl over because I'm trying to impress them because I need a win. I need a win from these girls.
Should have brought me. I would have been impressed.
No,
I would have.
really?
I would have.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Because Pearl took one look at me. We're walking in, and she literally looked at me and she goes, "Is Jamie going to be awkward the way you are?"
Oh, God.
They walk in, and these little girls are. They feel like they're.
What
too,
do you say to that?
Yeah, there's no comeback.
My daughter saw Venus, and that just really blew her mind. She trained with Venus a little bit, and that just really took it to her. She just blew. She can't believe it.
My daughter said to me the other day, she just goes like, Dad, can I have this or whatever? I go, how come you never say please? And she goes, well, because I'm smart and I know a lot about music. I don't even know what the fuck that means. And I was just like, all right. What did you ask me for? What's the name of this podcast?
I bought some.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should have like a little mushroom in there too. Neon mushroom.
Yes, I should. I really should. You're absolutely right. Instead of like
Bare
slowly,
footprints.
slowly, have a mushroom there.
Someone must really love nature.
Why not, man?
I think that's cool.
Yeah, man.
What about peyote? Did you ever do
I'm
that?
not a peyote guy.
That means did you try it?
No. I'm a toad guy. See the toad like that? Let's just smoke the toad puff.
You never tried peyote?
No.
Son, what is it about it that you would say I'm not a peyote guy if you didn't try
I
it?
don't know. No one never offered it to me. I guess they didn't think I would like it.
Because that seems like for someone like me who never tripped or anything, for someone to say here's some peyote, that's a huge leap for me. And but I feel like if you already tried mushrooms, right?
I did so much other stuff. The peyote is just small fries to me.
Hey, what's Japan like?
What do you say? It's like a assembly line? An assembly line, yeah.
And does Tokyo? Whenever I see pictures, it looks like a giant Times Square. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it looks
Yeah, but
ridiculously vivid.
Everybody doing what they have to do. There's nobody chilling, talking shit. I ain't none of that.
So what did coming from America?
Women don't have
Let me
no
see.
really good rights. A lot of women are in jail.
Aren't you a handsome boy?
Crimes of passion, killing their husbands or something.
Leave it, buddy. Now's not
That's
the
a thing
time.
over there.
Yeah.
You've got an
You
interesting.
know the scariest place I ever went?
What's that?
Baltimore
Singapore.
crows.
Yeah.
Because that was where
Just came that young kid. Right?
yeah.
Good boy.
And this is how I grew up too. My mother was just like, "Well, they should. Those were the laws. That's what they should do." I just remember
Come on, buddy.
going
Sniff.
through security and just thinking like, I don't have any weed. I got nothing, right? I don't have any weed. And my wife, you don't have any weed, nothing. And like, you hear this shit like if you spit gum on the street, like you go to jail forever, which isn't true.
You
That-
can get in trouble.
yeah, but you can get in trouble, but it's not like they execute you or anything. But that was a scary. Plus, I watched a video one time of somebody getting caned. It is no
Not risking and losing.
fucking.
Hope they just cut flesh.
The dude took like 3 and was fine, and on the 4th one he fucking collapsed, sort of. And they kind of like hold. He had to take 7. Yeah,
Bullet, wait up.
it's not a good thing to watch before you go to Singapore. That's not good for tourist
No.
attractions.
Can I borrow your lighter, Mike?
Did you call your shot with the Mandalorian? Did they come to you? Were you? Were you
You in that
into-
movie?
It's a TV series on Disney.
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 I thought it was a movie.
Well, if you like spaghetti westerns, you ought to check that shit out. Because John Favreau, oh my God, he fucking they're killing it. Rick Famuyiwa, they're just killing it over there. And
Where's that dog?
I always made fun of Star Wars. Not because I really hated it. It's just I saw people excited about shit, and being a comedian, you just make fun of
shit
it.
up, huh?
Yeah, you just make fun of it, right?
You're a miserable fuck, aren't you? You wanna fuck up
Not.
shit.
It's not as like I used to be. Now I kind of do it more fun. But when I was a younger comic, when I was really angry, I wasn't a miserable prick. But so anyway, I was
Joe
made.
Rogan was the angry
Where the hell is
comic
he?
too at one time. You ever see Joe Rogan stand up?
Yeah.
He's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
now.
that guy.
are
That's
you,
he's one of
buddy?
the best comedians I've ever seen. Like his energy on stage is
Get a this.
unique. There's no. The first time I saw him
Not giving up now.
was at the Kowloon in Saugus. It was a Chinese restaurant. Like for some reason, Chinese restaurants and stand-up comedy in Boston, they just always had a room in the back or a room upstairs. In this place, they had a room upstairs. Me,
Always food there, huh?
yeah, and me and
I think I would like the Chinese restaurants because they have good food there, huh?
yeah, and East Coast Chinese food too, which is the shit.
fine.
So
in your head.
I went with late great Patrice O'Neill, and we went and watched him, and we're just fucking
Where are you, buddy?
blown away. There was nobody. There was this weird thing with Boston comedy where you had this Mount Rushmore people that created it, and they didn't leave, didn't want to leave, and they were making great money. So you had to leave and establish yourself, and then come back, and then you could headline. So he was the guy we were looking at. Like, how did he do that? Like, how is he still in his 20s headlining the Kowloon? Because that you couldn't get that. That gig did not exist for our generation, and he did it. So we're like, all right, let's go down and check this guy out, see if this guy's as good as people say. He was. That's when he was doing the. You ever see tigers fucking? That was his closing bit, and he sounded just like a tiger, and he acted this shit out.
Oh, well.
I just like
Yeah, look, you
the.
decided to show up.
I remember the sonic
Don't leave me
like
like this,
assault
okay,
of
buddy?
that bit in a great way was just like
I can't be alone out here.
there was like
What is it, boy?
that bit alone was better than
Find
what
something?
my whole generation was doing collectively
so
when we
it's not
watched
a
that.
good
So I was
trail.
just like,
Good.
and that was one of those things when you saw a guy that
Get
good
on, buddy.
that it couldn't not have an impression on you, that you had to be like,
So do you think that's your biggest influence?
that was, there's comics and there's certain sets, and he's both. Joe Rogan at the Kowloon
Hey, hey.
in fucking, I mean, I'm talking like 94. It was before I moved to New York. Me and Patrice went down and we watched him,
No, it's
and we were just like,
She's
what?
not with us no more.
Yeah,
Under
yeah,
control.
it
I was
sucks.
at his one of the was it roast Charlie Sheen or something. That was the last.
No, I
roast.
said I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, that'll never not be sad. That guy, yeah. If he was still alive, you would know who I was or a lot of other people because he was
Gotta
He
go.
was so good. But that was what made it
Call you
great,
later.
because he was so good. You'd never had a competitive thing with him. Like, in order to compete with somebody, they have to be somewhere within my sight. And he was just
Bullet.
over the horizon, and just so when he went on stage, you just became,
good dog.
you stopped being a comedian. You just became like a fan of stand-up, and that's what Rogan did when I saw him at the Kowloon. Like, I stopped being like, okay, how do I get there? And he moved to L.A. I just
Sit close to me.
forgot all of that shit and just started enjoying the show. And yeah, I almost felt like I should have paid him because
And
I
people-
was sitting there like an audience member.
And people are that way with you when they see certain bits that you do, like your helicopter bit. They look at that and go, okay, you're hitting that from so many different angles, so many different perspectives.
Bullet.
That's
You know
really
what's funny? I flew with the guy
Zeke.
that was the dude flying, and he had seen me do the bit and he never brought it up.
Really?
How cool is that? I had to find out afterwards. I rented this helicopter. I got a pilot's license, so we're flying up to,
Crazy man.
dude, I'm telling you, once you get up there,
I bet.
you will be so fucking scared driving down the highway. The highway becomes way scarier. Way scarier. It's like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. It's like we're all flying in formation and nobody has any.
John Kennedy Jr. is telling me the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, when you're up there, you should see the
I
technology.
was saying that, well, you can't believe how beautiful it is up there.
Yeah.
It's insane.
That's what I heard. I
It's
heard that
insane.
too.
So, yeah, I like go up there and I find shit I want to go do with my wife. I'm
I know.
flying on a
I
little
don't want
fucking
to do
beach.
this. I don't want to
Yeah.
drive
It's a great
a
perspective.
plane.
Yeah.
Website?
So,
You're the kind of guy that likes do one of the drilling junkies.
Pretty beat up.
no, you know why I ended up getting into helicopters was conspiracy theory.
Tell me.
So I was reading too much about the Federal Reserve because you are doing too much because you can't fix it. So all you do is just meet other psychos
No, psychic.
and psychos. You can't tell me that you haven't met a conspiracy theorist where you're excited because they're into it too, and about a minute into the conversation, it's like, I got to get away from this fucking guy.
No, I'm fine.
Well, you don't experience that.
I'll
You're
deal
Mike
with it.
Tyson.
Well,
It
just
looked like me
people
with no
that-
fights. Yeah.
I understand some
People will bend your ear a little more.
Ellis, what you need is help.
All right, so it was my I was reading
could've
up on this
managed.
shit, and I just
Ellis, I
how the whole
can't do
Federal
this
Reserve
anymore.
came about, the Woodrow Wilson shit, his letter
What is
of
it this
regret.
time?
12.
What, I wasn't
Yeah, and how
smiling
they
enough?
passed it when
Didn't say
everybody
I
had gone
loved you
home,
for
and
5 fucking minutes?
Jesus Christ, Ellis, do you even hear yourself?
Yeah, I can hear myself just fine. And I can see the way you look at me. Like I'm a fucking loser. You're a sick little puppy for you to look after.
Why, Ellis?
I thought
Get
they
over
were the
yourself,
robber barons, and they
Ellis.
took control of the
Be a
money.
man for once.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
So they need guys like Theodore Roosevelt to do that, to make these laws. So now,
Well, if that's
now
what-
taxes come in 1912.
But if that's what they were trying to do, then, and if you told me that, then I would have never learned how to fly.
Forgive yourself.
Because I learned how to fly from reading that shit. Because I became convinced that the dollar was going to collapse. That 2008 shit happened, and they were just like, hey, go fuck
Go
yourself.
ahead.
We're too big
Get
to
out.
fail.
Leave me the
That was
fuck
not
alone.
gonna collapse. It's just that we're gonna get our share. We're gonna make up something that's called taxes, and we're gonna tax the robber barons so their money won't get too powerful.
All right, well, my version of it was.
No, that's just
I-
a fact. You can read that. That's why they did it. 1912. 6 families.
Oh, that Devil's Island shit. Yeah, I read all of that stuff. So then,
no, it wasn't no Devil's Island. It was just family. And they
so you got to send me the link to read that, because the one that I had Devil's Island, which really made it more vivid. That these guys met in a place called Devil's Island. So then it just starts seeping through. It's why the internet is really it can be a great thing. You learn a language and do all this great shit, but if you
Better
just
yet, I want to
know,
introduce you to
if you're a
someone.
dummy like me and you
Bullet,
get a fucking
meet
laptop,
your
like
new
there's no
partner.
telling
He's
what
been
you're gonna
through a lot,
watch
just
Why
like
and
you.
what you're gonna believe.
Why would you think
Sir,
that
I
they
can't.
create taxes?
Oh, you got something else going on right now?
1912, they decided
Just
not to
take
have
the damn
taxes.
dog,
Why
Ellis.
did they decide all of a
Yeah.
sudden we should make
Yes,
taxes?
sir.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just whatever the fuck I read, it made me paranoid to live in LA, and I was like, I can't even get out of this place when it works. So up and out.
So you got on a helicopter.
Yes, you did.
Huh?
You got on a helicopter.
Yeah, and that was it. And then I was starting to get away from conspiracy theory, and then I started flying helicopters, and I'm sort of a closet gearhead. Like, I don't know how to fix shit, but I've watched everybody fix everything. I watched this guy, Eric the car guy. I watch him like fix like a fucking 95 Honda Accord, and I can't stop watching shit like he figures out the electrical. You know, and I don't know, I just watch the guy, and he just makes it look so simple. So I kind of got into that, and I had a really poor science background. So the physics of flying and all of that was this whole
What is
new
your
world.
biggest fear?
The ocean.
No, what do you fear more than anything? That ocean. We all
Now,
fear
why
the
did you just
ocean.
say no? Like, you know.
No, but we all fear the ocean. We all
That was
could
like,
die in
fuck,
the
like
ocean.
you're in my head, you know what I'm thinking more than I do?
How does the ocean?
Aggressive therapy. You just met me. You asked me, and I literally said it was the ocean.
You
You're
must
like,
go
no.
deeper. No pun intended.
Profile them. profiler.
Might as well see what's on.
This is from all those years.
Mike does
Sizing
walk-
it. No,
he-
this is from all those years of having to size a guy up across the ring.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Who's
that's
like,
not-
I don't understand how you don't
listen.
throw up before this. You know there's a guy just training to fucking knock your brain into the fifth fucking row, and you know while you're training that that's what that guy's doing. How do you even go to bed? How are you not just lying there going, is he still doing more sit-ups? Do I need to do a few more of these? Like,
No, but no, it's interesting. Just that I size them up. It's in like before, like in 30 seconds, I have to size somebody up before we fight.
you know what my favorite stare down you had? It was Peter McNeely.
Absolutely.
That fucking thing, your head wasn't moving, and he was sitting there going like this, and you just stand there going,
Yo, listen, I gotta tell you one thing.
your eyes were just going side to side, and
Pete
we all knew the
McNeely
fight was over
is
anyways.
One of the greatest guys in the world, personally.
Right.
You know, so I'm in, after fighting Vander's Hill, they sent me to Harvard Medical Center, a psych ward pretty much, you know, so I had to go there for a while. And
So you sitting there going like, I'm not crazy. The fucking
I'm doing
dude
this shit. I'm doing
was
this shit.
headbutting me.
But that don't mean shit, man. I gotta go talk to these people with these white jackets.
Wait, did
man,
they give you
right?
the Jack Nicholson
Yeah.
knitted hat from One Flew Over the
Listen.
Cuckoo's Nest? And you're like, come on, put the game on.
They got
Like
me
the
in
one-
I'm
the
in
one
outfit.
sane guy in there?
They got
Right.
me in there with people fucking chickens and shit. Yeah. So I'm
Fuck.
in there, but all of a sudden in my room, knock, know who it is? Peter McNeely. Yo, Mike, let's go out, baby. This is beautiful, baby. Let's go out. I got some bitches right now. I said, Pete, I can't. I gotta take this test. Mike said, nah, fuck that, Mike.
Never thought like as you're walking down to the ring, like what the fuck? How did I end up doing this?
On the contrary, I believe that was when I'm walking on the ring. I believe I'm
No,
born
I'd
to do
expect in
this.
the middle of
And the
candy.
purpose
That's
of
the
it.
difference
I
right
believe,
there.
I
That's
believe that
awesome.
the purpose
Come
fighting
on,
was ever
boy, you
created
can
was
do better
because of
than
me.
that.
That's amazing. Because I would be thinking like, I don't want to do this.
No, it's like going on stage for the biggest night. Coming like 60,000 or something coming to see you. Not that they're there.
Nothing is like
they're there to
what
see
you guys do. Because they do that a lot with comedians. They'll be like, you know, before his special, he trained like a fighter. It's like, no, he didn't. You didn't. It's like these guys can get
Same
serious.
pain, no.
You can get seriously fucking hurt. You can die.
Oh, wait,
like the
listen,
worst
no.
that's going to happen to me is I'll have flop sweat, dry mouth, and someone will say that redheaded kid sucked. I mean, that was the worst that can happen to you. But when you're like walking into like a gladiator into a ring, like,
All right, so really, I'm just keeping it real,
Let's
right?
see.
From the desire of just somebody wanting to be something special, a comedian feeling is the equivalent of being not cold. A real comedian
no, I actually get what you're saying. You relate everything.
with emotions.
Yeah, I don't know. I still, you know, what blows my mind when I watch like UFC, and there'll be a guy on the ground, and the other guy's just dropping elbows. Like one elbow, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm tapping. This guy's just taking elbows, and you'll see the guy look over at the clock, be like, all right, 30 more seconds of this, and then I gotta go sit on that fucking stool. They're gonna take that cold thing or whatever, and then I have to continue doing this. The fact that a human being is tough enough to do that, like that. Whenever I watch those UFCs, or I watch one of my favorite fights, Charlie Murphy, late great Charlie Murphy told me about this fight, that Corrales-Castillo fight.
Yeah, that was awesome. Blonde hair, blue-eyed white kid, and we're gonna kill him, and that's what he sells. He sells violence, be able to beat some blonde hair, blue-eyed motherfucking crush. Even white people, they just want to crush him. They just look at his face and they want to fucking break it. Isn't that something? He's so special to have that. People think that that's fucking bad news. He's so special to have that. That so many people want to kick his ass. He could fucking make a fortune out of it.
And he's smart too.
That's a
'cause-
gift. You know, it's a fucking gift he got. He's so
There
lucky.
you go, buddy.
Have that gift.
Let's see.
It's the gift that somebody wants to kick your ass. Isn't that something to have that face?
How much, when you would promote a fight, like, because you're selling the fight, it's a
Yeah.
business. You want people to watch.
Absolutely.
So with you though, you had the like every fight was just amazing. So you had that, but like when you were hyping a fight, like how much of that is real, and how much of that
It's all real till after the fight.
then it's all like over.
And hey,
And did anybody
congratulations.
ever say something about you before a fight and even though you're sitting there as a professional going, okay, this guy's selling this fight, but he crossed the line and I can't let that go?
No, I was always crossing the line. I remember one time Larry Holmes put his hand down. I didn't shake his hand. You know, I was that kind of guy. You know, I was really dark
Right.
because I was insecure.
Oh, he didn't shake your hand after?
No, I wouldn't shake his hand. Fighters were going, I wouldn't shake their hand.
But like afterwards it was fine.
Afterwards it was fine. But during that process of making the fight, no emotion, no friendship, no.
What about the press conference with
Peter
Lennox
didn't run away.
Lewis?
He
What about that?
That was heavy.
I'm a heavy dude sometimes.
Yeah, you are. Very intense and passionate.
Dude, what are you thinking? Like, you never thought, like, as you're walking down to the ring, like, what the fuck? How did I end up doing this?
On the contrary, I believe that when I'm walking on the ring, I believe I'm born to do this. And the purpose
That's
of
the
it.
difference
I believe,
right there.
I
That's
believe that
awesome.
the purpose fighting was ever created was because of me.
That's amazing. Because I would be thinking, like, I don't want to do this.
Over and out.
No, it's like going on stage for the biggest night. It's gonna be like 60,000 or something coming to see you. Not that they're there.
Nothing is like
They're there to
what
see
you guys do. Because they do that a lot with comedians. They'll be like, you know, before his special, he trained like a fighter. It's like, no, he didn't. You didn't. It's like these guys can get
Same
serious.
pain, no.
You can get seriously fucking hurt. You can die.
Oh, wait,
Like the
listen,
worst that's going to happen to me is I'll have flop sweat, dry mouth, and someone will say that redheaded kid sucked. I mean, that was the worst that can happen to you. But when you're like walking into
Shot around here.
like a gladiator into a ring, like,
All right, so really, I'm just keeping it real, right? From the desire of just somebody wanting to be something special, a comedian feeling is the equivalent of being knocked cold.
Guess we're not gonna
A
find out.
real comedian.
no, I actually get what you're saying. Like, you relate everything.
With emotions.
Yeah, I don't know. I still, you know, what blows my mind when I watch like UFC, and there'll be a guy on the ground, and the other guy's just dropping elbows. Like one elbow, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm tapping. This guy's just taking elbows, and you'll see the guy look over at the clock, and be like, all right, 30 more seconds of this, and then I gotta go sit on that fucking stool. They're gonna take that cold thing or whatever, and then I have to continue doing this. The fact that they can, a human being is tough enough to do that. Like that. Whenever I watch those UFCs, or I watch one of my favorite fights, Charlie Murphy, late great Charlie Murphy told me about this fight, that Corrales-Castillo fight.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, how many times Corrales went down, he was spitting out the mouthpiece, trying to give himself some time. And I remember he went into the corner, and his corner.
The difference between black and white girls.
There is no difference until you walk down the street,
Why is that?
because the people are racist. If you walk down the street with a white girl, they don't even see you. You walk down the street with a black girl, people see you. White people act like they're cool with it. Black people are a little more uninhibited. I remember in New York, they would just be like, they would literally just start yelling at my girl, just going like, "Oh, come on, man, really?" Just pointing at me like I wasn't even there.
You're
But other than
crazy.
that, when you're in the fucking house, it's the same fights. You don't take me
Yeah.
anywhere. It's a woman, and you're a guy. There really is.
jealousy, oh,
And
fuck.
and that's, I really learned like what the bullshit of racism, what it is, and how beautiful my kids are. My kids are fucking beautiful, and like, so I feel like I have the answer to all of this racist bullshit out there. And all you have to do is look at my kids, and then look at the royal family, who've all been fucking in the same pond of white people, and how fucked up they all look. We're supposed to be all banging each other.
Yeah, but everybody's people are people, and we're all God's children, and we all need to be looked at with compassion.
All right, well, I think you got a little mushroom tinge on that, but
No, mushrooms,
I mean, the fact that you're
Mushroom
looking at the royal
Congress.
family go, well, you know, people are people, and
yeah.
sometimes you got to oppress another country so you get all the gold. That's what people do.
Well, we do it in a small matter here.
You think that you do the same shit as the royal family? I don't even know what the fuck they do. I just know
No,
that
you seem
people-
like you know what they do. Tell me what
That's
you know.
part of my shit. I act like I know what I'm talking about. And
Then-
then there's one follow-up question, and it all falls to the ground. I don't know anything about them. I was trying to make a joke, and then you got all philosophical, and I didn't know what to do with it.
I just think life is like that. Even to the smallest family, our life is like the royal family. Everybody has their court, their friends. Everybody's the established power in that friendship. That's just how the world functions. You know, it's
Right.
it's some kind of law, some kind of order. I mean, subconscious order. Like right now, this subconscious
Let me ask you this, do you
order.
think a white woman would have made that redheaded prince leave the royal family?
Excuse me?
Do you think if that redheaded dude got with a white girl, is he still in the royal family?
He would did whatever he believed was right. Whatever his body told him love was, he would have been in the situation he is now with this black girl. This is not the first time the black blood's been in their family. You know, these guys conquered the world. They have every bloodline in their family tree. You think this girl right here? You think she's the first black bloodline? There's been black queens in the royal family.
In England?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You need to know that.
I told you I didn't know anything about it. I was making a joke.
Yeah.
And she also claims that the intensity of the press she hadn't anticipated. That was a variable within it all, which I don't know how you wouldn't know going into the royal
Who said
family.
Can I be
that
honest
you'd
with
be
you?
under
Can I
the
be honest
micro-
with you? I don't know shit about the
Okay.
family. I
Okay.
was just fucking around.
Okay.
This became all of a sudden meet the press about the fucking royal family.
Mike, what do you think about YouTubers coming in and fighting?
I think that's great for boxing. I think it brings a different and it broadens the horizons of other boxing fans that would never
Okay.
be boxing fans before.
Expands the reach, but
I think-
you have no problem with someone who has no background in boxing fighting a professional.
Listen, he's been fighting, so he has a background in boxing. If he's been doing it for 1 year, he has a background. 5 months, he has a background of it. You know, he's this is what he wants to do. He has what fighters
And I
have:
just
their
wanted to say,
determination, willpower.
I know I screwed up. And
You know what I mean? And grit. And that's what he wants. And I don't care who you're rich or poor, that's what you need to succeed in this business. That's the seller. He's a blonde hair, blue-eyed white kid, and we're gonna kill him. And that's what he sells.
Yeah, you're right.
He sells violence, be able to
Thanks,
beat some blonde hair, blue-eyed motherfucking crush. Even white people, they just want to crush him. They just look at his face and they want to fucking break it. Isn't that something? He's so special to have that. People think that's fucking bad news. He's so special to have that. That so many people want to kick his ass. He could fucking make a fortune out
Go
of
get
it.
it, Bullet.
And he's smart too.
That's
'cause-
a gift. You know, it's a fucking gift he got. He's so lucky. Have that gift. It's the gift that somebody wants to kick your ass. Isn't that something to have that face?
How much, when you would promote a fight, like, because
sure
you're
this is the
selling the
right way,
fight,
buddy?
it's a
Yeah.
business. You want people to watch.
Absolutely.
So with you though, you had the
Are we walking in circles?
like every fight was just amazing. So you had that, but like when you were hyping a fight, like how much of that is real, and how much of that
It's all real till after the fight.
then it's all like over.
Hey,
And did anybody
congratulations.
ever say something about you
Bullet.
before a fight and even though you're sitting there as a professional going, okay, this guy's selling this fight, but he crossed the line and I can't
Come on,
let that
boy,
go.
Don't make me chase
No,
you.
I was always crossing the line. I remember one time
Bullet, where are
Larry
you?
Holmes put his hand down. I didn't shake his hand. You know, I was that kind of guy. You know, I was really dark
Right.
because I was insecure.
Oh, he didn't shake your hand after?
No, I wouldn't shake his hand. Fighters would go and I wouldn't shake their hand.
Come here.
But like afterwards it was fine.
Afterwards it was fine. But during that process of making the fight, during,
boy.
no emotion, no friendship, no.
What about the press conference with Lennox Lewis?
What about it?
That was heavy.
I'm a heavy dude sometimes.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very intense and passionate.
Dude, what are you thinking? Like, you never thought, like, as you're walking down to the ring, like, what the fuck? How did I end up doing this?
On the contrary, I believe that when I'm walking in the ring, I believe I'm born to do this. And the purpose
That's
of,
the difference
I
right
believe,
there.
I
That's
believe that
awesome.
the purpose fighting was ever created was because of me.
That's amazing. Because I would be thinking, like, I don't want to do this.
No, it's like going on stage for the biggest night. It's gonna be like 60,000 or something coming to see you. Not that they're there.
Nothing is like
They're there to
what
see
you
you.
guys do.
Well, what's that?
Because they do that a lot with comedians. They'd be like, you know, before his special, he trained like a fighter. It's like, no, he didn't. You didn't. It's like these guys can get
Same
serious.
pain, no.
You can get seriously fucking hurt. You can die.
Oh, wait,
Like the
listen,
worst that's going to happen to me is I'll have flop sweat, dry mouth,
Come on, look around.
and someone will say that redheaded kid sucked. I mean, that was the worst that can happen to you. But when you're like walking into like a gladiator into a ring, like,
All right, so really, I'm just keeping it real, right? From the desire of just somebody wanting to be something special, a comedian feeling is the equivalent of being knocked cold. A real comedian.
No, I actually get what you're saying. You relate everything.
With emotions.
Yeah. I don't know. I still, you know what blows my mind when I watch like UFC, and there'll be a guy on the ground, and the other guy's just dropping elbows. Like one elbow, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm tapping. This guy's just taking elbows, and you'll see the guy look over at the clock, be like, all right, 30 more seconds of this, and then I gotta go sit on that fucking stool. They're gonna take that cold thing or whatever, and then I have to continue doing this. The fact that they can, a human being is tough enough to do that. Like that. Whenever I watch those UFCs, or I watch one of my favorite fights, Charlie Murphy, like great Charlie Murphy told me about this fight, that Corrales-Castillo fight.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, how many times Corrales went down, he was spitting out the mouthpiece, trying to give himself some time. And I remember he went into the corner, and his corner man goes, "You better fucking get inside now." I don't even know what that means. And then he went out and fucking knocked the other guy out. Charlie told me, he said he woke up his whole family watching that. They were all asleep. He fucking screamed. It was like a
Well,
Rocky
Charlie
fight.
comes from a fighting family, though.
Yeah, Charlie was no joke.
You know, but I'm talking about his father, his three
Yeah.
fathers. Yeah, he comes from a fighting family.
Yeah, yeah, he was the best. He's another one. You know, I got a pizza the other day, and the woman behind the counter had a sweatshirt on that says "Assholes live forever," and I was just like, I hate to tell you this because you're young. That is the truest fucking thing I've read in a long time. Because I know so many great guys, and they're just gone. And you fucking assholes.
Some people don't think
kill them.
Believe it or not, some people don't think they're assholes. And that's another life that takes on to itself.
I would argue that actually that's what makes you an asshole. Because if
Really?
somebody's an asshole and they know they're an asshole, eventually the apology's coming. But when they don't, not even aware that they're an asshole, those are the people that I see that just seem to fucking, you know, you could hit in with an 18-wheeler and they're somehow going to crawl out of it. I had an airbag.
I used to be that way as well, but I don't let people affect me as much as I used to, because now I realize if they do, they own me. You know?
Well, you did the work.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
did the mental work. All right, well, I got to work on that, I guess.
Now, you'll love that part of life. That's going to be when you can forgive yourself.
Seek.
That's beautiful. That's life lifting when you can forgive yourself.
Yeah. Surrender.
Yeah. Stop beating yourself up.
Hey, when can I do this podcast again?
Tonight. You can do it forever, man. This is a 24-hour podcast.
So we're
It's
gonna,
like,
should we wrap this up, Mike?
if you want to, we can keep you forever.
I'm trying to think of a world where my
We
wife
like you.
goes,
We
I'm
like
going to
you."
take the kids back east to be with the family. And
You
I'm
play
like, you
through.
know what? I'm going to hang. I'm going to do Mike's podcast, and I'm going to take some shrooms.
You would really need shrooms then if your wife left you. You would really need shrooms.
No, she just went back east in that scenario. She didn't leave. She didn't leave. No.
Too cold right now to be going back east, huh? I don't want another winter night. I never want to live another winter night
This tree.
like New York City. And
Seems
stuff. I
familiar
don't want to do
somehow.
that no more.
Oh, you live out here permanently?
Las Vegas. Las Vegas colder than New York right now. You gotta wear a Sherlin in Vegas
Saw in the
at
video.
night. Here too.
When's
You
your-
love that
when's your
cigar,
next
right?
gig?
So what's that cigar make you feel like? You feel like you're really cool. You're talking skit shit. And this is, okay, I'm sorry. You're talking.
No, this is the
comedian
only thing
shit.
I got left.
No, you're talking comedian shit right now. So when's your next gig? No, I'm sorry. No, hey, people, listen. Go ahead. Now, ask me again.
The pressure is on. I'm going to the Palm Beach Improv, and that's gonna really, yeah, Palm Beach Improv. I'm excited.
Nice.
I'm very excited. Yeah, man, it was interesting. You guys are talking about assholes, and I played an asshole for years. And one of the best ways to play a guy that you're talking about is there's certain guys. The way to play them is thinking that no one is the devil in their own story. So you can't judge one of you know this from playing guys. You can't
You
judge
have
your
a little
character.
more experience in acting. I'm new to acting, so yeah, I'm listening. This is riveting.
Well, you can't judge your characters. You don't have the same ideology as that character. You can't judge it. You embrace it. You give them as much integrity as you possibly can, because no one is the devil in their own story. And then
So who's the hardest guy you ever had to play? Like you're looking at the script, and you're like, how do I play this guy?
I recently was working on this role where I was going to play an Israeli dude who's a kind of a gangster, and I remember I went to the dialect coach, and I said, you know, I really need to work on this, and she said, well, why don't you audition by sending me, you know, you doing the Israeli accent. So I ended up doing it. It's a beautiful accent. It's an incredible accent, and that was, you know, you throw yourself into it, and it's beautiful.
I gotta learn how to do that because everybody gives me shit. Like when they watch the Star Wars thing, they'll be like,
Yeah.
"I never heard a Boston accent in outer space," and then I always want to say, "Well, what about English? Don't you think it's fucking weird that you're in a galaxy far, far away and everybody's speaking English? That wouldn't
Right.
blow your mind if you went to another planet and somebody just said, "Hey, Mike, what's up?"
Not Mike, what's up? To just understand.
Yeah, like you
who
understand what they're
So who the
talking
fuck
about.
are
Yeah,
you? I say,
Chewbacca's speaking Bigfoot and Han Solo speaking English. They never switch languages, and they totally understand each other.
They had to bust your balls.
Yeah.
They felt like they had
I
to.
saw it on my way here.
My buddy said the funny
Get there
thing.
in
He goes,
3
"Oh, that's where that's where it
Stay
lost
where
you."
you are, okay?
That's where the reality of it. So,
Yeah.
but I can't thank those guys enough.
Let's go back, Bullet.
It was John Favreau's idea. He was just going, no. He goes, I think it's gonna work. And I was like,
good dog.
all right, okay, I'll do it. I remember the first day I got there, all these people I was working with were in like this crazy makeup, like looking like aliens and shit. And I just remember thinking like, how am I gonna get into the reality of this? This is fucking nuts. But they were so good. After the first take, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting killed in this. Like, I gotta. And then after that, you kind of forgot that they were wearing costumes. And in between takes, you're talking about global warming and shit, and they're fucking wearing all this space stuff, and you just forgot it. It was truly one of the great experiences I've had in this business, getting to do something like that. And then the fact that, like, people watched it and really liked it. It was, yeah. As much as last year was tough, it like people saying that they liked it was definitely a high point
So you think you
of my
want to
year.
do some acting?
What's that?
You want to do some acting now?
Yeah, like I want to do. This is the weirdest thing. I want to learn to speak French, and I want to be in a French gangster movie.
Then you should do it.
Well, yeah, I got to learn how to speak French first, but
If you want to, you will.
I got the guy for you. Vincent Cassel. You know who Vincent Cassel is?
no.
He's one of the, probably might be the best actor over in France. Plays a lot of gangsters brilliantly.
Well, I
Good
started
man.
watching.
Got you. Whatever you want is right there. You don't
This
even
guy's
have to
got the
work.
connection.
Right there, dude.
Nothing, eh?
You guys will get along. He's a good guy.
Right.
All right.
Anything you want, dude.
You got to see a movie he did called Irreversible.
Irreversible.
Yeah, it's heavy, 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 heavy.
I've been watching that show, Call My Agent. It's like it's a French
Yeah.
thing, and it's like it's it's just around the office, so it's really like sort of common language. So what I have the subtitles in French, and I just keep hitting pause, trying to like figure out what they're saying and shit. I mean, the comedy doesn't work because it goes by too quick, but
My wife hates that. I love to read.
yeah, there's people who won't do that. Like, I just want to watch a movie. I don't want to sit here reading. My thing is I'm really bad at reading, so it always goes by.
That's how I learned how to read, by reading subtitles and stuff.
I get anxiety. Like when I would go to the movies and there was like subtitles, like it would take me back to being in high school and just flunking everything. And the shit would always go by too quick, and I'd have to ask my wife, well, what did they say? She'd be hitting me going, shut up, because my wife can read really fast.
But it's cool seeing that people in other cultures like that and being able to immerse yourself in that.
Yeah, I've been watching the Criterion Channel. It's fucking amazing. It's
There you
fucking
go.
amazing.
I think what's going to happen is we're going to continue talking and we're going to look up and everyone's going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
You ever get that feeling?
Some
Like we
people
will
have gone
outlast
already,
an
left
audience?
already. Some people have already went home, man.
All right.
Well, this has been cool, man. This has been
This is
amazing,
great.
right, Mike?
2 Cuban cigars.
Hell fucking yeah, man.
I have a whole new perspective on mushrooms. Like, I mean that in a good way. I'm not being an
No,
asshole.
not-
I'm
yeah,
like,
of course
it's,
you're not being an asshole. I would never think of you as an asshole.
oh, all right.
But you are truly welcome back anytime. Isn't that right, Mike?
Anytime, hey,
When does
listen,
this come out so my wife doesn't think I just went to a
Oh,
cigar
no, we're not,
bar?
we're not filming anything. This has not been documented.
You didn't do a fucking podcast.
this
you went and
isn't
hung
a-
out with your friends.
This isn't a podcast. Bro, this is nothing. We're just hanging out. These aren't even on.
Be like, hey, I said no to mushrooms 15 times. All right? I was
It's
working.
documented.
I was working.
It's got a character. Mushrooms is gonna get
Listen,
you.
I gotta tell you, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you so much for all the stuff that I've watched for decades. The stuff that you've done, I still watch all of your stuff.
you, brother.
Follow you on Instagram and all that. You're
Thank you.
and watching you evolve and all that has been amazing. Jeremy, you're all right, man.
Thank you, brother. You see
I'm
that?
fucking with you.
Yes, all right.
I love you.
Yes,
I love
all
you.
right.
I love you. Thanks for having me on.
Matter because the information itself is encrypted. And so, things like SMS, the iMessage cloud backups, most other messengers, Facebook Messenger, all that stuff, they're relying on this computer security model. And that ends up disappointing people in the end.
And so why did you guys create it? Like, what was unsatisfactory about the other options that were available?
Well, because the way the internet works today is like insane. Fundamentally, I feel like private communication is important because I think that change happens in private. Everything that is fundamentally decent today started out as something that was a socially unacceptable idea at the time. You look at things like, obvious things, abolition of slavery, legalization of marijuana, legalization of same-sex marriage, even, constructing the Declaration of Independence. Those are all things that required a space for people to process ideas outside the context of everyday life. And those spaces don't exist on the internet today. And I think it's kind of crazy the way the internet works today. That like, if you imagined, every moment that you're talking to somebody in real life, there's somebody there just with a clipboard, a stranger, taking notes about what you said, that would change the character of your conversations. And I think that in some ways, like, we're living through a shortage of brave or bold or courageous ideas, in part because people don't have the space to process what's happening in their lives outside of the context of everyday interactions.
That's a really good way to put it, because you got to give people a chance to think things through. But if you do that publicly, they're not going to. They're going to sort of like basically what you see on Twitter. If you stray from what is considered to be the acceptable norm or the current ideology or whatever opinions you're supposed to have on a certain subject, you get attacked, ruthlessly so. So you see a lot of self-censorship, and you also see a lot of virtue signaling, where people sort of pretend that they espouse a certain series of ideas because that'll get them some social cred.
Yeah, exactly. I think that communication in those environments is performative. You're either performing for an angry mob, you're performing for advertisers, you're performing for the governments that are watching.
Yeah.
And I think also the ideas that make it through are kind of tainted as a result. That like, did you watch any of the like online hearing stuff that was happening over COVID? Where like city councils and stuff were having their hearings online.
No, I did not.
It was kind of interesting to me because it's like, they can't meet in person, so they're doing it online, and that means that the public comment period was also online. And so it used to be that like, if you go to a city council meeting, they have a period of public comment where people just stand up and say what they think. And like ordinarily it's like, oh, you gotta go to city hall, you gotta like wait in line, you gotta sit there. But then when it's on Zoom, it's just sort of like anyone can just show up and on a Zoom, just dial in and they're just like, here's what I think. And it was kind of interesting because particularly when a lot of the police brutality stuff was happening in Los Angeles, I was watching those city council hearings, and people were just like,
Come here, boy.
they were just calling, like, fuck you, I yield the rest of my time, fuck you, like it was just like really brutal and not undeservedly so. And what was interesting to me was just watching the politicians basically, who just had to sit there and just they were just like,
take it.
And it was just like, you get 3 minutes, and then there's someone else who gets, they're just like, okay, and now we'll hear from, like this. And watching that, you sort of realize that it's like, to be a politician, you have to just sort of fundamentally not really care what people think of you. You have to fundamentally just be comfortable sitting, and having people yell at you, for 3 minute increments for an hour, or whatever. And so it seems like what we've sort of done is like bred these people who are willing to do that, and in some ways that's like a useful characteristic, but in other ways that's the characteristic of a psychopath,
Yes.
And I think what we're seeing is that also extends outside of those environments. It's like to do anything ambitious today requires that you just are comfortable with that kind of feedback.
Like Trump's tweets.
Yeah, good dog.
If you watch, if you look at Twitter and look at any of Trump's tweets, when he tweets, watch what people say. It's ruthless. They go crazy. They go so hard at him. So I'm assuming he doesn't read them. I'm assuming he just, or maybe he does and just doesn't say anything, but he doesn't go back and forth with people at least.
No, but I think Trump is perfectly capable of just not caring. Just like people like Darcy is just like, whatever, I'm the best. They don't
Yeah.
And like that's that's politics. But I think the danger is when that to do anything ambitious, outside of politics or whatever, requires that you're capable of just not caring, what people think, whatever, because everything is happening in public.
I think you made a really good point in that change comes from people discussing things privately, because you have to be able to take a chance. You have to be daring, and you have to be able to confide in people, and you have to be able to say, hey, this is not right, and we're going to do something about it. If you do that publicly, the powers that be that do not want change in any way, shape, or form, they'll come down on you. And this is essentially what Edward Snowden was warning everyone about when he decided to go public with all this NSA information. He was saying, look, this is not what we signed up for. Like someone's constantly monitoring your emails, constantly listening to phone calls. Like this is not this mass surveillance thing. It's very bad for just the culture of free expression, just our ability to have ideas and to be able to share them back and forth and vet them out. It's very bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the history of that kind of surveillance, there are a few interesting inflection points. You know, like, at the beginning of the internet as we know it in like the early to mid 90s, there were these like DoD efforts to do mass surveillance, and they were sort of open about what they were doing. And one of them was this program called Total Information Awareness, and they were trying to start this office, I think, called the Total Awareness Office or something within the DoD. And the idea was like they're just going to like collect information on all Americans and everyone's communication and just stockpile it into these databases, and then use that to mine those things for information. It was sort of like their effort to get in on this at the beginning of the information age. And it was ridiculous. It's like they called it Total Information Awareness. They had a logo that was like the pyramid with the eye on top of it. Oh yeah, this is their logo.
God.
It's like the pyramid with the eye like casting a beam on the earth. That bit of Latin there means knowledge is power.
Oh wow.
And the interesting was this program was actually started by John Poindexter, of all people, who was involved in the Iran Contrail stuff.
Really?
And he like went to jail for a second. So anyway, they're
It's
like,
just so fucked up that these people are in charge of anything.
I know, but what's also just kind of comical is like they were like, this is what we're gonna do.
Look how crazy this is.
Like, this is our plan, and people were like, I don't think so. Like,
What year was this?
This is like the mid 90s.
Look at this: authentication, biometric data, face, fingerprints, gait, iris. Your gait. So they're going to identify people based on the way they walk. I guess your gait is that specific. Then automated virtual data repositories, privacy and security. This is fascinating because if you look at, obviously no one thought of cell phones back then.
Exactly right. This is like kind of amateur, right? So it's like they're like, this is what we're gonna do. People were like, I don't think so. Even like Congress was like, guys, I don't think so. Like we need a better logo.
Yeah, for sure. But it's just this whole flow chart. Is that what this would be? What do you call something like this? What is it called? Flowchart, I guess, sort of.
Designed to dabble.
Yeah, it's like baffling to figure out what it is. Like, first of all, what are all those little color tubes? Those little ones, those little cylinders.
Those are data silos.
Oh,
so that's the universal.
they're all different colors. There's purple ones.
Yeah.
What's in the purple data?
Well, gate,
that's Prince.
That's where gate lives. Yeah.
It's all Prince's information.
But so okay, so that this stuff all sort of got that down.
Yeah.
They're like okay, we
There's no reception.
And then instead, what ended up happening was like data naturally accumulated in different
think I'm getting used to
that,
things not making any damn sense.
like back then, if you had been, what they were trying to do is be like, our proposal is that everyone carry a government-mandated tracking device at all times. Like, what do you guys think? It'll make us safer. And people were like, no, I don't think so. But instead, everyone ended up just carrying cell phones at all times, which are tracking your location and reporting them into centralized repositories that government has access to. And so, this sort of like oblique surveillance infrastructure ended up emerging, and that was what people sort of knew about, but didn't really know. And that's what Snowden revealed was like, instead we don't have this. Instead, it's like all of those things are happening naturally. Your gate detection, fingerprint, like all this stuff's happening naturally. It's ending up in these places, and then governments are just going to those places and getting the information. And then I think the next inflection point was really Cambridge Analytica. That was a moment where I think people were like,
explain that to people, please.
Cambridge Analytica was a firm that was doing like big data, using big data in order to forecast and manipulate people's opinions. And in particular, they were involved in the 2016 election. And it was sort of, so it's like, what Snowden revealed was PRISM, which was the cooperation between the government and these places where data was naturally accumulating, like Facebook, Google, etc., and the phone company. And Cambridge Analytica, I think, was the moment that people were like, oh, there's like also sort of like a private version of PRISM. That's like not just governments, but like the data is out there, and other people who are motivated are using that against us. So I think, in the beginning it was sort of like, oh, this could be scary, and then it was like, oh, but we're just using these services, and then people were like, oh, wait, the government is using the data that we're sending to these services, and then people were like, oh, wait, like anybody can use the data against us, and they're like, oh, shit, it's like I think things went from like I don't really have anything to hide to like, wait a second, these people can predict and influence how I'm going to vote based on what kind of genes I buy, and then sort of where we are today, where it's like I think people are also beginning to realize that the companies themselves that are doing this kind of data collection are also not necessarily acting in their best interest.
Yeah, for sure. There's just there's also this weird thing that's happening with these companies that are gathering the data, whether it's Facebook or Google, or I don't think they ever set out to be what they are. They started out like Facebook, for example. We were talking about it before. It was really just sort of like a social networking thing. And this was in the early days. It was a business. I don't think anybody ever thought it was going to be something that influences world elections in a staggering way, like especially in other parts of the world, where Facebook becomes the sort of de facto messaging app on your phone when you get it.
Yep.
I mean, it has had massive impact on politics, on shaping culture, on even genocide has been connected to Facebook in certain countries. it's weird that this thing that is in, I don't know how many different how many different languages does Facebook operate under?
everything,
All of them.
yeah.
I mean, that this was just a social app. It was from Harvard, right? They were just connecting students together. Wasn't that initially what the first iteration of it was?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think you can say like no one anticipated that these things would be this significant. But I also think that there's, I think ultimately, like what we end up seeing again and again is that like bad business models produce bad technology. That like the point, what we were talking about before, like the point, Mark Zuckerberg did not create Facebook because of his deep love of like social interactions. Like he did not have some like deep sense of like wanting to connect people and connect the world. That's not his passion. Jeff Bezos did not start Amazon because of his deep love of books. These companies are oriented around profit. They're trying to make money, and they, they're subject to external demands as a result. They have to like grow infinitely, which is insane, but that's the expectation. And so what we end up seeing is that the technology is not necessarily in our best interest because that's not what it was designed for to begin with.
That is insane. That companies are expected to grow infinitely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally. What is your expectation? To take over everything, to have all the money,
And then
one day,
and then more.
If we extrapolate, we anticipate we will have all the money. There will be no other money. If you keep going, that's what has to happen. How can you just grow infinitely? That's bizarre.
Yeah, and that's why I mean, I think the Silicon Valley obsession with China is a big part of that, where people they're just like, well, that's a lot of people.
Yes, that's a lot of people there.
Just keep growing.
Yeah, there was a fantastic thing that I was reading this morning. God, I wish I could remember what the source of it was, but it was they were essentially talking about how strange it is that there are so many people that are so anti-human trafficking, they're so pro-human rights, they're so anti-slavery, they're so all the powerful values that we ascribe, that we think of when we think of Western civilization. We think of all these beautiful values, but then almost all of them rely on some form of slavery to get their electronics.
Oh yeah,
And it was
just 8 grams of cobalt in your pocket over there.
Yeah.
Mined by actual child slaves.
Someone had to stick us, like literally, they're getting it out of the ground, digging into the dirt to get it out of the ground. We were talking about it on the podcast, they were like, is there a way that this could, is there a future that you could foresee where you could buy a phone that is guilt-free? Like, if I buy a pair of shoes, like I bought a pair of boots from my friend Jocko's company. He's got a company called Origin. They make handmade boots. And like it's made in a factory in Maine. You can see a tour of the factory. These guys are stitching these things together, and it's a real quality boot. And I'm like, I like that I could buy this. I know where it came from. I know that I could see a video of the guys making it. Like this is a thing that I can feel like I am giving them money. They're giving me a product. Like there's a nice exchange. It feels good. I don't feel like that with a phone. With a phone, I have this like bizarre disconnect. I try to pretend that I'm not buying something that's made in a factory where there's a fucking net around it because so many people jump to their deaths that instead of trying to make things better, say we're gonna put nets up, catch these fuckers, put them back to work.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we would all get together and say, hey, enough of this shit. Will you make us a goddamn phone that doesn't make me feel like I'm supporting slavery?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're asking maybe I think,
too much.
I think you're asking. I think that's the same as asking, like, will civilization ever decide that that we collectively want to have like a sane and sustainable way of living?
Yeah. Sane and sustainable.
And I hope the answer is yes.
I think a lot of us do. You do, right?
I do.
You don't want to buy a slave phone, right?
Yeah, I mean, but okay, so, I feel like it's difficult to have this conversation without having a conversation about capitalism, right? Because like, ultimately, what we're talking about is like externalities that the prices of things don't incorporate their true cost. That like we're destroying the planet for plastic trinkets and reality television. Like.
Well, we can have a full conversation if you like. Let's start with phones though. Let's start with because when most people know the actual from the origin of the materials, like how they're getting out of the ground, how they're getting into your phone, how they're getting constructed, how they're getting manufactured and assembled by these poor people. When most people hear about it, they don't like it. It makes them very uncomfortable. But they just sort of go, la la la. They just plug their ears and keep going and buy the latest iPhone 12 because it's cool, it's new.
What would they do instead?
Well, if there was an option. So, like, if you have a car that you know is being made by slaves, or a car that's being made in Detroit by union workers, wouldn't you choose the car, as long as they're both of equal quality? I think a lot of people would feel good about their choice if they could buy something that, well, no, these people they're given a very good wage, they have health insurance, and they're taken care of, they have a pension plan. There's always good things that we would like to have ourselves, these workers get. So you should probably buy that car. Why isn't there an option like that for a phone? We looked at this thing called a Fair phone.
Yeah.
We're going over it. Can't even fucking buy it in America. Like, no, America's no options for Fair. They only have them in, like, Holland and a couple other European countries.
Yeah. I mean, I think, maybe it's good to start with the question of phones. I think if you really examined, like, most of the things in everyday life, there is an apocalyptic aspect to it.
Yes.
I mean, even agriculture, it's just
yes.
like, the sugar you put in your coffee, it's like, I've been to the sugar beet harvest, it's apocalyptic, it's like, So I think there's just like an aspect of civilization that you don't usually see or think about.
And it's a non-conscious, I mean, not non-conscious, but I mean conscious capitalism would be the idea that you are willing, you want to make a profit, but you only want to make a profit if everything works. Like the idea of me buying my shoes from Origin, like knowing, okay, these are the guys that make it, this is how they make it, I got this is good, makes me feel good, I like this. If there was that with everything, like if you buy a home from a guy who you know built the home, like this is the man, this is the chief construction guy, these are the carpenters, this is the architect. Oh, okay, I get it. This all makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the image that a lot of companies try to project. You know what I mean? Like, even Apple will say, it's like designed by Apple in California. Right?
Sure, designed.
And I think that's the same as like the architect and the builders that but those materials are coming from somewhere.
That's true. The wood is coming from somewhere. Yeah.
And it's not just wood. It's like petrochemicals. Like that whole supply chain is apocalyptic, and you're never going to meet all of those people. And so I think I think it's difficult to be in that market. Like if you want to be in the market of conscious capitalism or whatever, because it's a market for lemons. Because it's so easy to just put a green logo on whatever it is that you're creating, and no one will ever see the back of the supply chain.
That's a sad statement about humans. That this is how. I mean, this is how we always do things. If you let us, if you leave us alone, if there's a way. Privacy is so important when it comes to communication with individuals, and this is why you created Signal. But when you can sort of hide all the various elements that are involved in all these different processes, all these different things that we buy and use, and then, as you said, they're apocalyptic, which is a great way of describing it. If you're at the ground watching these kids pull coltan out of the ground in Africa, I mean, you would probably feel really sick about your cell phone.
Yeah, and but I think it's a little more complicated to say that just like humans are terrible.
No, I don't think humans are terrible. I think humans are great. But I think if you put humans together and you give them this diffusion of responsibility that comes from a corporation, and then you give them a mandate, you have to make as much money as possible every single year, and then you have shareholders, and you have all these different factors that will allow them to say, well, I just work for the company. I'm not. It's not my call. I just you got the guy carving up a steak saying, listen, I'm so sorry that if we have to use slaves, but look, Apple's worth $5 trillion. We've done a great job for our shareholders.
Yeah.
At the end of the line, follow all the way down to the beginning, and you literally have slaves.
Yeah, I fundamentally agree, and I think that's that's. Anytime you end up in a situation where, most people do not have the agency that they would need in order to direct their life the way that they would want, direct their life so that we're living in a sane and sustainable way, that I think is a problem. And I think that's the situation we're in now. And honestly, I feel like, the stuff that we were talking about before of, people, sort of being mean online, is a reflection of that. That's the power that that's the only power that people have. It's like, the only thing that the only thing you can do is call someone a name, you're gonna call them a name.
Right.
And I think that it's like, it's unfortunate, but I think it is also unfortunate that most people have so little agency and control over the way that the world works. That's all they have to do.
And I guess you would say also that the people that do have power, that are running these corporations, don't take into account what it would be like to be the person at the bottom of the line. To be the person that is, there's no discussion, there's no board meetings. Like, hey guys, what are we doing about slavery?
Well, no, I'm sure that they do talk about that, honestly.
But they've done nothing.
They've probably done something, or they've probably done what they think is something. But I think it's even the CEO of a company is someone who's just doing their job at the end of the day. That they don't have ultimate control and agency over how it is that a company performs, because they are accountable to their shareholders, are accountable to the board.
Right.
That it's like, I think there is a tendency for people to look at what's happening, particularly with technology today, and think that it's the fault of the people, like the leaders of these companies, And
Jess,
like
a bit early for you?
I think it goes both ways. Slavoj Žižek always talks about when you look at the old political speeches.
No.
If you look at the fascist leaders, they would give a speech, and when there was a moment of applause, they would just sort of stand there and accept the applause, because in their ideology, they were responsible for the thing that people were applauding. And if you watch the old communist leaders, like when Stalin would give a speech and he would say something, there would be a moment of applause, he would also applaud. Because in their ideology of historical materialism, they were just agents of history. They were just the tools of the inevitable. It wasn't them. They had just sort of been chosen as the agents of this thing that was an inevitable process, and so they were applauding history. And sometimes when I see like the CEOs of tech companies give speeches and people applaud, I kind of feel like they should also be
as long as we're
that it's not them. That technology has its own agency, its own force, that they're the tools of it in a way.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, they are the tools of it. And at this point, if we look at where we are in 2020, it seems inevitable. It seems like there's just this unstoppable amount of momentum behind innovation and behind just the process of creating newer, better technology and constantly putting it out, and then dealing with the demand for that newer, better technology, and then competing with all the other people that are also putting out newer, better technology. And then
Yeah.
Look what we're doing.
Yeah.
We are helping the demise of human beings. Because I feel, and I've said this multiple times, and I'm going to say it again, I think that we are the electronic caterpillar that will give way to the butterfly. We don't know what we're doing. We are putting together something that's going to take over. We're putting together some ultimate being, some symbiotic connection between humans and technology, or literally an artificial version of life. Not even artificial, a version of life constructed with silicone and wires and things that we're making. If we keep going the way we're going, we're going to come up with a technology that is going to be ex machina. It's going to pass the Turing test, and it's going to literally be something that's better than what we are, a better version of a human being.
I think we're a ways away.
Yeah, we're a ways away, but how many ways? 50 years?
The moment that I can put my hand under the like automatic sink thing and have the soap come out without like waving around, like then I'll be worried, But
Well,
like,
that's simplistic, sir. How dare you? Well, here's a good example. The Turing test is if someone sat down with like an Ex Machina. Remember that it was one of my all-time favorite movies, where the coder is brought in to talk to the woman. He falls in love with the robot lady, and she passes the Turing test because he's in love with her. I mean, he really can't differentiate. In his mind, that is a woman. That's not a robot.
Nothing there.
Who, was it Alan Turing? What was the gentleman's name?
Alan Turing.
Alan Turing, that came up with the Turing test. He was a gay man in England in the 1950s when it was illegal to be gay, and they
Killed himself.
chemically castrated him because of that, and he wound up killing himself. That's only 70 years ago.
Oh yeah.
That's fucking insane. I mean, just think that this man back then was thinking there's going to be a time where we will have some kind of a creation where we imitate life, the current life that we're aware of, where we're going to make a version of it that's going to be indistinguishable from the versions that are biological. And that very guy, by whatever twisted ideas of what human beings should or shouldn't do, whatever expectations of culture at the time, is forced to be chemically castrated and winds up committing suicide. Just by the hand of humans. Fucking strange, man. Like, really strange.
I mean, worse than strange.
Oh, yes. Horrible.
Perfect, yeah.
But I mean, so bizarre that this is the guy that comes up with a test of like, how do we know when something is, when it passes, when you have an artificial person that passes for a person, and then what kind of rights do we give this person? What is this? Like, what is it? Like, if it has emotions, what if it cries? Are you allowed to kick it? Like, what do you do? Like, but I made it. I turned it on. I could fucking torture it. But you can't. It's screaming. It's in agony. Don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think about this stuff that often, but it is, it's an empirical test, right? So it's like, it's a way to avoid having to define what consciousness is, right? Which is kind of strange. We're conscious beings, and we don't actually really even know what that means.
Right.
And so instead we have this empirical test where it's just sort of like, well, if you can't tell the difference,
Jesus Christ.
Without being able to see it, then we'll just do that.
I think that is really a lot closer than we think. I think that's 50 years. I think that if everything goes well, I think I'm going to be a 103-year-old man on my dying bed being taken care of by robots. And I'm going to feel real fucked up about that. I'm going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I'm going to leave, and then all the people that I knew that are alive, they're the last of the people. This is it. The robots are going to take over. They're not even going to be robots. They're going to come up with some cool name for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of most of what I see in like the artificial intelligence world right now is not really intelligence. It's just matching. It's like you show a model an image of 10 million cats, and then you can show it an image, and it will be like, I predict that this is a cat. And then you can show it an image of a truck, and it'll be like, I predict that this is not a cat. And I think there's one way of looking at it that's like, well, you just do that with enough things enough times, and that's what intelligence is. But I kind of hope not. And the way that it's being approached right now, I think, is also dangerous in a lot of ways, because what we're doing is just feeding information about the world into these models, and that just encodes the existing biases and problems with the world into the things that we're creating. That I think has negative results. But it's true. Like, this ecosystem is moving and it's advancing, whatever. And I think the thing that I think is unfortunate is that, like, right now, that ecosystem, this sort of like really capital-driven investment startup sort of ecosystem, has a monopoly on like groups of young people trying to do something ambitious together in the world. And in the same way that I think it's unfortunate that like grad school has a monopoly on groups of people learning things together, and so part of what we're trying to do different with Signal is it's a nonprofit. Because we want to be for something other than profit, and so we're trying to like explore a different way of like groups of people, doing something mildly ambitious.
Has anyone come along and go, I know it's a nonprofit, would you like to sell?
Well, you can't do that. It's like encoded in the structure. There's nothing to sell.
Right. It's kind of amazing, though, that you guys have figured out a way to create, like, basically a better version of iMessage that you could use on Android. Because one of the big complaints about Android is the lack of any encrypted messaging services.
Or just good messaging.
Yeah, they've just recently come out with their own version of iMessage, but it kind of sucks. You can't do group chats. There's a lot of things you can't do with it, and it's encrypted. But is the new, and I don't think it's rolled out everywhere, too, right? It's not everywhere.
I don't think it's rolled out at all, actually.
Oh, you could get a beta? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know what the... You're right. So it's like, Android... So Google, for Android, makes an app called Messages, which is just the standard SMS texting app. And they put that on the phones that they make, like the Pixel and stuff like that, And then there's the rest of the ecosystem. There's like, Samsung devices, Huawei devices, and all this stuff. And it's sort of... It depends, what's on those things. And So they've been trying to move from this very old standard called SMS that you mentioned before to this newer thing called RCS, which actually I don't know what that stands for. I think in my mind I was thinking of it as standing for too little, too late. But they're trying to move to that, so they're doing that on the device, the part of the ecosystem that they control, which is the devices that they make. And they're trying to get other people on board as well. And they originally RCS didn't have any facility for end-to-end encryption, and they're actually using our stuff, the Signal protocol, in the new version of RCS that they're shipping. So I think they've announced that, but I don't know if it's on or not.
I have 2 bones to pick with you guys.
Yeah.
2 things that I don't necessarily like.
Right.
One, when I downloaded Signal and I joined, basically everyone that I'm friends with who was also on Signal got a message that I'm on Signal. So you ratted me out. You ratted me out to all these people that are in my contact list.
Why do you want it to be difficult for people to communicate with you privately?
Well, me personally, because there's a lot of people that have my phone number that I wish didn't have my phone number. And now all of a sudden they got a message from me that I'm on Signal.
Yep.
And then they send me a message. Hey, I'd like this from you. I want you to do that for me. How about call me about this? I got a project. So I just wish you didn't like rat me out. I wish there was like a way that you could say, do you want everyone to know that you just joined Signal? Yes or no? I'd say no. Another one, those little dots, the ellipsis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you shut that off? Because I don't want anybody to know that I'm responding to a text.
You can turn it off.
Can you turn it off? Oh, okay. So it's in the settings?
Yeah, privacy settings.
Okay.
You can turn typing indicators, you can turn off.
Oh,
Read
okay.
receipts, you can turn off.
That's a big problem with iMessage. People get mad at you. Like if you see
yeah,
the
they
dots
said that,
and then there's
yeah.
no message.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you were going to respond and then you didn't. Like, why don't you just relax? Just go about your life and pretend that I didn't text you back yet. Because I will. But it's not like the dots. Like people are like, oh, it's coming. Here comes the message. And then there's no message.
Yeah, you can turn that off. You can also turn off read receipts so people don't even know if you've read their message.
Yes, that's good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. My friend Sagar has it set up so that if you he texts you, you have 30 minutes, bitch, and then they all disappear. All the messages disappear. He's got
the disappearance, yeah.
That's kind of sweet.
Yeah.
I like that.
With the like the discovery question of like, you don't want people to know that you're on Signal. It's kind of, so we're working on it, but it's a more difficult problem than you might imagine because you want some people to know that you're on Signal. It's like you want some
I'll text them.
So you want nobody to know.
Well, me personally, I have a unique set of problems that comes with anything that I do, like with messaging and stuff. It's like I know too many people. I've changed my number once a year. It's just I have multiple phone numbers.
Yeah.
I got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But this is a unique problem with me that it's like all of a sudden I'm like, how the fuck does he know? And then I had to ask someone. They go, oh no, when you sign up, it sends everybody on your contact list that's on Signal a message that says you're on Signal. I'm like, oh.
Well, we don't send that actually. Just as I know you don't care, but we don't actually know who your contacts are. You know, so
Right.
it's like we
Signal
know
does though. The app does.
The app on your phone does, and it doesn't even send a message to those people. It's just that those people know
that you're on Signal.
Those people know your phone number, and that app now knows that phone number is on Signal.
Did you do that just to get more people to use Signal? Was it an idea of the reason why, like why when you sign up for Signal, does it send all the other people in your contact list on Signal a message?
A lot of people like it. So a lot of people like knowing who that they can communicate with, and so we're trying to make so. And the other thing is like we try to square the actual technology with the way that it appears to work to people, right? So like right now with most technology, it seems like you send a message and the person who can see it is the person who you sent the message to, the intended recipient. And that's not how it actually works. And so like a lot of what we're trying to do is actually just square the way the technology actually works with what it is that people perceive. And so like fundamentally right now, Signal is based on phone numbers. You register with your phone number. Like, some people are going to know that they can contact you on Signal. It's very difficult to make it so that they can't. That like, if we didn't do that, they could hit the compose button and see just that they could send you a message. They would just see you in the list of contacts that they could send messages to. And then if we like didn't display that, like they could just try and send you a message and see whether like a message goes through. It's always possible to like detect whether it is that you're on Signal. The way that things are currently designed.
It's interesting also how it works so much differently with Android than it does with iMessage. Like with Android, it'll also send an SMS. I noticed that I can use Signal as my main messaging app on Android, and it'll send SMS or it'll send a Signal message. It doesn't do that with iPhones.
Yeah, Apple doesn't.
Yeah, I found that to be interesting because I tried to send people messages. I thought it would just send it as an SMS. It didn't.
We would have been good with Apple.
Just sent it into the
doesn't
ether.
allow it.
It doesn't allow it. Interesting. Because Apple's scared of you. Say it. Say it. They're fucking scared.
No, I mean
they should be.
Apple is.
It's a better version of what they've got. How about that?
I agree, but yeah, I mean they have a much more complicated answer, but maybe you could still.
You guys need to just develop your own version of AirDrop, and then no one will need Apple ever again. That's what's holding people back. Like a universal AirDrop. AirDrop keeps a lot of fucking people on Apple. They make a video, a long video, it's a couple minutes long, and you can just AirDrop it. Whereas if you text it to me, especially if I have an Android phone, it becomes this disgusting version that looks terrible.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, photographs are not too bad. I think that it does a downsample photographs as well, but not too bad. It's like you could look at it, it looks like a photograph. But video is just god awful. It's embarrassing when someone sends you a video and you have it on an Android phone. What the fuck did you send me? This is terrible. What did you take this with? A flip phone from the 90s? That's so bad.
But I mean, a lot of that is like, I think the reason why it is that way, it's like these are protocol, it's like when you're just using a normal SMS. That was like this agreement that phone carriers made with each other. Never before that.
Really?
96? Yeah, exactly. And then they've been unable to change the way it works because.
Right. And is Apple holding back some sort of a universal standard. Because if they did have a universal standard, then everyone would have this option to use. You could use a Samsung phone or a Google phone. You could use anything, and everybody would be able to message you clearly without a problem. Like one of the things that holds people back is if you switch from an iPhone to an Android phone, you lose all those iMessages.
Sure. Yeah, they're probably doing that intentionally because they
fucking weasels.
They want people to do exactly.
Don't they have enough money? Like Jesus Christ.
There's never enough.
That's the
never
problem.
enough.
That is the problem, right?
Yeah. And I think the thing that everyone's worried about right now with Apple is like Apple. What I said before, like bad business models produce bad technology. Thus far, Apple's business model is much better than Google or Facebook or Amazon. Like their business is predicated on selling phones, selling hardware. And that means that they can think a little bit more thoughtfully about the way that their software works than other people. And I think what people are concerned about is that that business model is going to change. They're approaching an asymptote of how many phones they can sell, and so now they're looking at like software. They're like, what if we had our own search engine? What if we had our own thing? What if we had, And the moment that starts to happen, then they're sort of moving in the direction of the rest of big tech. Which,
where are you, buddy?
Who knows how to do it, but that's what I think people are concerned about.
They've done a better job at protecting your privacy, though, in terms of like particularly like Apple Maps. Like their Map app is far superior in terms of sharing your information than say like the Google Maps. But the argument you could make is that Google Maps is a superior product because they share that information. Like Google Maps is also Waze now, right? Like they bought Waze, which is fantastic. Lets you know where the cops are. There's an accident up ahead, all kinds of shit, right? But Apple Maps was not that good. I use it because I like the ethic behind it. I like their idea behind it. They delete all the information after you make, if you go to a destination, it's not saving it, sending it to a server and making sure it knows like, what was there and what wasn't there and how well you traveled and sharing information. They're not doing that. They're not sharing your information, right?
We don't know. It's like I'm sure that they have a policy. I haven't read the policy, and maybe the policy says that. But
supposedly,
so and you're also you're still in the world of like trying to make computers secure, right? It's like there's probably data. The data is probably accumulating somewhere, and maybe people can compromise those places. We don't know. But and for sure, the intent behind the software that they have constructed, I think, has been much better than a lot of the other players in big tech. I think the concern is just that as that software becomes a larger part of their bottom line, that might change.
I wonder if they can figure out a way to have an I don't give a fuck phone or I care phone. Like, you want to have an I don't give a fuck phone? This phone is like, who knows who's making it? But look, it's really good. It's got a 100 megapixel camera and all this jazz, and 5,000 milliamp battery. And then you've got an I care phone. An I care phone, it's like an iPhone 10.
But what's different about the iCare phone?
The iCare phone, you get like a clear line of distinction. You get a real clear path. This is where we got our materials. These are the people that are making it. This is how much they're getting paid. Everyone is unionized. They're all getting health care. They all have 401k plans. It costs a little bit more. And it's not as good.
If you truly encapsulated all the social costs with producing that phone, I think it costs more than a little bit more.
How much more do you think it would cost?
I think some astronomical number. That it's like it's not like I'm sure Apple would prefer not to have child slaves mining cobalt for the batteries that are in their phone.
Is that a thing you can say when a company's worth as much as most countries? Like, they have so much cash.
Yeah.
Can you really say that they would rather not use slaves?
No,
Can you imagine?
I'm sure that
like,
at the
I
board
don't want to
meeting,
go broke. I only have 14 trillion. What am I going to do? I need slaves. I need someone to dig the coltan
so
out of the Congo. What would I do if I was them? Well, first of all, I could never be them. It would never work. But if I was, I would say, hey, why don't we open up a factory in America? And why don't why don't we get all of our cobalt from recycled phones? Is that possible? Because that's a good question. I think that's what the Fairphone is trying to do, right? Aren't they using all recycled materials?
Yeah, I don't. Any image I've seen of electronic recycling is equally apocalyptic. There's just piles of shit like in some next to lake in China where people.
You're bumming me out, man. How about we do?
But I think if you were the CEO of Apple and you were like, this is a priority, we're going to spend however many trillions of dollars it takes to do this.
Your shareholders go, hey, fuckface.
You're fired. Yeah.
Out.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be the grand poobah of Apple. You have to be the ultimate ruler.
But it's not like even then if you were just like, I'm willing to take the hit. I'm going to do. No one can oust me. Whatever. I'm the grand poobah.
Yeah.
Then it's like your share price plummets, which means that your employee retention plummets because those people are also working for the equity.
Right.
So it's
Stock
like
options.
so then they get poached away by these other companies. It's
dirty companies come and steal your clean employees.
This is what Apple's website says now. It says they're committed to one day sourcing 100%.
Look at this. Completely recycled. Every bit as advanced. We're committed to 1 day sourcing. 1 day. We're planning on the year 30,000.
I mean, it's like they're not 100%. They're not like sitting around twirling their mustaches. You know what I mean? It's just like everyone likes good things and not bad things.
Maybe they are. Let me read that again, Jamie. This says 100% recyclable and renewable materials across all of our products and packaging because making doesn't have to mean taking from the planet. Oh, come on, guys. It's like Nike. It's the same thing, too, right? They're all committed to Black Lives Matter and all these social justice causes, and they're using slave labor, too. Aren't they? In China, they're using slave labor to make Nikes.
Probably.
So go back to that thing. What are they trying to do?
They have like this. I remember seeing a robot they have that can do, like
Lighter
take
on the planet, right out of the
take
box.
the pieces out of it at a very fast rate than like probably human hands can.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I was trying to dig through it. I found that.
Well, that would be good.
That's
That's the piece-taking robot. This is Daisy. Oh, Nana. Nana got a problem.
2030
Right?
yes. Entirely clean energy, which isn't quite as it's
2030 means transitioning hundreds of our manufacturing suppliers to 100% renewable sources of electricity. Well, that's interesting. If they can actually do that, 100% resource using all the. If they can figure out a way to do that and to have recyclable materials and have all renewable electricity, whether it's wind or solar, if they could really figure out how to do that, I think that would be pretty amazing. But who's going to put it together? Are they going to still use slaves to put it together? I mean, I guess the people that are working at Foxconn are technically slaves, but would you want your child to work there? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can say that about a lot of the aspects of our economy, though. You know, who would willingly go into a coal mine?
Yes, right, yeah.
You know, there's some element of coercion to a lot of what.
Right, and that's when you get into these insidious arguments about or conversations about conspiracies, like conspiracies to keep people impoverished. Like,
Off
well, why
the
would you want to keep
record,
people
Alice.
impoverished? Well,
What the
who's
hell
gonna work in coal
happened?
mines?
You
You're not gonna get
responded to a
wealthy,
robbery
highly educated
call.
people work in coal
When you
mines.
got
need
there,
someone to
you
work in
saw
coal
them
mines.
leaving the
So what do you
store.
do? What do you do?
You took out your gun.
You don't help
You told them
anybody
to stop.
get out of these situations.
The
You
kid
always have
reached for
the
something.
ability to draw
Was
from
it a
these
weapon?
impoverished
No.
communities.
And then
Poor
what?
people live in
Well,
Appalachia
you
or
know
wherever
what
the
happened.
coal miners are coming from. There's not a whole lot of ways out. Like, I have a friend who came from Kentucky, and he's like, the way he described it, to me,
Adam
man,
Shin.
he's never seen poverty like that.
Peter's brother.
Like, people don't
I
want
don't
to
know what I was
concentrate on those people because it's not as glamorous as
I was
someone
the
who lives
last
in poverty,
person he'd
but
want to see. For
those
all I knew,
communities are so poor. Like,
could have crippled him for
40 million.
life.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that conspiracy is accurate, but that's the one that people always want to draw from. They always want
And yet,
I mean, I don't think you need a conspiracy.
felt it was something I had to do.
What's instructional?
Had to.
Yeah.
Couldn't.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it's rare that a company comes along and has a business plan like Signal, where they're like, we're going to be non-profit. We're going to create something that we think is of extreme value to human beings, just to civilization in general, the ability to communicate anonymously or at least privately. That this is it's a very rare thing that you guys have done. And we decided to do this and to do it in a non-profit way. Like, what was the decision that led up to that? And then was there any? How many people are involved?
Now, yeah, okay, well, now there's, 20-something people. Which, do you think that's a lot or little?
I think that's a little. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it's always interesting talking to people. Like, a lot of times I'll meet somebody, they're like, oh, yeah, you're the person who did, like, Signal or something. I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah.
How
Like,
did
okay,
we end
cool,
up
what are you
back
doing now?
here?
I'm like, oh, I'm still working on Signal. And they're like, oh, what? Is there, like, another
to
Signal
do?
that you're going to do? You're going to do, like, Signal 2? Or,
Right.
Like, I think it's hard for people to understand that that software's never finished, that there's this, which is something that I really envy about, like, the kind of creative work that someone like you does, that, like, I envy artists, musicians, writers, poets, painters, people who can create something and be done. That, like, you can record an album today, and 20 years later you can listen to that album, and
Yeah.
it'll be just good. It's like software's never finished, and if you stop, it'll just like float away like dandelion seeds.
What happens if you stop?
Because software's not. It's very hard to explain this. It's not. It doesn't exist in isolation. It's a part of the ecosystem of like all software, and that ecosystem is moving. It's moving really fast. There's a lot of money behind it, a lot of energy in it, and if you aren't moving with it, it will just stop working. And also, it's like a project like this is not just the software that runs on your phone. The service of like moving the messages around on the internet that requires a little bit of care and attention, and if you're not doing that, then it will just fade.
And if you're doing something non-profit the way you're doing it, how do you pay everybody? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, well, okay, so, the history of this was, I think before the internet really took over our lives in the way that it has, there were the kind of social spaces for people to experiment with different ideas outside of the context of their everyday lives, like art projects, punk rendezvous, experimental gatherings, the embers of art movements, that these spaces existed and were things that I found myself in and a part of, and they were like important to me in my life.
You look like a dude to go to Burn Man.
Actually, I'm not a dude that goes to
Maybe you're missing it.
Maybe I've been once. I went in
Yeah.
2000. I think, yeah. And
Early adopter.
It's funny because at the time that I went, people were like, "Oh man, it's not like it used to be." It's like, and now people are like, "Have you been?" I was like, "I went once in 2000." Like, wow, that's when it was like the real deal. I'm like, I don't think so. It's one of those things where it's like, there's like day one, and then on day two, they're like, "Ah, it's not like day one."
Right.
Like,
Of course.
it just gets
Of
worse.
course.
But yeah, I don't know. Those spaces were important to me and like an important part of my life. And as more of our life started to be taken over by technology, me and my friends felt like those spaces were missing online. And so we wanted to demonstrate that it was possible to create spaces like that. And there had been a history of people thinking about cryptography in particular, and which is kind of funny in hindsight. So in the like 80s, so the history of cryptography is actually not long, like at least outside of the military. And it really starts in the 70s, and there were some really important things that happened then. And in the 80s, there was this person who was just sort of this lone maniac who was like writing a bunch of papers about cryptography during a time when wasn't actually that relevant because there was no internet. The applications for these things were harder to imagine. And then in the late 80s, there was this guy who wrote who was a retired engineer who discovered the papers that this maniac David Chaum had been writing, and was really.
Was he doing this in isolation, or was he a part of a project or anything?
No, I think David Chaum was. I think he's an academic. I'm embarrassed that I don't know, but he did a lot of the notable work on using the primitives that had already been developed, and he had a lot of interesting ideas. And there's this guy who was a retired engineer. His name was Tim May, who was kind of a weird character, and he found these papers by David Chaum, was really enchanted by what they could represent for a future, and he wanted to write like a sci-fi novel that was sort of predicated on a world where cryptography existed and there was a future where the internet was developed. And so he wrote some notes about this novel, and he titled the notes The Crypto Anarchy Manifesto. And he published the notes online, and people got really into the notes. And then he started a mailing list in the early 90s called the Cypherpunks mailing list. And all these people started, joined the mailing list, and they started communicating about, what the future was going to be like, and how, they needed to develop cryptography to live their, crypto anarchy future. At the time, it's strange to think about now, but cryptography was somewhat illegal. It was regulated as a munition.
Really?
Yeah. So if you wrote a little bit of crypto code and you sent it to your friend in Canada, that was the same as like shipping Stinger missiles across the border of Canada.
Wow. So did people actually go to jail for cryptography?
There were like some high-profile legal cases. I don't know of any situations where people were like tracked down as like munitions dealers or whatever, but it really hampered what people were capable of doing. So people got really creative. There's some people who wrote some crypto software called Pretty Good Privacy, PGP, and they printed it in a book, like a MIT Press book, in a machine-readable font. And then they're like, this is speech. This is a book. It's like I have my First Amendment right to like print this book and to distribute it. And then they like shipped the books to like Canada and other countries and stuff, and then people in those places scanned it back in to computers, and they were able to make the case that they were legally allowed to do this because of the First Amendment rights. Other people moved to Anguilla and started like writing code in Anguilla and like shipping it around the world. There were a lot of people who were fervently interested.
Why Anguilla?
Because it's close to the United States, and there were no laws there about producing cryptography. So.
The wait is over. One of the sport's most notorious icons is stepping in the octagon this Saturday. DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the UFC, is offering new players a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with first deposit. Fantasy MMA is easy to play. Just pick 6 fighters, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for advances, takedowns, and more. There's no better way to put your MMA knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at millions of dollars.
This episode is brought to you by Rhythmia Resorts, located in the beautiful Guanacaste province. Another healing of the week.
I think it's something that people.
They have like 3 cases of COVID there ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a really interesting place.
Yeah, I used to work down there.
Really? International Traffic and Arms Regulation. It's a United States regulatory regime to restrict and control the export of defense and military-related technologies to safeguard U.S. national security and further U.S. foreign policy objectives.
ITAR.
Yeah, they were closed. Anguilla was closed until like November. They wouldn't let anybody in. And yeah, if you want to go there, they have like, I was reading all these crazy restrictions. You have to get COVID tested, and you have to apply, and then when you get there, they test you when you get there because they have no deaths.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I like Anguilla. It's a interesting place.
Yeah, this is what I was reading. They're inviting companies to come move here. Like, come work here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Come, we'll test the shit out of you, and you can't go anywhere, but come here. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. I used to work on boats down there.
Yeah? What did you do on boats?
I was like really, I don't know, I for a while was like really into sailing, and I had a commercial license. I was moving boats around and stuff.
My parents lived in a sailboat for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, they just decided to just check out, and this was like, I want to say like early 2000s, somewhere around then. They just lived on a sailboat for a few years, and my mom got tired of it.
Did they go around the world?
They were in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
They were all around like that part of the world, and they were in California for a little while on their boat. Yeah, they just decided like, let's just live on a boat for a while.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I discovered sailing by accident, where I was like working on a project with a friend in the early 2000s, and we were looking on Craigslist for something unrelated, and we saw a boat that was for sale for $4,000, and I thought a boat was like $1 million.
Right.
I was just like, what? The sailboats are $4,000? And this is just some listing. There's probably even cheaper boats, And so we got really into it, and we discovered that you can go to any marina in North America and get a boat for free. That like every marina has a lien sale dock on it where people have stopped paying their slip fees, and the boats are just derelict and abandoned, and they put it on these docks.
Really?
Yeah.
You get a boat for free?
Yeah. They have an auction. There's usually like a minimum bid of
$50
or whatever, and most times it doesn't get bid on, and they chop the boat up and throw it away.
Really?
And if you show
up, a functional boat.
Well, functional.
That's the problem, right?
You
gotta maintain the shit out of boats.
Yeah, so you put some work into it, that you can get it going, and so we started doing that. We were like, getting boats, fixing them up, sailing as far as we could.
Impossible.
And then eventually I got a commercial license and started sailing other people's boats.
Wow, all this on a whim of how much does a boat cost? You can get a boat for $4,000. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're working on boats.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole world, It's just like, finding that link on Craigslist was like, opening a door to another reality, right? Where it's like, because it's pretty amazing. Me and some friends used to sail around the Caribbean, and the feeling of like, you pull up an anchor and you sail like 500 miles to some other country or whatever, and you get there and you drop the anchor and you're just like, it was just the wind. The wind that took, like there was no engine, there was no fuel, just the wind. You catch fish, and it's just like.
If you want to go real old school, you got to use one of them. What are those fucking sextants?
Of course, that's
do you
what
use
we
one of
did.
those?
Yeah,
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Did you really?
I was like really into like no electronics, like it's just complicated. They're expensive or whatever. So we had a taffrail log. Seen one of those things?
No, what's that?
It's like a little propeller on a string that you connect to a gauge, and as it turns, the gauge keeps track of how far you've traveled.
What?
Yeah. So it's like.
A propeller on a string?
So it's just a thing that turns a string at a constant rate, depending on how fast you're moving. So so it can gauge how much distance you've traveled.
So is the string marked?
No. Like it's just a constant length. It's always spinning and it's always turning the gauge.
And then it reads a number. So it says
it's just like
how
a
many
dial
miles?
number of how many nautical miles you traveled. And so then you're just like, okay, well we started here, and then we headed on this heading, and we did that and we traveled 10 miles, so we must be here. And then once a day you can take a sight with your sextant, and then you can do some dead reckoning with a compass. And
wow, dude, you went old school.
Yeah, I once had a job actually.
Who did you do this with?
Just friends. Yeah.
And you gotta have some fucking committed friends, because like the friends had to be, you gotta be all on the same page. Because they'd be like, hey man, let's get a fucking GPS. You guys are assholes. I don't want to die. I'm not gonna get eaten by a shark. How much food do we have? People die out here, man. This is the ocean.
We didn't really have any money, so it was like, it wasn't like much of a decision. I mean, it's like, to put things in perspective, like, we took a trip to through the Caribbean once from Florida. The way that we got to Florida was like riding freight trains to the the top trains. It's like this was like low budget traveling.
You guys were hobos.
No, but
that's a hobo move.
It was low bagger for sure. But like, yeah, I was also like just weirdly ideological about it. Where like, I had a job once in the Caribbean that was like, I was almost like a camp counselor basically. There was this camp that was like a sailing camp, but it was like 13 teenagers, mostly from North America, showed up in St. Martin and then got on a boat with me and another woman my age, and we were like the adults. And it was just like we sailed from St. Martin to Trinidad over the course of 6 weeks with these like 13 kids on a 50-foot sailboat.
Who left their kids with you?
That's what I want to know. Yeah, it was like.
Is this you?
Oh yeah, so we made me and my friends made a video called Hold Fast that was trying to demystify sailing.
Bro, you've been rocking this wacky hair for a long time.
Dude, I know. Pandemic.
Wow.
Well,
you had tornadoes out there?
Yeah.
And you caught fish?
Yeah.
So you lived off the fish that you caught, basically?
Yeah, fish, conch, seaweed.
Wow, seaweed. Yeah. So when you prepare seaweed, what do? You boil it? You gotta sharpen your fucking knife, son.
I know.
That's ridiculous. What are you using, a pencil to try to kill that poor fish?
This whole video is embarrassing, but so thank you.
Because you kind of didn't know what you were doing. And here's you with what are you doing here? You're mapping out where you're at?
Dead reckoning, yeah.
Dead reckoning.
Yeah. That position was 50 miles off.
50 miles off? So where you thought you were versus where you actually were was 50 miles difference?
Yeah.
And you're going how many miles an hour?
Very slow. If you're doing really well, you're making 5 nautical miles an hour.
5 miles an hour. Yeah. Jesus Christ. So you're walking. You're basically walking on the ocean.
Yeah.
Not walking.
Slow going, but you never stop. That's the thing. You can sail all night. You can just keep going.
You're a light jog. You're jogging on the ocean.
Yeah, anyway, I was a tyrant with these kids. Where like we had like a nice boat, and I just disabled all of the electronics. And I like disabled the electric anchor windlass.
How long was this boat? How long was this boat?
This was 50 feet. Yeah.
50 feet with 14 kids, you said?
I think 13. 50 is a big boat. That's actually big.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like a lot of room for all these kids.
Yeah, people are like sleeping on the deck.
Oh my God, that's insane. Did you feel weird that you're responsible for their food? You're responsible for making sure they don't fight with each other?
You got nothing?
Yeah, I mean, I actually enjoyed it. I think it was fun.
Yeah? Well, it seemed like it. Like, it's a, you have to make it work. There's no other solution. You're on this boat with these kids.
That's true.
Do you still keep in touch with those kids?
No, that was sort of like pre-social media.
Right.
So, not really.
They're going to reach out to you now. You go, man, I remember that. That was fucking crazy. Can't believe my parents left me with you.
I can't believe they did either. Man.
So did you have to sign any paperwork or anything? Like, how did you take care of these kids?
I'm sure I had to sign something. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Yeah.
Wow. Was there any time where you were like halfway into this trip, you're like, what have I signed up for?
Oh, sure, all the time, yeah. But I never really been in a situation like that either. And
who has?
I don't know. It's like I don't even have siblings, like it's like.
Oh really?
Yeah, so, but I was pretty, it was interesting. I feel like I learned a lot, and it was, but I was pretty like tyrannical in ways, and but in a way that I was trying to like encourage. It was fun to see, particularly teenagers who had like a really sort of North American affect about how to be, just like let all of that go over a few weeks, on the ocean, where it's just like it's just us. We're here. There's nobody else watching. We're sleeping next to each other. It's like the kids just getting comfortable with themselves. And I would try and like. So I was like, I am really into rock paper scissors.
How into it are you?
I'm undefeated.
How is that possible?
So whenever they wanted anything, I would be like, all right, rock paper scissors. They'd be like, can we like do this thing? I'd be like, all right, we'll do rock paper scissors. If you win, you can do this thing. If I win, and then I would like pick the thing that was like their sort of deepest fear. Where it's like the really shy person had to like write a haiku about every day and then read it aloud at dinner. Like the person who was like really into like having like a manicure, like wasn't allowed to shave her legs for the rest of the like that kind of thing.
Wow.
And so then by the end of it, it was just like everyone had lost. Everyone was like reading the haiku at dinner and
How are you so good at rock paper scissors?
Just skill, muscle, intuition.
Intuition. Can we play right now?
You want to play?
Yes.
Oh, but I only play for stakes.
Okay. What do you want to play for?
Okay. How about If I win, I do the programming on your show for a week.
No. That's worth a lot of money. You can fuck off.
What kind of money? What do you think?
That's
I'm not saying like the ads or whatever. I'm saying,
like programming, like who's going to be
Yeah,
on.
who's gonna be on.
That's not possible. We're booked up months and months in advance.
You were so
and
confident
no,
until just now.
no,
You
no,
took a
no.
month,
That's
few months off, whatever.
that's ridiculous to flip a coin on that. There's no chance.
I mean, what would be?
Because then you make me have conversations. Listen, the whole reason why the show works is because I talk to people that I want to talk to. That's why it works.
Yeah.
The
Well,
only
you gotta
way.
risk something to play this game.
That's not a risk. That's
It's just
that's
1 week of
no.
your
That's
life, Jeff.
abandoning the show.
It's 1 week of your life.
No, you can bring some assholes on here that I want to talk to, and I'm like, what am I doing? No, impossible.
All right. Well, do you think that there's something of equivalent value?
No.
There's
No,
nothing.
that?
Nothing that I can
No,
do.
there's nothing that you could give me that would be worth a week of programming on the show. What are you going to give me? You'd
What
have
about
to.
a day program?
You'd have to give me a spectacular amount of money.
I sent you a.
It would be,
We
like,
can't
if
make
one,
this
but
about
I
money,
would,
can
but that's the only way I would be, like, the only way, like, if you ever put a monetary equivalent to that, it would have to be a spectacular amount of money for me to let someone else program the show. I've never let anybody do that before.
Not even
That was,
for one day.
No, that was one of the big things about doing the show on Spotify. They could have no impact at all on who gets on, no suggestions, no nothing. The only way it works.
Well, what was up with that dude in the suit outside with the clipboard that was telling me from Spotify?
Oh, he's from the government. He's from the CIA. No, there's no one out there. He's joking. But the only way the show works, I think, the way it works is I have to be interested in talking to people. That's it. So it has to be. I've like all these suggestions for guests. I go, oh, that guy seems cool. Oh, that might be interesting.
What if I?
Let me read up on this
what
guy.
if it's like for a week I
No.
give you the list of suggestions?
No input.
No.
No, it's not. That's a ridiculous.
Stand
Yeah,
real. Okay. All right.
impossible.
In
How
any
about,
case.
how about $5?
No.
No.
No, it's got to be.
Come on,
stakes.
man.
It's gotta be
20
real
bucks.
stakes.
20
No,
bucks. I got
come
20
on.
bucks in my
No,
pocket.
Money is off the table. We can't do
Money's
money.
off the
Yeah,
table?
Forget that. someone else is scared to lose.
No, you're asking me for something that's ridiculous. You don't have anything. You don't have anything that's worth a week of programming on the show. You don't have it.
That's rough.
It doesn't exist.
That's rough.
No, it doesn't. It literally doesn't exist. Like there's not. Like you don't. There's nothing that you can have that you can offer me that I couldn't buy myself.
I'll make
or,
I'll
no,
make
no,
it
no.
will be interesting.
No,
I'll
no,
enjoy
no.
talking with
You
them.
can't. No.
All right, fine. Okay.
But that doesn't
We're
do
on
anything
play.
for me. That does something
No,
for
no,
you.
of
That
course,
does zero
of course.
for
You
me.
would have if you win. You would name your stake.
I don't have a stake.
Okay.
There's nothing I want from you. That what you asked from me is a
Then we can't
crazy
play the
thing.
game.
Yeah, we can't play rock paper scissors then, huh? Interesting.
Anyway, we were talking about something else before all of this. We were talking about crypto, the evolution
Sailing
of
with
cryptocurrency.
children. Sailing with children.
Well, at first we were talking about Anguilla.
Yes.
And the fact
Yeah.
that between Anguilla.
Yeah. So how did you learn how to do all this stuff? Was it trial by fire? Were you learning how to use all this? I mean, I don't want to call it ancient equipment, but mechanical equipment to figure out how to. Yeah.
Yeah. Secret is to begin.
To start.
Yeah, I mean, so
Like a sextant. Where the fuck does one learn how to operate a sextant and then navigate in the ocean?
yeah, just I would, I started, me and friends got a boat and we started fixing it up and making a lot of mistakes and then started taking some trips and then
Get lost.
Yeah, I got lost. I took a solo trip from San Francisco to Mexico and back on a little 27-foot boat with no engine. And
whoa, how
that's
long
what
did
I
that
really-
take?
A few months. Yeah.
And the way you did it, did you stay close? I can see there's the shore, so if everything fucks up, I can kind of swim.
Yeah, well, no, you can't swim. I learned that lesson.
No? Why?
It's, I mean, the closest I ever came to death in my life was just in the bay. In San Francisco Bay, I was on a boat that capsized, and I was probably 2,000 yards away from shore. And I almost drowned, and I did make it ashore. And
Take a good long whiff.
yeah, just the water's so cold.
It's important.
You didn't make it to shore.
No, yeah, it's a long story. I was like,
Good boy.
a friend of mine was living in San Francisco, and he wanted to learn how to sail. And I was like, what you should do is you should get like a little boat, like a little sailing boat, and then you can just anchor it like off the shore in this area that no one cares about, and you can just sort of experiment with this little boat. And so he started looking on Craigslist, and he found this boat was for sale for $500 up in the North Bay. And every time we called the phone number, we got an answering machine that was like, hello, you've reached Dr. Ken Thompson, honorary. I'm unable to take your call, and we were like, what is that, like honorary? Like
fake doctor.
Is he like a judge?
It's
and a doctor?
chiropractor.
Like what is it? And so finally we got in touch with this guy to go up there, and it's the kind of situation where like we pull up and there's like the trailer that the boat's supposed to go on, and it's just full of scrap metal.
Oh, boy.
And this guy comes out and he's like, oh yeah, this is the trailer. We're gonna do a metal run, but if you want the boat, we'll take the metal off. And we're like, okay. And he's like taking us around. He's like, okay, the mast is over here, and it's like under some leaves. He's like, and then the hull is in the water here, and he has like a dock behind his house, and the tide is all the way out, so the boat's just sitting in the mud. And I'm like, well, how would we get this out of here? He's like, oh, you'd have to come back at a different time, and then you take it over there. We're like, you told us to come now, like at this time, what? Anyway, so we go through all this thing, and my friend who knows nothing about boats is like, all right, Moxie, like, what do you think? Should I get this? And I was like, okay. Oh, and we were like, so what's doctor of what? He's like, oh, self-declared. Oh, okay.
He's a self-declared doctor?
Honorary.
Honorary
Yeah.
self-declared doctor. You can do that?
I guess so. Why not? He's just an answer.
Jamie?
Yes.
Doctor? Yes. I think we should become
I
doctors.
just became one.
I tried that for a while, actually.
Yeah, did you really?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never went to college, though.
Did Hunter S. Thompson ever get an honorary degree, or did he just call himself Dr. Hunter S. Thompson? Because he was calling himself Doctor.
Same trick.
Hunter S. Thompson for a
Looking
while.
up how fast
Edward
it
Bernays
was
did the same thing.
Well, Bill Cosby became a doctor for a little bit. They took it back, though. That's when you fucked up.
Yeah.
You take back your fake doctor degree.
Yeah. So this guy was like, I'm like, all right, Dr. Ken. I would have to consider. I'm not sure that I would do it, but I would consider taking this boat for free. I'd have to think about it, but I would consider that, And he's like, I might be amenable to that, So we've gone from like, $500 to free, and so we got this boat, and it was.
Sounds
we
good.
had to deal with the metal and all that stuff. We got the boat, and we were just trying to do like a little. We were just trying to anchor it.
Did you bring life vests?
Yeah, I was wearing a BFD, type 2 BFD, and we took it to this boat ramp, and it was the end of the day, and the wind was blowing kind of hard, and the conditions weren't that good. But I was like, oh, we're just doing this little thing, this little maneuver, and we were in two boats. I built this little wooden rowing boat, and my friend was going to go out in that with one anchor, and I was going to sail out.
Built it?
Yeah, out of plywood, stitching glue, but it, not the sturdiest vessel. So, and so he's going to go out in this little rowboat, and I was going to sail out this little catamaran. And we had two anchors, and we were anchoring, and we were going to get in the rowboat and row back. And it seemed a little windy. And, I got in the boat first, and I got out around this pier and was hit by the full force of the wind and realized that it was blowing like 20 knots. It was way, way too much for what we were trying to do. But I had misrigged part of the boat, so it took me a while to get it turned around. And by the time I got it turned around, my friend had rowed out around the pier, and the wind had just got blown out into the So he's rowing directly into the wind and moving back.
Oh, shit.
I'm on this little hook, and it was moving so fast. It was way too windy to get going. I got just my clothes on, and a wetsuit on, or anything like that. I had a life jacket and just my clothes, and we don't have a radio. We're unprepared.
Oh.
It's starting to get dark. We don't have a light, and I'm sailing back and forth trying to help my friend. And it got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm just gonna tack over. I'm gonna sail up to this boat that was called the Sea Louse. Sail up to the Sea Louse. I'm gonna get my friend off of it. We're just gonna abandon it, and then we're gonna sail this Hobie Cat back if we can. And so I go to turn around, and right as I'm turning around, a gust of wind hit the boat and capsized it before I could even know that it was happening. It's just like it's one moment you're on the boat, and the next moment you're in the water. And the water was like 50 degrees, like super. It was a shock, it hits you. And the boat was a little messed up in a way where I couldn't ride it. It capsized, and then it capsized all the way and sank. So it's floating like 3 feet underwater. And so I'm in the water, but I'm like still, I'm like a little bit out of the water, but like in the water. And I had a cell phone that just immediately was busted. And I look at my friend, and he's a ways away now, and he didn't see me. And I was yelling as loud as I could, but the wind is only 20 knots, and it just you can't hear each other, and it just takes your voice away. And he just, I was screaming, I was waving, he wasn't wearing his glasses, and he just very slowly rode away.
Oh my God.
And so then I was just like floating there, it was starting to get dark.
He rode away. Did he notice that your boat had capsized?
No, he didn't even see me. He thought that I just sailed somewhere else. Because in his mind, I was the person with the experience.
Do you still talk to this dude?
Yeah, all the time. I don't blame him. In his mind, he was the person that was in trouble.
Right.
And,
I understand.
And he thought I just sailed somewhere else.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Sailed out of vision.
Yeah, and then it basically got dark. I could see the shore. It wasn't far away. There's nobody on shore. There's nobody around, and the wind was going directly offshore. So you just swim into the wind, wave, and all that stuff. And eventually, I tried swimming, and I swam directly upwind. And I was like, okay, like I get separated from this boat, and I don't make it to shore, then I'm dead. Come here. So I was trying to go directly upwind, so that I felt like I could make it. I would float back down and hit the boat again. And so I tried. I swam for probably like 20 minutes upwind. No progress. It didn't feel like any progress. In 50 degrees, you have 30 to 60 minutes before you black out. My arms were just. It's like I consider myself a strong swimmer, free dive, it's like you read these stories about how people die, just like they succumb to hypothermia on a local hike or they drown in the day, and the story's always like, well, Timmy was a strong swimmer, and you're like, was Timmy really a strong swimmer because he drowned in the day, and like floating there, just all came to me, like, wow, this is how this happens, you just make a series of pretty dumb, small decisions until you find yourself like floating in the dark in the day, no one around.
Oh shit. And
it's a really slow process too, it's like, it's not like, you just come to terms with the idea that like you're not gonna make it, and it's not sudden. It's not like someone shot you and got hit by a bus. It's like this hour-long thing that you're getting dragged through all alone, and you realize that no one will ever even know what this was. How this happened. You think about all the people that crossed the slope, they lost at sea. They all had this thing that they went through, this hour-long ordeal, just floating alone, and no one will even ever know what that was. And eventually, I realized I was gonna make sure. I looked back. The boat was like way far away from me. I started drifting back towards it. I was still trying to swim. I realized at some point that I wasn't going to hit it. I wasn't going to hit the boat on the way back to the point. And I had to just give it all that I had to try to connect with the boat and to stop myself from being able to happen. And in that moment too, you realize that like uncertainty is the most unendurable condition. That like you imagine yourself making it to shore and relaxing, just knowing that it's resolved. And in that moment of like I might not make it back to this boat, you're like tempted to give up because it's the same resolution. It's the feeling of just knowing. The uncertainties have been resolved, and you have to really remind yourself that it's not the same, that like you have to give it everything you have in order to survive, that feeling that you're sort of longing for is not actually the feeling that you want. And I just barely got the end of a rope that was trailing off the back of the hull, pull myself back on, and almost threw up. Then I was just floating there with the hull, 3 feet underwater. I tied myself to it. I started to get tunnel vision, and really at the last minute, a tugboat started coming through the area. And it was coming straight at me, actually. And I realized that it probably just wouldn't even see me. It would just run me over and not even know that I had been there. It's totally possible. And I was just, trying to like wave. I could barely lift my arm. I was trying to scream. I could barely make any noise. And somehow they saw me. And it took them like 15 minutes to like get a rope around me. And they started pulling me up the side of the boat. And it was like lining every tugboat is tires. Like tires usually as like a fender, And I got like wedged in the tires as they were like, pulling me up. And I knew what was happening, and I was like, all I have to do is stick my leg out and push against the hull of the boat, to like go around there. And I couldn't do it. And I knew I could barely see, and they like swung me around and eventually pulled me out. They like put me in next to the engines in the engine room. I couldn't even feel the heat. And they called the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard came and got me. It was like really embarrassing. And the Coast Guard, like, the Coast Guard guy's like, he's like got all these blankets over me. He's like trying to like talk to me to like keep me like alert, And he's like, so is this your first time sailing? And I have like a commercial, like a 250-ton like master's license. Like it's like you need 600 days at sea to get this license. And I was like, no, I have a master's license. He was like, what? You're a fucking idiot, man. Like everything changed. The tone totally changed.
Oh my god, dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
Did that change your appreciation for comfort and safety and just life in general? Did it like?
Okay.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it changed. Well, for sure. The next day, I was like, it's just like any near-death experience. I feel like you're just like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we wasting our time with this? At the time, I was working at Twitter, and your coworkers are like, oh, we have this problem with the slave lag on the database, and you're just like, what are we doing, man? Should we be doing something else? But you can't. I feel like you can't live like that for long.
So what are we doing, man?
It's like it's impossible. The world will like suck you back into it.
Good boy.
Yeah. Unless you go to Anguilla.
I mean, a lot of those early crypto people are actually still in Anguilla.
Really?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Sailing Anguilla. So the people who moved to Anguilla, were part of this moment of like.
How much did that shift your direction in your life, though? Did it change? Like the way, like it seems almost. I mean, I haven't had a near-death experience, but I've had a lot of psychedelic experiences, and in some ways, I think they're kind of similar, in that life shifts to the point where whatever you thought of life before that experience is almost like, oh, come on, that's nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, it changes your perspective, or it did for me. And, you know, because also in that moment, you know, it's like, you know, I think you go through this sort of embarrassing set of things where you're like, oh, I had these things I was going to do tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to be able to do them. You know?
Is that a
and then you're like,
railroad
wait, why is that the thing
See
that
where
I'm
it leads.
concerned about? You know, it's like, it's sort of
Trivial things.
Yeah, trivial. You know, we're just like, oh, I was going to see that person tomorrow. You know, or it's just like, you know, you're like, I feel like I remember I was supposed to meet somebody the next day. I remember being worried that they would think that I like stood them up or something. You know what I mean? Like that I.
You have the
didn't show up.
awesomest excuse ever. I
I'm
mean, just
dead,
tell them
yeah.
that story the way you just told it to me, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, good, dude, we're good." Shit, fuck, glad you're all right.
Yeah,
My
but I mean,
God.
just that kind of stuff, you know, and then you know get more into the, yeah, it changes the way you think about things, and certainly, you know, it's like I was working at Twitter at the time, and I think it made me think about how I was spending my life, and you know, I was, you know, it's like I mean, even I remember the first day that I was at Twitter. At the time, the most popular person on Twitter was Justin Bieber. He had more followers than any other person. You know?
Was that when you guys were trying to rig it so that he wasn't trending #1 always? Because they did do that, right?
I don't remember that. I wasn't. I don't remember that.
Conveniently. Because Jamie and I were talking about that one day, because they had to do something, because if they didn't do something, Justin Bieber would be the #1 topic every day, no matter what was happening in the world.
I can believe that they wanted to change that because the problem was, at the time, Twitter was held together with, like, you know, bubblegum and, like, dental floss or whatever, you know, so it's like, every time Bieber would tweet, like, you know, the lights would dim and, like, the building would, like, kind of shake a little bit, you know.
Here it goes. So they blocked me from trending. This is 2010. I'm actually honored, not even mad. He's also 12. Then I get on and see yet again, my fans are unstoppable. Love y'all. Okay.
But okay, so there's, you know, people talk about like invisible labor, like the invisible labor behind that tweet is just kind of comical because like when he did that, you know, people like, you know, it's like my first day there, you know, it's like he tweeted something, you know, the building's like kind of shaking and like alarms are going off, people are like scrambling around, you know, and it was just this, you know, it's like this realization where you're just like, never in my life did I think that anything Justin Bieber did would like really affect me in any like deep way, you know, and then here I am just like scrambling around to like facilitate.
What are your thoughts on curating what trends and what doesn't trend, and whether or not social media should have any sort of obligation in terms of how things, whether or not people see things, like shadow banning and things along those lines? Like, I'm very torn on this stuff because I think that things should just be. And if you have a situation where Justin Bieber is the most popular thing on the internet, that's just what it is. It is what it is. But I also get it. I get how you would say, well, this is going to fuck up our whole program, like what we're trying to do with this thing.
What do you mean, fuck up the whole program?
Well, what you're trying to do with Twitter, I mean, I would assume what you're trying to do is give people a place where they could share important information and, you know, have people, you know, I mean, Twitter has been used successfully to overturn governments. I mean, there's Twitter has been used to break news on very important events and alert people to danger. And there's so many positive things about Twitter. And if it's overwhelmed by Justin Bieber and Justin Bieber fan accounts and Justin Bieber, if it's overwhelmed, then the top 10 things that are trending are all nonsense. I could see how someone would think we're going to do a good thing by suppressing that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, why do you think they did suppress that? What do you think? You work there. Why do you think they kept him from trending?
Well, I mean, I don't know about that specific situation. I mean, I think, you know, looking at the larger picture, right? Like, in a way, you know, it's like if you think about like 20 years ago, whenever anybody talked about like society, you know, everyone would always say like the problem is the media. It's like the media, you know, if only we change the media. And a lot of people who were interested in like a better, brighter future were really focused on self-publishing. There were whole conferences about underground publishing conference, now the Allied Media Conference. People were writing zines, people were, you know, getting their own printing presses. People, you know, we were convinced that if we made publishing more equitable, if everybody had the equal ability to like produce and consume content, that the world would change. And in some ways, like what we have today is like the fantasy of, you know, those dreams from 20 years ago. But
I didn't know there was a locking up rate.
in a couple ways, you know, like one, you know, it was the dream that if, you know, a cop kills some random person in the suburbs of St. Louis, that like everyone would know that, you know, just you know, everyone knows, and also that anybody could share their weird ideas about the world, you know, and I think in some ways we were wrong, you know, that we thought like, you know, the world we got today is like, yeah, like if a cop kills somebody in the suburbs of St. Louis, like everybody knows about it. I think we overestimated how much that would matter, and I think we also believed that the things that everyone would be sharing were like our weird ideas about the world, and instead we got like, you know, flat earth and like, you know, anti-vax and like all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, in a sense, like I'm glad that those things exist because they're sort of what we wanted, you know. But I think what we underestimated is like how important the medium is. Like the medium is the message kind of thing, and that like what we were doing at the time of like, you know, writing zines and sharing information, I don't think we understood how much that was predicated on like actually building community and like relationships with each other, and that like just like what we didn't want was just like more channels on the television, and that's sort of what we got, you know. And so I think, you know, it's like everyone is like on YouTube trying to monetize their content, whatever, you know, and that it's the same thing. Like bad business models produce like bad technology and bad outcomes, and So I think there's concern about that, but I think like, you know, now that there's like, you know, these two simultaneous truths that everyone seems to believe, they're in contradiction with each other. You know, like one is that like everything's relative, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, all opinions are equally valid, and two, like our democracy is impossible without a shared understanding of what is true and what is false. The information that we share needs to be verified by our most trusted institutions. Like, people seem to simultaneously believe both of these things, and I think, they're in direct contradiction. And so in some ways, I think most of the questions about, you know, social media in our time are about like trying to resolve those contradictions. But I think, you know, I think it's way more complicated than the way that the social media companies are trying to portray.
Yeah, I think there's simplistic methods that they're using to handle complex realities. Like, for instance, like
The maintenance shed looks promising.
banning QAnon. Right. This is a big one. Right? 'Cause QAnon's got these wacky theories, and then like Jesus Christ, these are weaponizing all these nutbags, and like we're just gonna ban QAnon. But then, well, where do you? Because you think what they're saying is not true and not correct. Like, how far do you go with that? You've sort of set a precedent. And where does that end? Because, you know, are we going to ban JFK theories? Because JFK murders are probably still relevant today. Some of those people are still alive. Do we ban? There's theories about the Challenger, the space shuttle Challenger. There's a lot of wacky conspiracy theories about the. There's conspiracy theories about the space being fake. Have you ever seen hashtag space is fake? Yeah.
Okay,
Go on there
that's
if you
next
want
level.
to.
That's
If
next
you want to
level.
really fucking just lose all faith in humanity, look up space is fake.
But I think-
oh my God, there's so many people.
Yeah, and I think that people get something out of that.
Yeah, they do. Well, people get something out of mysteries and maybe being on the inside and knowing things where the rest of the world is asleep. This is the reason why people love the idea of red pilled. You know, someone even suggested I call this room the red pill. Our friend Radio Raheem said, call it the red pill. I'm like, there's a lot riding on that term. Too bad, because I'm a giant fan of the Matrix, but that term has been co-opted forever.
Yeah.
But this idea that you're just going to ban people from discussing stupid ideas, where does that end? You know, does it end with flat Earth? Are you going to ban that? They're going to go, oh, they're suppressing us. And then they're going to find these. That's the thing about all these weird alternative sources of social media, whether it's Parler or Gab. They become shitfests. Sure. I mean, if you go to those, especially Gab, it's just like, God damn, what have you guys done? It's not even what have they done. It's what have the people done that have all been kicked out of all these other places. And then if you have a place that says, we're not going to kick you out, and then all these fucking cretins come piling into these places. And I'm sure there's a lot of good people on Gab. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that are. They just didn't want to be suppressed by social media. Parler doesn't seem to be nearly as bad. I've looked at that as well. It's more like just super right-wing information type stuff, and there's some reasonable people on Parler. But
I think that there's like a subtle thing though, because I don't know how those things work, but like I think part of what if you set aside all of the like takedown stuff, you know, all the deplatforming stuff, if you say like, okay, Facebook, Twitter, you know, these companies, like they don't do that anymore. They've never done that. You know, they're still moderating content. You know, they have an algorithm that decides like what is seen and what isn't.
Right.
You know, and in a way.
But how is that all algorithm programmed? Like, what is for Facebook and for YouTube and a lot of these things? It's done to encourage viewership. It's done to encourage interaction, right? It's
done to encourage time spent looking at the screen.
Yeah. So that's how they monetize it. They want more clicks and more ad views and all that jazz. But when it becomes an ideological moderation, that's when things get a little weird, right?
But it is by definition an ideological moderation. You know, that if you optimize for time spent looking at the screen, you're going to be encouraging certain kinds of content and not others.
Okay, but that's not always true. Like, I'll give you an example for us. We did a podcast with Kanye West. Kanye West was running for president, right? And if you were running for president and you were outside the norm, like for instance, Twitter banned Brett Weinstein's. Brett Weinstein had a Twitter account that was set up for it was Unity 2020, and the idea was like, instead of looking at this in terms of left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, let's get reasonable people from both sides, like a Tulsi Gabbard and a Dan Crenshaw, bring them together, and perhaps maybe put into people's minds the idea that like this concept of it has to be a Republican vice president, a Republican president. Maybe that's nonsense, and maybe it would be better if we had reasonable, intelligent people together. What is this? Is there video? Yeah. Well, it's a very rational perspective. It's not conspiracy theory driven. They got banned from Twitter. And for nothing, just because they were promoting a third party, because they were trying to come up with some alternative. The idea was this could siphon off votes from Biden. We want Biden to win because Trump is bad. This is the narrative, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot here. But
Well, I was gonna say I got sidetracked. I'm sorry. Let me finish.
Yeah.
The Kanye West thing. So we had a podcast with Kanye West. It got I don't know how many millions of views, but it was a lot. But it wasn't trending. And so Jamie, you contacted the people at YouTube and asked them why it's trending. What was their answer?
Not trending. Like it didn't meet the qualifications they decided for trending or something like that. No, like it didn't include everything you would assume, like you just said, all the interactivity, comments. It had more comments than any video we had.
That's what I mean.
Massive amounts of comments, massive amounts of views, but yet nowhere to be seen on the trending.
But I don't think there was a person involved. Like there was an algorithm involved that was trying to optimize for certain things.
No.
You think
this specific case? Yeah, there's a team there. There's separate teams at YouTube, if I understand.
Yeah, and the separate team had made a distinction.
And I don't even know if they told the person who told me that what it was. So that person may not know either.
So they just decided this is not worthy of trending. So you have arbitrary decisions that are being made by people, most likely because they feel that ideologically Kanye West is not aligned with. I mean, he was wearing the MAGA hat for a while. It was a lot of, you know. So they just decided this is not trending. But it is trending. It's clearly trending.
Yeah.
You got millions and millions and millions of people were watching it.
Whether there, you know, it's like whether there are. But I think this is the point. You know, it's like whether it's people, whether it's algorithms. You know, there are forces that are making decisions about what people see and what people don't see.
Right.
And they're based on certain objectives that I think are most often business objectives.
But not in this case. In this
maybe-
case, the
maybe
business
not.
objective was
You
if they
know.
wanted to get more eyeballs on it, they would want it to be trending. And people say, oh shit,
Yeah, but
Kanye
it's
West
just
is on
like,
the
do
JRE.
people that like Kanye like click on ads or not? You know, it's like do people that you know, it's like there's a lot in there that we don't know. You know,
Oh,
like
that's horseshit. Come on, bro.
I don't know. I mean, maybe
There's
maybe make an ideological
millions
decision.
of millions and millions. When you have a video that's being viewed by that many people, there's going to be a lot of goddamn people clicking on ads, no matter
I mean,
what.
the other thing that these platforms want is for the content to be ad safe. You know, it's like maybe advertisers don't. You know, it's like I don't know. But I think actually focusing on the outlying cases of like this person was deplatformed, this person was intentionally ideologically not promoted, you know,
Well, there's
de-emphasized,
shadow banning.
Yeah, like I said, I think that like obfuscates or you know draws attention away from the larger thing that's happening, which is that like those things are happening just implicitly all the time, and that like it almost like serves to the advantage of these platforms to highlight the times when they remove somebody, because what they're trying to do is reframe this as like, okay, well, yeah, we got these algorithms, whatever, don't talk about that. The problem is there's just these bad people, you know, and we have to decide, there's bad content from bad people, and we have to decide, you know, what to do about this bad content and these bad people. And I think that distracts people from the fact that like the platforms are at every moment making a decision about what you see and what you don't see. That is not as there.
I see what you're saying. So there's more than one problem. There's a problem of deplatforming, because in many ways these deplatforming decisions are being made based on ideology. It's a certain specific ideology that the people that are deplatforming the other folks have that doesn't align with the people that are being deplatformed. These people that are being deplatformed, they have ideas that these people find offensive or they don't agree with. So they say, we're going to take you off.
Yeah. Or sometimes they just find themselves in a trap, you know, that like
trap.
Well, I think there's like, okay, so like there's I think a tendency for a lot of these platforms to, you know, try to define some policy about like what it is that they want, they don't want, you know. And I feel like that's sort of a throwback to this like modernist view of science and how science works, and we can like objectively, rigorously define these things. And I just don't think that's actually how the world works, and that like.
What do you mean? How so?
I feel like we're just past that. You know, that it's not like. First of all, I think you know science is not about truth. It's just not. It's about utility.
What do you mean?
Okay, you know, it's like I was taught Newtonian physics in high school.
Okay.
Why? It's not true. You know, that's not how the universe works. But it's still useful, and that's why it's taught. Because you can use it to predict motion outcomes, that kind of thing. Right? You know?
What's incorrect about Newtonian physics in the sense that they shouldn't be teaching it?
I mean, today, you know, people believe that the truth is that, you know, there's like, you know, relativity, like gravity is not a force. There's like, you know, these planes and stuff, whatever, you know, that like there are other models to describe how the universe works.
I'm so sorry.
And Newtonian physics is considered outmoded, but it still has utility in the fact that you can use it to predict the.
So you're talking about in terms of quantum physics and string theory and a lot of these more.
Yeah, it's like relativity at like the large scale, quantum physics at the small scale, and even those things are most likely not true in the sense that they aren't consistent with each other, and people are trying to unify them and find something that does make sense at like both of those scales. You know, the history of science is a history of things that weren't actually true. You know, Bohr's model of the atom, Newtonian physics. Like, you know, people have these, you know, Copernicus's model of the solar system. You know, people have these ideas of like how things work, and the reason that people are drawn to them is because they actually have utility. That it's like, oh, we can use this to predict motion of the planets. Oh, we can use this to send a rocket into space. Oh, we can use this to, you know, have better outcomes, you know, for some medical procedure. But it's not actually. I think it's not actually truth. Like the point of it isn't truth. The point of it is that like we have some utility that we find in these things. And I think that you know, when you look at like the emergence of science and you know people conceiving of it as a truth, it became this new authority that everyone was trying to appeal to. You know, if you look at like all of the like 19th century political philosophy. I mean, okay. I think the question of truth is like, you know, it's even a little squishy with the hard sciences, right? But once you get into like soft sciences, like social science, psychology, like then it's even squishier. You know, that like these things are really not about truth; they're about like some kind of utility. And when you're talking about utility, the important question is like useful for what and to whom. You know, and I think that's just always the important question to be asking, right? Because you know, when you look at like all the 19th century political writing, it's all trying to frame things in terms of science in this way that it seems laughable now. But you know, like at the time, they're just like, we're going to prove that communism is like the most true like social economic system in the world. You know, like there are whole disciplines of that. People in you know, people had like PhDs in that. You know, there are whole research departments in the Soviet Union, people doing that. And we laugh about that now, but I don't think it's that different than like social science in the West. You know, and so I think you know it's like if you lose sight of that, then you try to like frame social questions in terms of truths. Like you know, it's like this is the kind of content that we want, and we can rigorously define that, and we can define why that's going to have like the outcomes that we want it to. But once you get on that road, it's like you know you're like, okay, well, terrorist stuff. We don't like terrorist stuff, so we're going to like rigorously define that, and then we have policy, no terrorist stuff, and then you know. China shows up and they're like, we've got this problem with terrorists, the Uyghurs. You know, we need, you know, we see you have a policy, we need to, you know. And if instead it was just like, I think if people from the beginning acknowledged that this isn't some, you know, that all of objectivity is just a particular worldview, and that like we're not going to rigorously define these things in a way of like what is true and what isn't, then I think we would have better outcomes. But that's my weird take. I mean, I think from the perspective of Signal, it's like, do you know what's trending on Signal right now?
No,
Neither
nothing.
do I.
No, okay. But it's not a social media platform. But isn't it, there's a weird thing when you decide that you have one particular ideology that's being supported and another particular ideology that is being suppressed. And this is what conservative people feel when they're on social media platforms. They're almost all of them, other than the ones we talked about before, Parler and Gab and the alternative ones, they're all very left-wing in terms of the ideology that they support, the things that can get you in trouble in Twitter, on Twitter.
You say, but then the President of the United States just constantly violated every policy that they had.
But he's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous example, right? Because he's one person, and they've actually discussed this, that he and his tweets are more important. It's more important that they allow these tweets to get out. So you could, first of all, you can understand how fucking crazy this guy is, and second of all, it's newsworthy. He's the leader of the.
And also, it would be very costly from a business perspective.
Yes. Very likely. And kind of amazing that he didn't do anything along the way while he was witnessing people get deplatformed, and particularly this sort of bias towards people on the left, and this discrimination against people on the right. There's people on the right that have been banned and shadow banned and blocked from posting things, and you run into this situation where you wonder what exactly is a social media platform when it's just a small private company, and maybe you have some sort of a video platform, and there's only a few thousand people on it, and you only want videos that align with your perspective. Okay, you're a private company, you can do whatever you want. But when you're the biggest video platform on earth, like YouTube, and you decide that you are going to take down anything that disagrees with your perspective on how COVID should be handled, including doctors. Like, this is one of the things that happened. Doctors that were stating, like, there's more danger in lockdowns, there's more danger in this than there is in the way we're handling it. There's more danger in the negative aspects of the decisions that have been made than it would be to let people go to work with masks on. There's more, and then those videos just get deleted. Those videos get blocked. There's people that are opposed to current strategies with all sorts of different things, and those videos get blocked. So there's an ideological basis in censorship. And so you have to make a decision, like, what are these platforms? Are these platforms simply just a private company, or is it a town hall? Is it the way that people get to express ideas? And isn't the best way to express ideas to allow people to decide based on the better argument what is correct and what's incorrect? Like, this is what freedom of speech is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about, you have an idea, I have an idea, these two ideas come together, and then the observers get to go, okay, well, this guy's got a lot of facts. This is a objective reality. This is provable, and this other guy's just a crazy person who thinks the world's hollow. Okay, this is the correct one. There's going to be some people that go, no, there's a suppression of hollow earth, and hollow earth is the truth, and hollow earth facts, and hollow earth theory. But you got to kind of let that happen. You got to kind of have people that are crazy. You got to kind of remember they'll do these they used to stand on the corners with the placards on, the world is ending tomorrow. Like,
they're still there.
Yeah, but those are on Twitter now, right? But those people, no one said you got to get rid of that guy. You would drive by and go, look at this crazy fuck. Those crazy fucks making YouTube videos, those videos get deleted. I don't know if that's good. I kind of think that you should let those crazy fucks do that, because it's not going to influence you. It's not going to influence me. It's going to influence people that are easily influenced. And the question is, who are we protecting, and why are we protecting these people?
Well, okay, but I think in my mind, what's going on is, like, the problem is that your mind would be blown.
No, it's admirable what you're doing, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you.
But so I think that foundation gives us, it's like, now that we have that foundation, there's a lot that we can build on it, right? And
would you do a social media app?
Well, I think, some of the stuff that we're working on now, just like moving away from phone numbers, you can have, like, usernames that you can, like, post that more publicly, and then, we have groups now, you have group links, and then, maybe we can do something with events, and we can, that's like, we're sort of moving in the direction of, like, an app that's good for communicating with connections you already have to an app that's also good for creating.
Would you think that social media would be better served with the algorithms that are in place, and with the mechanisms for determining what's trending in place, and for their trust and safety, or whatever their content monitoring policy they have now, or have it wide open? Wild West.
I mean, I think it depends on when you say, like, better. Better for what, right?
Better for humanity.
Yeah, no, I think
censorship is better.
No. I think the problem. I think that business model is a great technology, which has been a problem.
So the problem is that there's a financial incentive for them to.
Yeah. That if we, if you look at, like, the metrics, we talked about, like, what Facebook cares about, just like time you spend looking at the screen.
Right.
Like, if we were to have metrics, Signal would have metrics. Our metrics would be like, what we want is for you to use the app as little as possible, for you to actually have the app open as little as possible, but for the velocity of communication to be possible. So it's like, you're getting maximum utility. You're spending as little time possible looking at this thing while getting as much out of it.
How could that be engineered, do you think?
That's what we're trying to do.
So you're trying to do that with a social media app as well?
Well, I mean, we're sort of moving in that direction, right? And it's like, and I think once you start from the principle of, like, well, we don't have to have infinite growth, we don't actually have to have profit, we don't have to return, we're not accountable to investors, we don't have to, satisfy public markets. We also don't have to build a pyramid scheme where we have, like, 2 billion users so that we can monetize them to, like, a few 100,000 advertisers so that we,
right.
Like, we don't have to do any of that. And so we have the freedom to, like, pick the metrics that we think are the ways that we think technology should work, that we think will better serve all of us.
So what would better be served is a bunch of wild hippies like yourself that don't want to make any money at all.
I mean,
put together a social media.
If you work at Signal, You get paid.
Oh yeah,
It's
I'm
like,
sure.
we're not
I mean,
Yeah.
the company itself
Yeah.
as a corporation, you get paid, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
And how do you generate the income?
Well, we do it by like tying ourselves to a community of users instead of advertisers, right?
So,
it's like
like, where's the money coming from, though?
from people using. So,
So, but
similar to like
Do they pay for it?
no, it's like donation based. So similar to like Wikimedia.
Oh, okay.
It's like
Okay.
Wikipedia exists. There's no company. There's no.
Well, that would be
part of it.
great if they could figure out a way to develop some sort of a social media platform that just operated on donations and could rival the ones that are operating on advertising revenue. Because I agree with you that creates a giant problem.
Right, and that's what we're working on slowly.
Huh. Do you think that so you just look at it in terms of bad business model equals bad outcome? That's how you look at all these, and you don't.
And it's also, by the way, why we have people mining cobalt in Congo.
Yeah. And you don't think that they can regulate their way out of this situation?
With technology, I'm not super optimistic. Yeah, just based on and even the hearings, just like.
So do you
amateur
think that the
Uses
hearings were
go
amateur
figure.
hour?
I can't take it out with the power on it.
Yeah, there were some ridiculous questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like they're talking to the wrong people. They don't understand how
They
stuff
don't
works.
know
It's
that's
like,
not Google,
You've
that's
been prepped for
Apple.
this. Like, don't you have a team of people?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch, right? It's like your dad who doesn't know how do I get the email?
It's like these people are not going to save us, man. It's like
No.
anything that they do will probably just make things worse.
Do you think that it's a valid argument that conservatives have, though, that they're being censored and that their voice is not being heard? I know what you said in terms of, that if someone had something on YouTube that said that gay people are unhuman and they should be abolished and banned and delete that video, I get that perspective. But I think there's other perspectives, like the Unity 2020 perspective, which is not in any way
Yeah, I mean,
negative.
I don't know
or-
what happened with that, but I feel like I think it could be a part of this thing of just like, well, we create this policy and we have these, we define things this way, and then a lot of stuff just gets caught up in it. Where it's just like now you're like taking down content about the Uyghurs because you wanted to do something else. That if people would just be more honest about like there is not really an objectivity, and we're looking for these specific outcomes, and this is why. That I think maybe we would have better results. But.
Well, how does one fix this though? How does one you worked at Twitter, you kind of understand these better than most, these social media platforms. How would one fix this if they hired you? If they said, hey, Moxie, we're kind of fucked. We don't know how to fix this.
Well,
is there a way? Because it seems like they make so much money.
Yeah.
If you came along and said, yeah, well, you got to stop making money, they'd be like, get rid of that fucking nut.
Exactly.
Look at him,
Yeah.
goddamn sailor.
Yeah.
What's he talking about?
What is he talking about?
Fuck out of here. Stop making money.
Yeah.
What, you want to play rock, paper, scissors? Go, you're crazy, man. How do you fix this?
I mean, one thing I'm actually a little encouraged by is like the organizing unionization stuff that's been happening in the tech industry. So there's been a couple walkouts, and there's some increased communication among tech workers. Normally, you think about.
I'm not totally aware of this. Like, what have they been organizing and unionization about?
Well, normally you think about unionization as like a process for improving material conditions for workers. And there's some aspect of this in the organizing that's been happening.
Where have they been doing this?
Google is the big where a lot of the activity has happened, but it's happening across the industry. And
What are their objectives at Google?
At Google, there were some walkouts. The objectives. You should talk to Meredith Whitaker about this. Actually, she's really smart and has a lot to say.
Shout out to Meredith.
Yeah. She and other people working there, and they were organizing for like trying to apply protections that full-time workers and benefits full-time workers there had to a lot of the temporary workers, like the people who work in security, the people who are working in the cafeteria, the people who are working in driving buses and stuff like that, who are living a lot more precariously. But also for creative control over how the technology that they're producing is used. So Google was involved in some like military contracts that were pretty
sketch.
Yeah. Like applying machine learning AI stuff to military technology. And then finally, there had been a lot of high-profile sexual harassment incidents at Google where the perpetrators of sexual harassment were usually paid large severances in order to leave. And so they had a list of demands, and they like a lot of people walked out. I don't know what the numbers were, but a lot of people they managed to organize internally and walked out. And I think stuff like that is encouraging because it's like we look at the hearings and it's like the people in Congress don't even know who's the right person to talk to. It's like old people talking about technology they don't understand. The people who really do understand technology are the people who are working in these companies, and a lot of times they don't feel good about the way that what they're creating is being applied, or what they're creating is being applied. And
but isn't that another issue where you're going to have people who have an ideological perspective, and that may be opposed to people that have a different ideological perspective, but they're sort of disproportionately represented on the left in these social media corporations. When you get kids that come out of school, they have degrees in tech, or they're interested in tech, they tend to almost universally lean left.
Maybe, but I think most, like when it comes to technology, I don't think people are, I think, what almost everyone can agree is like the amount of money and resources that we're putting into surveillance, into ad tech, into, these algorithms that are just about increasing engagement, that they're just not good for the world. And if you put a different CEO in charge, like person's just gonna get fired. So if the entire company organizes together and says, no, this is what we want, this is how we want to allocate resources, this is how we want to create the world, then you can't fire all those people.
I understand what you're saying. So they'd have to get together and unionize and have like a very distinct mandate, like very clear that this is what we want to use this. We want to go back to do no evil or whatever the fuck it used to be.
Right.
Yeah, where they don't really have that as a big sign anymore. Do you think that would really have an impact though? I mean, it seems like the amount of money, when you find out the amount of money that's being generated by Google and Facebook and YouTube, and all, it's the numbers are so staggering that to shut that valve off, to shut that spout, good luck. It's almost like it had to have been engineered from the beginning, like what you're doing at Signal. Like someone had to look at it from the beginning and go, you know what, if we rely on advertiser revenue, we're going to have a real problem.
Yeah, and I think it's, yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, I think you're right, and there's you know, part of the problem with just relying on tech workers to organize themselves is that they are shareholders of these companies. You know, They have a financial stake in their outcome, and so that influences the way they think about things. But, you know, I think another aspect of all of this is that I think people underestimate just how expensive it is to make software. And another thing that I think would really improve things is making software cheaper. You know, right now, it's moving in the opposite direction. It's getting harder, more expensive to create software. And
how so?
It used to be that if you like wrote a piece of software, you just wrote it once, you know, for the computer, and then that was your software. You know, now if you want to write a piece of software, you have to write it at least 3 times. You have to write it for iPhone, you have to write it for Android, you have to write it for the web, maybe you need a desktop client. So it's like you need 3 or 4 times the energy that you used to have. And the way that software works, not worth going into, but it's getting more expensive. And
what do you personally use? Are you one of those minimalist dudes? I noticed you have like a little tiny notebook here.
Oh yeah.
And then you have 2 phones.
Yeah, I have to have. I try to be like, I just want to.
You're also one of those renegades with no phone case.
Oh yeah, man. I feel like that's like.
You and Jamie should get together and talk about it. He's radical.
I mean, it's like people, you know, it's like industrial designers put all of that effort into creating that thing, and
made
then
out
just
of fucking
wrap a weird
glass
thing
and it costs
around
$1,000. If you drop it with this thing on it, it doesn't get hurt. And see this little thing right here? See, I stick my finger in there, and I can use it like a text better.
Really good.
And then also, if I want to watch a video, that'll prop it up. Ta-da. You know how that works? Ta-da. Isn't that better?
Yeah.
Isn't that better than no case?
I mean, some things I actually want to make more difficult for myself. You know? But I have 2 phones just because I'm trying to. I always just want to keep tabs on how everything works everywhere. You know?
So you have an Android and an iPhone. Do you keep things stripped down?
No, I'm pretty. I mean, I don't actually use
TikTok.
Well, okay. My problem is that like I spend all day. I think you know sometimes I go through this thing where like cryptography will be like in the news or something. It'll be some like geopolitical thing that's happening, and someone like Vice or something will get in touch with me, and they'll be like, hey, we want to do a thing like a video where we follow you around for a day, like a day in the life. You know, because it's so exciting.
Sounds
like,
good for them. Annoying for you.
Well, the thing I'll usually write back is like, okay, here's the video. Me sitting in front of the computer for 8 hours, and they're like, oh, we can't make that video. No one would want to watch that. You know?
Yeah, what you need to do is take you to a yoga class, then you go to an organic food store, and you talk to people about their rights, and then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's like, unfortunately, I don't even want to watch the movie in my own life. You know?
Yeah.
But so that is my life. So it's like, I spend so much time like looking at the computer for work that it's hard for me to continue like looking at screens and stuff.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah.
But I try to be like a normal like there's just like in the history of people who were like doing like building cryptography stuff like that. There was this period of time where the thesis was basically like, all right, what we're going to do is develop really powerful tools for ourselves, and then we're going to teach everyone to be like us. You know? And that didn't work because we didn't really anticipate the way that computers work. So I try to be like as normal as possible. You know, I just like have a normal setup. I'm not like I haven't. I used to have a cell phone where I like soldered the microphone differently, so there's like a hard switch that you could turn off. Like,
really, you did that?
Yeah, because it's like whatever you start thinking about like how all this stuff works.
Do you ever fuck around with like Linux phones or anything like that?
No. I try to be like normal.
Okay.
Yeah. I still do run Linux on my desktop just because I've been doing it forever.
And you keep a Moleskine for what?
Just notes. And
you don't put them on your phone?
Sometimes I do, but I like writing more, I guess.
Okay, so you just do it just because you enjoy it.
Yeah, but I guess you're right. Maybe like I feel the forces of darkness are not going to compromise that.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have extra scrutiny on you because of the fact that you're involved in this messaging application that Glenn Greenwald and Edward Snowden and a bunch of other people that are seriously concerned with security and privacy, that maybe people are upset at you that you've created something that allows people to share encrypted messages?
I mean, maybe. I think
you kind of cut out the middleman, right? You've cut out the third-party door.
Yeah, and I think, but so in some ways that means that there's less pressure on me because it's like if you're the creator of Facebook Messenger and your computer gets hacked, like that's everyone's Facebook messages are gone. And for me, if like my computer gets hacked, I can't access anyone's Facebook messages whether I get hacked or not.
Right.
And so I have sort of less liability in that sense. There was like a weird period of time where it was very difficult for me to fly commercially, like on an airplane, and I don't know why. I think it had something to do with talking to someone about WikiLeaks once they mentioned my name. And after
you were
that,
getting flagged?
Yeah, it was very annoying. I would go to the airport and I wouldn't be able to print a ticket at the kiosk. I had to go talk to a person. They had to call some phone number that would appear on their screen and then wait on hold for like 45 minutes to an hour to get approval, and then they would get approval to print the ticket.
So you had to anticipate this when you traveled?
Yeah.
So you had to go there way in advance?
Way in advance. And then anytime I traveled internationally, on the way back through customs, they would seize all of the electronics that I had.
Jeez. The U.S. government would do this?
Yeah, Customs and Border Protection.
They would seize your shit, and would you get it back?
They would eventually send it back, but you just have to throw it out because it's not. Who knows what they did to it?
I would want to give it to someone and go, hey, tell me what they did.
Yeah.
Could you do that? Is it possible to back engineer whatever?
I never spent time on it.
How much time did they have your shit for?
It would be like weeks.
Weeks? Weeks. Did you have to give them passwords and everything?
Well, that's the thing. They'd stop you, and they would be like, hey, we just need you to type in your password here so that we can get through the whole description. And I would be like, no. And they would be like, well, if you don't do that, we're going to take this, and we're going to send it to our lab, and they're going to get it anyway. And I would be like, no, they're not. And they would be like, all right, we're going to take it. You're not going to have your stuff for a while. You sure you don't want to type your password? I'd be like, no. And then, it would disappear and it'd come back weeks later, and then it's like...
How bizarre.
Yeah.
And there was no... They didn't have, like, a motive. There was no...
That's the thing, you never know why.
No, but I'm saying they didn't say, hey, you're thought to have done this, or there's some...
No, they would always just be like, oh, no, this is just random, whatever. But there would be 2 people at the exit of the plane with photographs of me, waiting for me to step off the plane, and they would escort. They wouldn't even wait for me to get to the...
So did you have to have, like, a burner laptop?
I just wouldn't travel with electronics, because it was just...
Even your phone?
Yeah, even my phone.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
Wow.
if that was only internationally, though, because they can't do it. But,
So domestically, you just had long waits, and then they'd eventually give you a ticket?
yeah, they would eventually give you a ticket, and then you get the selective screening where they take all the stuff out of your bag and
Yeah,
feel free to take your car.
they
And
touch
then,
your dick, too,
and
right?
then every connection, the TSA would come to the gate of the connecting thing, even though you're already behind security, and do it again.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It's just like a...
Connections, too?
Yeah.
So they're trying to fuck with you?
I think so, yeah. I don't know.
And how long did that last for?
That was a couple years. Yeah.
When did it go away? The day it went away, were you like, oh?
Yep. Yeah, one day it just stopped.
Oh.
It's really, really a changed game.
What year did it go away? When Trump got into office?
No, it was yeah, I forget. Yeah, I was thinking actually on the way here. It's funny how like I remember after the last election, everyone was talking about like California leaving the United States, like California seceding. You remember
Yeah,
that?
hilarious. Yeah.
And now everyone's talking about leaving California, like after this election.
Yeah, well, imagine that. President Newsom.
Yeah.
Locked down a communist state.
But do you remember people discovered that the whole Cal Exit movement was started by a guy that lived in Russia?
Oh, it was one of those IRA things, Internet Research Agency scams.
What it was? I actually tracked the guy down.
Oh, yeah?
In Moscow.
You tracked him down.
He was just some guy. Well,
did he do it for goof?
No, he like really believes
that California should leave.
Yeah, he lived in California and had been for years like trying to foment this Cal Exit thing. And he has all the stats on why it would be better for California and all stuff, And then he sort of thought, well, this isn't working. And he really liked Russia for some reason. So he moved to Russia just before the election, not knowing what was going to happen. And then when Trump won, people were like, wait a second, fuck this. Like maybe California should get out of here. And they just found this like campaign that already existed, and everyone sort of got behind it. And he was just like, oh shit. And he lives in Russia now, but he like didn't really understand optics, I think, where he the way that everyone found out that he lived in Russia was that he opened a California embassy in Moscow. So they like announced like Cal Exit has opened the first California embassy like in a foreign country that was in Moscow, and this was right as all the like Russian stuff was happening,
So if you're conspiratorially minded, you'd have drawn some incorrect conclusions.
Yeah, he was just. I met with him. I like hung out with him for a day. I think he really genuinely just.
So what was your motivation to hang out with this guy for a whole day?
I mean, I was just fascinated, because here's this guy's like doing this kind of ambitious thing, and it just the optics seems so bad,
Yeah.
I think he reminded me of like that Hannah Arendt quote that's like, if the essence of power is deceit, does that mean that the essence of impotence is truth? That like he sort of believed that just like the facts were enough. Just like the stats of just like, yeah, we spend this much money on like defense spending. If we stop, it's like we would have like.
So much money.
Yeah,
California was a country,
and we would still have like the 4th largest military in the world, and we would have like just like the numbers actually are compelling, and it's just sort of like that's people will just see the truth, And I was like, dude, I think maybe you should like not live in Russia anymore, But, it was. Yeah.
Why did he go to Russia?
I don't. He had been teaching English, and I think he just sort of ended up liking Russia, and so yeah. I was on the way with a friend to Abkhazia. You heard of that one?
No.
It's an autonomous region of the country of Georgia, and. It's kind of interesting. There's all these autonomous regions in the world that are essentially their own countries, but not recognized by the UN or.
Like Texas, you're in one right now.
I mean, the places are like militarized borders. Like they have their own,
but they're not recognized by the UN.
Yeah, and so they all recognize each other. And it's like, it's like if you want to be a country, like it's kind of interesting. You need a lot of stuff. You need like a flag. You need like a national bird. You need like an anthem, whatever. And you need a soccer team.
Oh.
You have to have a soccer team.
Interesting.
These guys all have their own soccer teams. They can't play in FIFA. It's not recognized by the UN. FIFA can't. So they're only the league of unrecognized states and stateless people. And they have their own World Cup. And they have
really
in Abkhazia.
How many different countries are there that are like this? How many?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many teams are in this league called Kanifa. I mean, it's 20 plus.
So there's 20 plus unrecognized countries or autonomous regions.
And also stateless people. So like, there's people from Chagas Islands where basically they do for U.S. military there. There's places like Somaliland, Transnistria, South Ossetia, Laplandia. It's kind of interesting. So I went with friends to the World Cup with all the.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Yeah?
It was like, yeah. I mean,
the smile on your face. This is the biggest smile you've had the entire show. It sounds like it was a great time.
I mean, it just, yeah. I think it's like interesting, like in a way that I feel like, society moves by like pushing at the edges, that like the fringes that don't really center. I feel like, looking at the margins of the way politics works is an interesting view of like how everything else works. That like going to Abkhazia, it was so crazy getting it. It's like, we travel all through Russia, we get to this like militarized border, you go through these 3 checkpoints that aren't supposed to exist, but obviously exist. You get to the other side, and it's just, the same as where you just were. You know, you're like, you guys fought a brutal civil war, you know, like genocide, like full on, you know, like crazy shit. And it's just kind of the same, you know, like was it worth it? Like what's the deal, you know? And I feel like it's this thing you see again and again of like the institutions that we're familiar with in the world that exists are like the institutions of kings, you know? It's like, you know, police, military, tax, you know? And that like every moment in history since then has been about trying to like change ownership of those institutions.
Let's go, Bullet.
And it's always sort of dissatisfying, you know? And like, you know, just seeing that happen again and again, and just like, you know, realizing that it's like maybe what we should be doing is actually trying to get rid of these institutions or change these institutions in some way.
Don't you think there's a very slow rate of progress, but ultimately progress? Like, if you follow Pinker's work, it looks at all the various metrics, like murder, rape, racism, crime, all these different things. It's over time. We're clearly moving in a better direction.
Yeah, no, it's nothing.
Maybe, I mean, and
do you think it's just like, you know, I was listening to this
I know I'm not making any
podcast
sense
today. We
right
were
now,
talking
but
about
that's the
religion,
thing.
and it was discussing the Bible, and they were talking about all the different stories that are in the Bible, that many of them that are hundreds of years apart, that were collected and put into that. Just stop and think about a book that was written literally before the Constitution was drafted, and that book is being introduced today as gospel, and that there's a new book that's going to be written 200 years from now, and that will be attached to the new version of the Bible as well. And then one day someone will come across this, and it will all be interpreted as the will and the words of God that all came about in one particular era. It like all came down from God. But now we know that these things are like you're dealing with giant spans of time. But today, these spans of time are far slower. Like going from Alan Turing in 1950 being chemically castrated for being gay to, in my lifetime, seeing gay marriage as being something that was very fringe when I was a boy living in San Francisco, to universal across the United States today, at least mostly accepted by the populace, right? That this is a very short amount of time where big changes happen, and that these changes are coming quicker and quicker and quicker. I would hope that this is a trend that is moving in the correct direction.
Yeah, certainly there's some things that are getting better,
Yeah.
And I feel like, to me, it's important to, you know, for a lot of those things, like the things you mentioned, like gay marriage, I think it's important to realize that like a lot of that progress would not have happened without the ability to break the law, honestly. You know, that like how would anyone have known that like we wanted to allow same-sex marriage if no one had been able to have a same-sex relationship, because sodomy laws have been perfectly enforced, you know?
Yeah.
How would we know that we want to legalize marijuana if like no one had ever been able to consume marijuana? You know?
Right. Yeah.
So I think, you know, a lot of the fear around like increased surveillance state or whatever is that like that space dissipates.
Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, on the other hand, you know, it's like we're living in the apocalypse. You know, that it's like if you took someone from 200 years ago who used to be able to just walk up to the Klamath River and dump a bucket in the water and pull out, you know, 12 salmon, and that was, you know, their food. And you're like, oh yeah, the way it works today is you go to Whole Foods and it's $20 a pound, and it's, you know, pretty good. You know, they'd be like, what have you done? Oh my God, you used to be able to walk across the backs of the salmon, you know, across the whole river.
Well, we're trying to avoid slipping even further into that apocalypse. I don't know if you've followed what's going on in Bristol Bay of Alaska with the Pebble Mine.
No.
Oh, it's crazy. They're trying, and you know, according to what Joe Biden said when he was running for office, that when he's in office, that will not happen. But they're trying to do essentially the biggest mine in the world that would destroy the salmon population. It would destroy it. It would literally wipe out a gigantic, not just a gigantic industry, but a gigantic chunk of the salmon. I think it's, I forget which kind of salmon it is. I don't want to say it's Chinook. I forget what kind of salmon it is, but it's the biggest population. Sockeye, thank you. The biggest population of them certainly in America, but I think in the world. I think it's responsible for an enormous number of jobs and an enormous. And apparently there's fucking billions of dollars worth of gold and copper down there.
Yeah.
Earthworks, what's at stake? An average of 40 to 50 million wild salmon make the epic migration from the ocean to the headwaters of the Bristol Bay every year. Like no place on Earth, the Bristol Bay watershed. They've been working to try to make this mine a reality for, I think, a couple of decades now. And people have been fighting tirelessly to educate people on what a devastating impact this is going to have on the ecology of that area, and the fact that the environment will be permanently devastated. There's no way of bringing this back, and there's no way of doing this without destroying the environment, because the specific style of mining that they have to employ in order to pull that copper and gold out of the ground involves going deep into the earth to find these reservoirs of gold and copper, and there's sulfur they have to go through, and then they have to remove the waste. And mining companies have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in this and then abandoned it. So they're like, we can't fucking do this. And then people are like, we can do it. And then they've got, and it's other companies that are, I don't believe the company that's currently involved in it is even an American company. I think it's a foreign company that's trying to, I think they're from Canada, that are trying to do this spectacular, I don't know which company it is, but it's, my friend Steve Ranella from the Meat Eater podcast. I want to recommend this podcast because he's got a particular episode on that where he talks about it. Let me find it real quick, because it's pretty epic, where he talks to this one guy who's dedicated the last 20 years of his life trying to fight this. Let me just find it real quick, because it's really pretty intense, and it's terrifying when you see how close it's come to actually being implemented, and how if it happens, there's no way you pull that back. Like once they do it,
it's like all that standing rock shit. You know, they were like, no, the pipeline's gonna be fine. No way that it leaks into the water or whatever. You know, it's like sure enough.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I'm already listened to it, so I'm having a hard time finding it in this app. These motherfuckers. Did you find it? Yeah, previously played. Yeah, Half-Life of Never. It's the October 5th episode.
That's a good title.
Yeah, and the gentleman's name is Tim Bristol, which is kind of crazy. Just that is his birth name. His name is Tim Bristol, and he's dealing with his Bristol Bay situation. I mean, it's just a random coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, and you read all that shit about the
episode 241.
Like when they were building all the dams.
Yeah.
You know, California, it's just like the salmon just bashed
Dead.
themselves to death.
Dead.
Basically, they had
Well,
to set them on fire. 'cause
Seattle,
so many of them.
yeah. Same thing that happened up in Seattle. These knuckleheads, they didn't understand the migration.
Yeah.
These salmon won't go anywhere else. They have one specific river where they were born, and that's where they will die and spawn.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. But these assholes that just want copper and gold are willing to do this. And there was this one politician in particular that has a gigantic windfall if he can pull this off, or lobbyist, or whatever the fuck he is. But he stands to make, I think they said $14 million if he can actually get the shovels into the ground. That's how much he earns.
So what are we gonna do about it?
Kill that guy.
Assassination politics.
Yes, kill them all. No, I'm kidding. Don't get me in trouble. You can get banned off of YouTube for saying something. I'm joking. What should we do? We should make people aware of it and make people aware that this is that there are real consequences to allowing politicians to make decisions that will literally affect human beings for the rest of eternity. Because you will never have that population of salmon coming to that particular location that have been going there for millions and millions of years. And the reason why you won't have them there is because someone is greedy. And it's really that simple. I mean, we are getting along fine without that copper and without that gold. And we are using the resource of the salmon, and people are employed that are enjoying that resource, and they're also able to go there and see the bears eating the salmon and seeing this incredible wild place. Alaska is one of the few really, truly wild spots in this country.
Yeah.
And someone might fuck that up. And if you get enough greedy assholes together, and they can figure out a way to make this a reality. And with the wrong people in positions of power, that's 100% possible.
Yeah. Yeah, you might even say we've organized the entire world economy to fuck that up.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that it's like the question of agency of like, how do we affect these processes? It's like,
Well, I was joking obviously about killing that person, but there was a recent one of the Iranian scientists was assassinated, and this brought up this gigantic ethical debate. And we don't know who did it, whether it was a Israeli army.
Mossad held a press conference to say we didn't do it while wearing T-shirts that said we definitely did it.
Assassinated Iranian nuclear scientist shot with remote-controlled machine gun. Oh. Holy fuck! Holy fuck!
Mid-daylight, which is what I was hearing.
Oh my god, dude, we're killing people with robots now, right? That was the other Iranian guy that got killed, Soleimani, who was also killed with a drone. I mean, essentially.
Yeah. This is out of another car, but whatever.
Oh, so a car was driving by and there was a remote-controlled machine gun? Fuck.
It says he was in a bulletproof car too. Wow. I don't know.
He was in a bulletproof, like they knew they were going to kill this guy.
They did, man. Yeah.
So this is the question.
We got out of the car.
Oh, well, there you go. You fucked up. Just stay in that bulletproof car. If you know that a man is going to, like, what if someone did that to Oppenheimer? What if someone said, hey, we see where this is going, and we need to find that Oppenheimer gentleman, and we need to prevent Big Boy from dropping down and killing how many people? Like, 500,000 people. What?
He got shot by that remote. It was 164 yards away. Shot him and his bodyguard, and then the car they were in exploded. It lasted for 3 minutes. Like the whole thing was 3 minutes.
Wow. So there's this ethical dilemma. Like, if someone is actively trying to acquire nuclear weapons, and we think that those people are going to use those nuclear weapons, is it ethical to kill that person? Because that person's a scientist. They're not a.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I think the causality stuff is really hard to figure out. But I think most of the time it's not about the one person. It's not. Maybe sometimes it is, but I think it's just like I feel like assassination politics in the tech arena does not work. It's like you can get rid of all the people that talk to these companies, and that's not what's going to do it. That there are like these structural reasons why these things keep happening over and over again.
Yeah, I think they're trying to slow it down though, right? Like this is the reason why. Do you remember when they employed Stuxnet? Stuxnet.
Yeah.
I mean that was for the same reason, right? They were trying to disarm the Iranian nuclear capabilities.
Yeah. That was the same thing where they.
But that was kind of
crazy. We didn't do it while wearing T-shirts. We definitely did this.
But they did that with computer virus, right? Which is pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And people didn't have a problem with that. They're like, well, that's.
Well, I think people did. Some people had a problem with that, obviously, but.
Well, Iranians.
Yeah, but also just like okay. You go down that road and where things can happen too. A great example is so one of the things that came out in a lot of the documents that Snowden released was that the NSA had worked with a standards body called NIST in order to produce a random number generator that was backdoored. So random numbers are very important in cryptography, and if you can predict what the random numbers are going to be, then you win. And so the NSA had produced this random number generator that allowed them to predict what the random numbers would be, because they knew of this one constant that was in there. They knew a reciprocal value that you can't derive just by looking at it, but they know because they created it. And they had what they called a nobody but us backdoor, nobody but us backdoor. And they got NIST to standardize this thing, and then they got a company called Jupiter, who makes routers and VPNs and stuff like that, Juniper, to include this in their products. And so the idea was that like the NSA would have these capabilities. They had developed these vulnerabilities that they could exploit in situations like this. They could like take advantage of foreign powers and stuff like that in ways that wouldn't boomerang back at them. But what happened was, in I think early teens, Juniper got hacked, and somebody secretly changed that one parameter that was like basically the backdoor to a different one that they knew the reciprocal value to. And it's most likely China or Russia that did this. Then what's kind of interesting is there's a big incident where the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, I think, was compromised, and they have records on, foreign intelligence assets and stuff like that. Their systems were compromised, it seems like maybe by China. And what's sort of interesting is that they were running the Juniper networking gear that had been, hacked in this one specific way. And so it's kind of possible that, the NSA developed this backdoor that they were going to use for situations like this, against foreign adversaries or whatever, and the whole thing just boomeranged back at them, and OPM was compromised as a result.
Wow.
But this is like, I don't know. I think it's, it's easy to look at things like Stuxnet and stuff like that and just be like, yeah, this is harm reduction or whatever, but in the end, it can have real consequences. And this is also why people are so hesitant about, the government is always like, well, why don't you develop a form of cryptography where it works, except for us, we can access the content,
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is why, because if you can access it, if anybody can access it, somehow that's going to boomerang.
Well, I remember when there was a terrorist attack in Bakersfield, California. Is that where it was? I think it was Bakersfield. Where
San Bernardino.
San Bernardino, thank you. Yeah, and there was an iPhone involved, and Apple wouldn't open it for them. They wouldn't allow the FBI to have access to it. People were furious, and they were like, "If this starts here, this does not end well."
Yeah.
And I kind of saw their point, but I kind of saw the FBI's point too. Like, did you just open this one? This guy's clearly a murderer, has killed a ton of people, and created this terrorist incident.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a little disingenuous too, right? Where it's like the FBI had their entire iCloud backup for this device. Like, the only thing they didn't have was the previous 2 hours or something like that. And the reason they didn't have it is because they fucked up and approached it in the wrong way and got themselves locked out of it.
Oh, really?
And so it's like it was their own mistake that led to the situation where they didn't have the iCloud backup. So then it's like, what are you really going to get off this phone? It's like the actual possibility of what was there was extremely marginal.
So do you think what they really want is the tools to be able to get into
they
other
wanted
people's
the
phones?
phones, where they've just been waiting, for the moment of okay, here we go. We got terrorists. We got
That makes sense. What did you think when the State Department or whoever it was banned Huawei phones?
Yeah.
Did you think there was?
I mean, yeah, it's mostly political, right? It's complicated, right? Because there's companies like Huawei and the Tencent,
OnePlus.
The people who make TikTok.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're doing all the sketchy shit, but it's the same sketchy shit that all of Silicon Valley is doing. It's not.
Is it really? Is that a valid comparison to what they're doing in Silicon Valley? Huawei did have routers that had third-party access apparently, and they were shown that information was going to a third party that was not supposed to be. Right? Wasn't that part of the issue? Am I reading this wrong?
Well, I think there's a couple. There have been incidents where it's there's data collection that's happening.
Yeah.
Well, there's data collection happening in all Western products too. I mean, and actually, the way the Western products are designed are really scary. I mean, in the telecommunications space, there's a legal requirement called CALEA, Communications and Law Enforcement Act or something like that, that requires telecommunications equipment to have eavesdropping, surveillance stuff built into it. When you produce the hardware, in order to sell it in the United States, you have to have
which hardware?
phone switches and stuff.
Okay.
It's when you make a normal phone call, it has to have, I forget what they call it.
The ability to tap.
Yeah, they call it something else, but it has to have this ability to record conversations, intercept, lawful intercept.
How does a signal call work?
So signal calls work not using the traditional telecommunications infrastructure. It is routing data over the internet, and that data is end-to-end encrypted, so nobody can eavesdrop on those calls, including us. But so communication equipment that is produced in the United States has to have this lawful intercept, so lawful intercept capability. But what's crazy about that is that's the same. It's these are U.S. companies and they're selling that all around the world. So that's the shit that gets shipped to UAE. And so it's it's the secondary effect thing of the United States government. It's we're going to be responsible with this, and we're going to have warrants or whatever, and even that's not true. And then that same equipment gets shipped to tyrants and repressive regimes all over the place, and they just got a ready-made thing to just surveil everyone's phone call. So it's I don't know. It's hard to indict Huawei for acting substantially different than the way whatever the U.S. industry acts. It's just certainly they have a different political environment, and they're much more willing to use that information to really.
Well, it wasn't just that they banned Huawei devices, but they also banned them from using Google. That's when I thought, wow, this is really what do they know, or what has been
Google?
Yeah.
Well, Google has no. So Android. You're talking about
they can't use the Android operating system anymore. They have to now. They've developed their own operating system, and now they have their own ecosystem. They have their own app store. The whole deal.
Yeah, but that's also that's a business. It's Google's control over. Google's producing the software, Android, and it's just free. They're releasing it, but they want to maintain some control over the ecosystem because it's their thing that they're producing. And so they have a lot of requirements about it. They can run Android. Oh, you want all this other stuff that we make? It's not part of just the stock free thing. Play services and all the Google stuff. And increasingly, more and more of Android is just getting shoved into this proprietary bit. And they're like, okay, you want access to this? Then it's going to cost you in these ways. And I think it probably got to the point where we're not going to pay. either monetarily or through whatever compromise they would have to make, and they were just like, we're going to do our own thing.
I thought it was because of the State Department's
It
boycott.
could have also been that there was a legal requirement that they stopped doing it.
Yeah, I think I might be. Jamie will find out. I think I might be right, but I'm not sure though. But it just made me think. Like I understand that there's a sort of a connection that can't be broken between business and government in China, and that business and government are united. It's not like like Apple and the FBI, right? Where in China they would just give them. The phone.
Of course, yeah. They developed them.
Yeah, they would help. Yeah, they would have the tools to get into it. They wouldn't have to have this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. They just send it directly to the people.
What we're terrified of is that these relationships that business and government have in this country, they're getting tighter and tighter intertwined. And we look at a country like China that does have this sort of inexorable connection between business and government, and we're terrified that we're going to be like that someday.
What was?
Yeah.
Elijah
Yeah, it's just it. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I think a lot of what
I
Snowden
let
was
those
revealing.
men
Is like there are already these relationships. The NSA called it PRISM, and that company just called it like the consoles or that they built for these requests. But it's it's happening, and I don't. Also, it's sort of like I think a lot of nations look at China and are envious, right? Like, they've done this thing where they just
6 dead.
They don't like the Great Firewall of China, and that has served them in a lot of ways. One, surveillance, obviously, like
negligent soldier.
That's what I'm just also about moderation. Propaganda, like it allows them to have their own
couldn't
economy,
stay.
Where like China is large enough that they can have their own ecosystem. Where like
It wasn't your
people don't use
fault,
Google,
Ellis.
People don't use they have their own chat apps, they have their own search engines, they have their own social networks, they have their own everything. And I think a lot of people look at China and they're just like, oh, that's kind of smart. It's like you have your own ecosystem, your own infrastructure you control, and you have like the ability to do content moderation, and you have the ability to do surveillance. And so I think here is that there's going to be like a balkanization of things. Russia will be next. Every country that has an economy.
See this knife?
Will go somewhere.
I remember holding it against my wrist.
It seems like there's a couple things that happened that from what you're saying, but directly it seems to be
Sweeping
wanting to
crackdown
end
on
it
facial
all,
recognition.
to
House and
silence
Senate
the
Democrats on Tuesday rolled out legislation to halt federal use of facial recognition
Weak.
software and require state and local authorities to pause any use of the technology to receive federal funding. The
I
Facial
should've
Recognition and
listened from the
Biometric Technology
start. That's what set me
Moratorium
free.
Act introduced Thursday. March one of the most
understands.
ambitious crackdowns on This has to do with that?
It said it was part of this boycott that had to do with Google's antitrust suit that also had to do with Facebook, and they were looking into it. This is from like a month ago.
I mean, I think this is connected to what you're saying, just in the sense that like, the people who are producing that facial recognition technology, it's not the government. It's Palantir, whoever sells services to the government, and then the government is then deploying this technology that they're getting from industry, and in kind of crazy ways. Like there's a story of the Black Lives Matter protester who was the police, like NYPD, not like FBI, NYPD like tracked into his house using facial recognition technology, and so
How do they do that?
There's a story about it.
I've been finding stories. No one knows what these things are. There's things supposedly all over New York City and Manhattan that are tracking everybody's face as soon as they go in there. And I've watched news videos from local media asking people, have you seen these? What are they? They get no answers.
Well, here's what's hilarious. Crime has never been higher. New York City crime right now is insane. That shit's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's wearing a mask, too. That's also part of the problem.
But I think, the fear is that, like, so there's this, like, circle of, like, industry-producing technology that is going to government. And, like, stuff like facial recognition technology just makes existing power structures much more difficult to contest.
Do you use facial recognition on your phone?
No, I don't have any apps or anything to use it.
You don't know with your iPhone?
Oh, no, I just have a pen. Yeah.
Oh, you don't use it. What's going on, Jimmy? New York City Police Department uses facial recognition software to track down a Black Lives Matter activist accused of assault after allegedly shouting into a police officer's ear with a bullhorn. That's it? What about that guy who punched Rick Moranis? You fucks.
They found him.
They did?
Yeah,
Where
like
is
last
he?
week. Right in jail, but they did find him.
How'd they find him?
They have facial recognition, Joe.
But he wear a mask.
No.
Anyway. Listen, I think what you're doing is very important, and I love the fact that you approach things the way you do, and that you really are this idealistic person that's not trying to make money off of this stuff, and you're doing it because you think it's the right thing to do. And if there is a resistance, people like you are very important. Like what you've done by creating Signal, it's very important. There's not a lot of other options, and there's no other options that I think are as secure or as viable.
Thank you. Thanks.
I
appreciate you saying that.
And I support it, and I try to tell other people to use it as well. Last word. You have anything to say to everybody before we wrap this up?
It's a lot of pressure.
Sorry.
Can I put out a public plea for a project I'm trying to work on?
Sure.
Okay, I'm vaguely obsessed with this thing that happened in the 60s. Are you familiar with the Soviet space dogs? So the first animal in space was a dog.
Yeah.
Named Laika. Laika died in space, sadly. The second animal in space was a dog called Strelka. Strelka went to space, made it back to Earth, and had puppies.
Whoa, those puppies can read minds.
When Khrushchev came to visit JFK in 1965, he brought with him the ultimate insult gift, which was one of the puppies.
That's an insult?
Oh, dude. It's like, oh, do you have anything that's been to space? We have extra puppies. You know, do you want one? You know?
That's an insult?
Dude, it's the ultimate insult gift. Like, the United States
Wow.
had no space program, had never, the Soviet Union was like way ahead of them. They're like, oh, we just got extra animals that have been to space. Like, here, have one, you know?
It's a puppy. Stop being so personal. That's what I would tell Kennedy. Just take the puppy,
Well,
bro.
Kennedy took the puppy. Kennedy took the puppy. The puppy had a Cold War romance with one of Kennedy's dogs, and they had puppies.
Oh, snap.
The Kennedys called the Pupniks. And the Pupniks captivated the imagination of children across America because Jackie Kennedy said something. She was like, I don't know what we're going to do with the dogs, you know? And that ignited a spontaneous letter writing campaign from children across America who all requested one of the puppies. Jackie Kennedy selected 2 children in America whose names were Mark Bruce and Karen House. And she delivered 2 puppies to each of these people. One of them lived in Missouri, the other lived in Illinois. And I have sort of been obsessed with the idea that those puppies had puppies, and that those puppies had puppies, and that somewhere in the American Midwest today are the descendants of the original animals in space. The first animal to go to space and survive.
They've probably been watered down so heavily.
Maybe, but like
Chihuahuas, German Shepherds and shit.
Well, they were all they were
there
mutts.
they are, right there.
They were mutts. They were random dogs that they found from around the like spaceport because they thought that they would be like tougher.
Oh wow.
There you
but they're
go,
small.
buddy.
And so yeah, I've been obsessed with the idea that these dogs could still be out there, and I've been trying to find the dogs. So I've been trying to track down these 2 people, notably Karen House, because she got the female dog, and I think she's still alive, and I think she lives in the Chicago area, but I can't get in touch with her because I'm not an investigative journalist. I don't know how to do this. Whatever. So if anybody knows anything about the whereabouts of Karen House or the descendants of the Soviet space dogs, I'm very interested. My goal is just to meet one. You know.
How should someone get in touch with you?
I'm on the internet. Yeah,
Okay.
Moxie.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I'm on the internet. My name is Moxie. I love it. Thanks, man. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
People don't like it. There's also the legality question, though. America's role in the world, and says the way we are going to meet this challenge of rising international competition is the way we became such a great power historically, and that's by growing our population with more openness to immigrants, doing more to support parents and young families, and then everything that comes downstream from that. You know, where are people going to live, how are we going to get around, how are we going to solve those problems.
How much pushback have you gotten from this idea? Because it seems like a lot of people think that overpopulation is a giant problem, and then when you say we should triple plus the amount of people in the United States we want to compete with the rest of the world, I would imagine a lot of people are like, what are you smoking, Matthew Iglesias?
No, I mean, the book's really good, so everyone who reads it is just like, oh, you convinced me. And
At least you're humble.
There's no pushback at all. Yes, there is concern about overpopulation. That's something that, you know, so there's people from the right, they don't like immigrants, they don't like immigration.
Why
they
is
see it
that?
through that
Let's start with that.
What?
Because this is a country of immigrants. It's a very strange thing to have a country that is entirely comprised of people who came from somewhere else other than Native Americans, right? Entirely comprised. And yet, there's a giant population that doesn't like immigrants.
Yeah, I mean, look, some of it's a question of taste. You know, people like different places, people like different kinds of things. I think the best parts of America are places that have a lot of people from different places. To me, you know, whether that's Austin, where we are, New York, where I'm from, it's like, it's cool. Like, that's America at its best. Some people don't like it. There's also the legality question, though, right? Starting in the 1980s and 1990s, we built up a substantial group of people who were living here illegally. I'm for, you know what?
It started in the 80s? Is that when it really started?
Yeah, I mean, that's when it really took off.
Was it because the regulations were made more stringent?
Well, so what happened was in 1996, they changed the law. IRERA is the acronym for it. And they made it a lot harder for people who had come here without papers to, quote unquote, get legal. So even if you put roots down, even if you were married to an American citizen, there was no way to obtain legal status. They also made it harder to cross the border. So it used to be people would come over, they'd pick vegetables in California for a season, and then they just go back, right? They go back to Mexico, take their money with them, get a nice house. They made it harder to cross the border, so people would stay. And people who stayed had no way to get a legal status here. So unauthorized population, it built up, it built up, it built up. There's a movement on one side to say, well, we should create a path to citizenship for those people. Most of them, they're living here peacefully, they're working hard, they're not doing anything. That's where I stand. But there's people who say, look, you know, they broke the rules, we got to be harsh. So we've been arguing about that unauthorized immigration so viciously. And I think we've lost sight of the fact that, you know, we can just create legal pathways for people to come. You know, some people will say, well, my grandparents, my parents, whoever, they came the right way. They did it was
But it was
legal.
easy then.
Exactly. I mean, it's totally true. So my great-grandparents, they came to this country at a time when there was no restriction
Yeah,
on
my
people.
grandparents as well. They just came over from Italy. It's
Yeah.
not that hard.
So good for them, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, yes, like we should have a legal process for people to come. We can have rules, you know, try to make sure you're, like, say, you should be working age, right? You should come here, get a job, pay taxes. You can't just, like, come across and collect Social Security.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
But obviously, you're okay with children coming across as well.
Yeah.
Like, whether they're adopted once they get here, or whether they come here with their parents, or
I mean, we should make it possible, right?
yeah, we should make it possible. That's a great way of putting it.
And that's how you can not have people breaking the rules.
Yeah.
That's to me. But, you know, a lot of people on the right don't see it that way. Now, on the left, there's some folks, you know, people are concerned about the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm concerned too. I don't want to breathe polluted air. I don't want, like, cities underwater. But there's a strain of sort of eco-apocalyptic thinking, you know, where people say, oh, like, we can't handle it. Like, only degrowth is gonna save us. And I just don't think that's right. You know, I am bullish on technology, right? We've got more and more clean energy sources. We've got better and better electric cars. There's more stuff we can do with electrification. We need to take those steps, but we can have a prosperous, sustainable society that has plenty of people in it, that has high living standards, things like that. So we don't need to worry about that. A lot of Americans also just overestimate how many people are here. So 1 billion sounds like a lot. It's about triple our current population. But that would give us the population density of France, would give us about half the density of Germany, way less than half the density of the United Kingdom. And, you know, if you've ever been to the UK, it's a nice country. They got London, big city. They got countryside. They got rolling hills. They got sheep. You go up to Scotland, there's fucking nobody there. So, like, we could have all kinds of places with 1 billion Americans. Countryside, suburbs, cities, all kinds of stuff.
What's the benefit of having all those people there?
So 2 benefits, right? So one, I think internationally, you know, the United States has been like the #1 country for 100 years, give or take, right? We're the biggest dog out there. You know, everybody knows better than to mess with us. And we're losing that status. You know, we're losing that status economically to China. They're doing more stuff like, you know, telling NBA coaches like what they can do. They're censoring Hollywood. You can get into scarier stuff eventually, you know, South China Sea, naval battles. I'm not like a war guy, but yeah, you don't want that. I think we want to stay #1. And growth has been important to that historically, right? Like, why is the United States a big deal country and Canada is like, you know, like our cute little brother? And it's because a lot of people live here. You know, Canada's nice, but there's no people, no real strength there. Second, I think it'll make us a more prosperous country. What we do as modern day Americans is we do stuff for each other, right? Whether that's we make show, we write books, we teach in schools, we run restaurants, we're doing services to each other. And you get more prosperity when you have more people and more ability to sort of have those interactions.
When you're talking about China and the NBA and Hollywood movies, a lot of people think of those things, the interactions that Hollywood has and the NBA has with China as being insidious. They don't think it's a good thing at all that China has that kind of an influence, and they also think it's embarrassing. Like, a lot of people think that it's embarrassing for the NBA when the negative tweets when they're in support of Hong Kong, and then all of a sudden there was some pushback and the NBA was removed from viewership in China, and there was a lot of sponsorships being pulled, and it became a giant issue. And then all of a sudden you saw the NBA kind of backtrack and kind of kowtow, and a lot of people found that to be pretty disgusting. We don't want the United States to ever be a country that's doing that to China, right? If China has a bunch of, I don't know what they're really into over there, ping pong players, like what's their primary sport?
I don't know.
They have a lot of basketball.
Basketball, they like basketball.
So imagine if Chinese basketball becomes super popular in the United States, and then the Chinese basketball players in the United States start talking shit about how Apple uses slave labor, and we go, hey, watch your fucking mouth, bro. We won't pay for your Chinese basketball anymore. And then all of a sudden China backs off. Like, we would think of that as being pretty gross by the United States, of ignoring some human rights violations or trying to whitewash them and trying to economically attack another country. So, like, saying that it's a positive that China has all these people, and using as an example the fact that they strong-arm Hollywood and they strong-arm the NBA, a lot of people think that's moving in the wrong direction, me included. Like, I don't want
Well, no,
that.
I don't think it's positive. I'm saying we
Right.
need to be in a position to level the playing field.
But is that leveling the playing field, or will we just look? Corporations have a giant problem with infinite growth, right? Yep. This is a thing that seems completely, totally preposterous, but it's the norm and the standard in the business world. You want your growth to increase every year, no matter what, and God knows where that goes. I'm not a mathematician or an economist, but if you extrapolate and keep going with that, it leads to preposterous outcomes, right? That's what people would be worried about tenfold if there's 1 billion people here. They'd be like, oh my God, we'd be even more ruthless and more cutthroat and more, like, maybe more competitive with the rest of the world, but in what way?
Well, so here, let's talk about the China thing, right? So the NBA is under China's thumb because they need access to that market.
Do they,
Hollywood,
though?
well,
Do
they think they do.
Aren't they
right?
rich as fuck?
So we could say, right, maybe we need to have a rule that says, like, well, you know, you can't let the Chinese censor your shit, right?
Yeah.
But the relative size of the markets is going to matter, right? So we're on Spotify here, right? So that's a Swedish company, I think. So you know,
they make great meatballs, I hear.
Absolutely, it's a lovely country, right? But so Sweden's a little country, right?
Yeah.
All their companies, you know, you're talking Volvo, Scania, Spotify. They're dependent on a global marketplace. They need access.
Right.
If China is the biggest market in the world, ultimately they're going to find themselves playing by China's rules. If America stays the biggest market in the world, then we can play by our rules. And not that we should use it the way China does, right? We shouldn't say, like, no, nobody can say bad stuff about America. America, we've got a great tradition of free speech here, despite some tensions. It's a world of difference from China. And we carry so many other countries, smaller countries from Europe, Canada, Australia, on our backs in that regard. as creating a sort of cornerstone of openness as a leading market in the world. That's how it's been for so long that people don't even think about it. But if we go into a world where China's the #1 economy, where that's the #1 market, where that's what every company cares most about, China's rules, then we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble here. The Swedes are going to be in trouble. And I don't think that's a world we should look forward to.
Why do you think that increasing the population threefold is the way, or by 3 times? Is that the only way that we can be competitive in the world? Is that the only way? Or when you came to that conclusion, by ramping it up to 1 billion people, like what led you to that? Did you know you're being provocative? Was that part of what you were doing? Like, this is going to fucking piss people off a little bit.
I like to provoke. I think you may be familiar with that as an approach.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wanted to grab people's attention. You know, I didn't want to be boring. I don't like being boring. It's a nice round number. Obviously, also science delivered it. It was when I realized that 1 billion is triple. It's also if the U.S. population were to grow as fast as Canada's is growing for the next 80 years, then we hit 1 billion at the end of the century. That's the official math.
That's really?
Yeah. The reality
Canada's growing that quickly?
They're fast.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
really
people
nice. How do we do that?
Be so polite.
How would we be as nice as them?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that a goal we should work towards?
Being as nice as Canadians? Yeah, I don't know. So I'm from New York. We're a little brusque there.
But you're nice.
Kind of.
You seem like a nice guy so far.
Well, because we're here in the South now,
Oh,
so we got to be
tight-
nice.
tighten
We gotta ask Southerners how to be more polite like Canadians.
Well, one of the things that I think, and one of the things that I've said about Austin in particular, is that I love the fact that there's friendly people, and I think one of the reasons why they're friendly is there's not that many of them. They value people more. I think people get devalued when you get high population densities. I'm not saying that it has to be like Los Angeles in order to reach 3 billion or 1 billion people in this country, rather. I don't think it does, right? It's not like you're trying to turn the whole country into Los Angeles.
No.
But there's a problem with Los Angeles, and I think one of the problems with Los Angeles is there's an insane amount of people jammed into one area. And when you're on the highway, like if you drive and you have to go to Orange County and you're on the 405, you just want Godzilla to come out of the ocean and just start eating cars. You're like, this is fucking ridiculous. There's so many people, and it never ends. It's like every time you want to go, if you want to go to Orange County, say if you want to go to Disneyland or something, take your family, you gotta leave hours earlier than you think you need to. You want to be there by 5 p.m. Oh Christ, you gotta leave at like 2. You gotta leave maybe at 1:30 if you want to be safe. Leave at 1:30, and you'll be stuck in fucking insane traffic and never-ending road construction, and it never ends. And a lot of people get real testy when there's that many people. And this has been recreated in rat population density studies. I'm sure you've probably gotten into some of this when you started looking.
But the
at
rats don't really
population.
drive, though.
They don't. But it does when they have these rat population density studies. It does mimic what happens in big cities in terms of violence, in terms of mental illness. Like when you have a certain amount of rats in a large containment. You know about all this, right?
Yeah, I got it, rats. Yeah.
Yeah, but have you ever?
I have. Yeah.
Read rather any
I
of the
have.
stuff? Yeah.
So okay, so let's distinguish a couple things, right? So I'm not so sure about the friendliness, right? Because you ever into like, I don't want to cast aspersions, but you ever into like New Hampshire, like small towns up there? People there, they're kind of assholes.
We kind of keep to ourselves up here.
Yeah, so people are friendly here, but there's some small town weirdos up in New England.
I like to hear about that as well.
Los Angeles, now the traffic, right on. Every time I go to Southern California, I think, oh man, this weather's nice. People here must be happy all the time. And then I try to meet up with somebody, and I get on the road.
Yeah.
It's a fucking nightmare.
It's a fucking nightmare.
So that's gonna make people mad. Now the rats, right? So what they're studying there, I think, is crowding. Which is not exactly the same as density, because we build buildings, right? So people in New York have small houses by American standards, but big houses by European standards or Japanese standards, right? We're still taking up space because we're sort of building structures. So I think we have to look at what we're doing with our housing laws, with our land use laws. One of the reasons Texas has been such a center of growth, so many people are coming here, is that the Texas legal framework actually lets you come here, right? You want to throw up some houses in the Austin area, Houston, Dallas, you can do it. So you can get affordable space, and more people are coming in, and it's an asset for the state, right? Like people like you, all kinds of folks come in here. The governor brags about it all the time. I think Hewlett Packard is coming to Houston or something, and it's really good. It's a big kind of success story. And in California, they got terrible problem where a lot of people want to go there because it's nice. California's nice, right? But they can't find a place to live. They can't get space, and they can't sort out their transportation infrastructure. Los Angeles poured all this money into building out the LA Metro, but then they didn't align their zoning, so people don't live near the stations.
Right.
So nobody rides the thing.
Well, it's also there's a culture of driving your own vehicle that's been firmly established in Los Angeles. It's very difficult to get people to deviate from their habits.
Yeah. But also, you can't take a train if it doesn't go where you're going.
Right.
If you don't live by it, right? Yeah. So, my cousin, she was taking the metro to work for a while, and good for her. But it was like very unusual. I live in DC now. A lot of people ride the metro there, right? And it's people from all over. People are used to cars. But when you have a well-designed system where people live near the stations, where the jobs are near, where they come together, people do it. It's convenient. You can, read a book, something like that. Well, we don't want to encourage people to read in their commutes. Stick to the podcast.
Well, listen, if you can, but whatever you want. I mean, you can make a great argument for it being far more relaxing. All you have to do is just sit down. You don't have to think about traffic.
Right, you zone out.
You zone out. You can read a book, like you said. You can read the paper. Want to kill yourself? You could
watch on your phone. Whatever it is you got.
There's plenty of things you can do, and it can be. I have friends that live in Westchester, and they take public
that Metro North
transportation.
down. Yeah,
and it's great. I used to do it when I lived in New Rochelle. Did it all the time. Yeah.
New Rochelle.
Yeah, I used to live in New Rochelle.
Well, there you go. Nice place. So, so I think that there's ways to create those kind of like, low-key virtues. People have nice sized houses, people have nice commutes, while also having growth, right? And having some sustainability. But the other thing is that, like, we as a country need to get along with each other more than we have been doing lately.
For sure.
And I do think that focusing on what brings us together versus some of the other governments out there, and on the possibilities of growth, like actually helps do that. Like I'm a liberal person, a left-of-center person.
Me as well.
But I get pushback from people, you know, quote unquote, on my side, just about the idea of patriotism in the book, the idea of national greatness, the idea that America should want to be number one.
Right.
But I think that's something that's important to a lot of people, moderate people, conservative people.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad
And I
thing.
don't think it has to be xenophobic either.
Well, and I think it's part of inclusiveness, right? Like what holds this country together, people with different religions, people with different ethnic backgrounds, people with different ideas, is loyalty to, you know, certain concepts, right? Like high-level political concepts. And it's not bad to be a little corny and, you know, wave the flag a little bit if that's how, like, we can all be Americans together.
Right.
And to me, that's important, you know, and I was surprised doing some of the virtual touring on this at how much conservative people were like, wow, I can't believe you wrote this book, and how much some people on the left were just skeptical of not like the specific ideas, but of the general concept of like wanting America to be awesome.
A positive feeling about nationalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, nationalism, when you say the word, something's happened over the last decade where you say the word nationalism and somehow it gets it gets equated, at least peripherally or in the neighborhood of white nationalism. It's like, it's one of those weird words, you know, like if you say, you know, I'm a Texas chauvinist, like, what do you mean? Do you hate women? Like, no, I just think Texas is the best.
Right.
Like, people get mad at you because it's too close to male chauvinist. Like, male chauvinist is a common phrase. If you say you're a patriot, people go, oh, great, you're stockpiling food and guns and you're ready to take over and you only like white people, right? Like, that's
No,
it's
and,
weird
and it
things.
should be the opposite, right? That
Yes.
if you think about, you know, the history of white nationalism in America, right? It's an anti-American movement. This is
100%.
the Abraham Lincoln is an American nationalist, right? And, you know, in civil rights, Martin Luther King is appealing to the values of the Declaration of Independence. This is a country, e pluribus unum. Obviously, America, like, bad things have happened. We have not lived up to those ideals, but those are the ideals of America. What it is to be an American nationalist is to believe in that kind of human equality,
And not abandon it.
universal rights,
Right.
and it's antithetical to the sort of racist and exclusionary visions that people have. But it's important to hold to that, right? To that notion of an inclusive nation that has a national identity, I think, rather than sort of surrender the idea to the most right-wing people.
Yeah, I think the idea of America should be like the greatest house party ever. Like, everybody can come over. That's what it should be. It should, white nationalism is just fucking stupid. I mean, you're just fools. Like, the idea that only melanin, that's what counts, and only European heritage, that's what counts. Everything else, like, it's nonsense. It's one of the dumbest ideas ever. And then it's also it's a scared person's version of America. And the problem with the concept of nationalism being equated to white nationalism, like, you're giving that word up to cowards. Like, white nationalists, you're a coward. You're afraid of, what are you afraid of? You're afraid of brown people, black people, yellow people? You only like white people. I only like people who look similar to me. That's one of the dumbest ideas of all time. And the fact that that idea is still, it's so prevalent that you have to argue against it. That it's one of those things, like, you know, it's real. Like, until Charlottesville happened, when you see those guys walking with the tiki torches going, they will not replace us. Like, I was like, that's never going to happen again. If that hadn't happened, I would have said, there's no way, after the civil rights movement, after all we've been through, particularly today with the internet and the way people can exchange ideas, there's no fucking chance you're gonna have a bunch of assholes that only think that America is supposed to be about white people and they're walking down the street with Home Depot torches. It's like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you
So
know, the whole replace us thing, right? Like, it's so insecure, you know, because you go to France, right? And they're paranoid that our, like, McDonald's and our fucking movies are going to take over and like replace their culture. But like, nobody is replacing us. Like, it's our American culture is awesome.
Yeah,
and
it
like,
is,
it
but it's also-
dominates everywhere.
But
And
they
peop-
will not replace us. Well, they will if you suck. Like, are you
Yeah,
saying
well,
you should be allowed to suck and be white?
We're gonna replace those guys.
Yeah,
but you know, but it's like nobody.
That's really the irony, right? Like, if you think like that, bitch, you're gonna get replaced.
But you know, but people who come here, right? People come from Latin America, people come from Africa, historically people come from Europe, now more and more people from Asia. They don't replace anybody when they come in, right? It's an additive thing. You know, there's like cool stuff. I went in the suburbs of DC, there's a lot of Vietnamese people, a lot of Vietnamese restaurants out there. The last time I went out to get a banh mi place, there was a Cajun, Viet Cajun crawfish broil thing, which comes from Houston. Because Vietnamese people came there, Louisiana people came to Houston. They got this fusion cuisine. Now they exported it to other Vietnamese enclaves around America.
God damn it,
And
Matt, you make me hungry. That sounds fucking great.
Someday someone's going to open one of those places in Ho Chi Minh City. You know, like it's gonna come back out. Like there's, I mean, I went to Shanghai and I met somebody there whose idea was they were starting a business that had fortune cookies, because that shit's American,
right?
You know, but it's cool.
So fortune cookies came from America. They added it to American Chinese food.
Yeah.
No, okay, well, that makes sense.
It's a friend of mine, Jenny 8 Lee. She wrote a book called Fortune Cookie Chronicles.
You want to talk
it's about Chinese food. It's really the only. I wish I could write a book about Chinese food, but it's a fascinating subject. Fortune cookies, 100% American.
It seems like an American thing, but you want to talk about an industry that clearly has had no growth. The fortune cookie industry is stagnated. The English is so bad. Still, the fortunes aren't even fortunes. Like my fucking 10-year-old read a fortune cookie the other day. She goes, "How is this a fortune?"
Well, if you made the English good, people would realize it's not Chinese. You gotta
so
gotta
it's on
fake
purpose?
it. I don't know.
Maybe you're right.
I'm just bullshit.
You might know. I think I agree with you. You might have a point. That might really be why they made it bad.
I think it's why. I mean, you could hire somebody to write a fortune in English. That's not hard.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
But it's also, they're not fucking fortunes, man. Like a lot of times they're like, a stitch in time saves 9. What the fuck? Like I got robbed.
But they got lottery numbers. Though. You
they
play
do.
those lotto numbers and you get rich. That's my tip to you out there.
God, it's so dumb. And it's also not a delicious cookie. I'm gonna
Yes.
say it.
Okay.
If fortune cookies were for sale and they didn't have a fortune inside of them, they would never survive. Right? It's like Chick-fil-A's everywhere. You know what you don't see? Turkey fillet. Turkey can't survive without Thanksgiving. If it wasn't for Thanksgiving, the turkey industry would be fucked. They rely on one day a year.
Well, but also sandwiches. People get like a turkey sandwich at the deli.
Boring people.
Yeah.
Boring people that are afraid of like salami.
You ever been? So I went years ago. I went to I was in southern Mexico, in Oaxaca, and I went to a restaurant there, and there was just turkey on the menu.
Just turkey?
And no. I mean, it's not only turkey, but there was turkey dish on the menu, right? And it threw me for a fucking loop because who eats turkey?
Right.
Outside of Thanksgiving, right? But apparently in Mexico and Central America, it's like a thing. That's where turkeys are from. It's the turkey with the mole poblano, and it's pretty good. But
that does sound
but it
good.
goes to show it's a kind of flavorless meat.
Right, but they use
you get
the
that
strong Mexican spices.
Yeah, you get that
to
big
jazz it up.
sauce on it. And that's what makes it work. So
Tracks in.
sometime next year, maybe I'll get my mole Thanksgiving.
Well, what I do is with leftovers, I take leftover Thanksgiving turkey and I just take a plate and dunk some habanero sauce all over the plate and then dip the pieces of turkey and then habanero sauce and woo!
There you go.
Now you got a party.
It's all happening.
Yeah, but that with mole sauce, that sounds good. Now I'm seeing the flavors come together. I made a turkey this year and I brined it for the first time.
Yeah.
I've never brined a turkey.
That's what the experts say.
It was sensational.
Yeah.
It was so good. Turkey's a thing though that's really best served right after you get it out of the oven. I think it's really best served like while it's still really hot. But while it was hot, it was so juicy. It was the juiciest turkey I cooked it on a Traeger grill, which is like a
I was
pellet
gonna
grill.
say, my friend's got a smoker. He makes smoked turkeys. Those are good. They're juicy. They're fucking great.
It was so
and then you
good.
get some turkey out of your oven.
Yeah, it's kind of dry.
sucks.
It's a different kind of heat. And it's like there's something about cooking with that indirect heat from the smoke. Like it's not like cooking over a regular grill, because the smoke is really doing all the cooking for you. It's almost like they seal so good that it's like you're not losing moisture and you've got this amazing retention of heat and so the temperature stays at a good. But having the turkey brined first, man, that made such a big difference. It was so juicy and it made me think like, okay, so hey assholes, if you just do this with all turkeys, then people would be ordering turkey all over the place.
Just brine it.
And they would say how great this turkey is.
Just brine
But if you're a restaurant and you have turkey on the menu and you have turkey right next to like a T-bone steak, people are like,
Give me a steak all the
yeah,
time.
I'm not having turkey.
I agree. I'm not a turkey guy.
Yeah,
I don't know how we got it.
But chicken is delicious. Chicken is like chicken. Here's a weird thing with chicken. It used to be expensive.
Yeah.
Like there's one of the I think it was
listening to
which
you.
president it was running for office, and one of his promises was a chicken in every pot.
That was Hoover, right? Was going to give us a chicken in every pot. And then we got the Depression.
Yeah.
But yeah, chicken was high end. Now, unfortunately, my knowledgeable friends say that the chickens are in horrifically cruel conditions.
Many
and
are.
That's how they got so cheap. So
That's true.
I don't know.
But you can buy free-range chickens.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure that you're ethical in your pursuit of where your chickens are grown.
Find the good ones.
Yeah, but even then.
Be a backyard chicken person.
Being a backyard chicken
like the
person.
weirdos in Portland.
Yeah, I was a backyard chicken person, but it turned into a coyote apocalypse. Those motherfuckers, they killed all my chickens slowly. It took a long time, but they eventually got them all. We also went through a fire, and the fire actually burned down our chicken coops, but the chickens got out. While the fire was burning their chicken coop, it created a hole, and they got out, and they were wandering around the yard, and so we saved them from that and then put them into a smaller chicken coop. But the area that we lived in, there was so much fire that I think the amount of animals was greatly reduced. And the coyotes, they got very clever, and they literally pulled the chicken wire off of the chicken coop and created a small hole big enough for them to get inside, and then it was a slaughter fest.
That's why I stay in big cities. I'm afraid of the coyotes.
Oh, that's the problem. Coyotes are everywhere now. They're in every city in the country.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Coyotes are a fascinating animal. If you want to really get into what happens when animals get pressured and like different methods of adaptation, there's a great book by Dan Flores called Coyote America, and it's all about the coyote and how one of the reasons why they spread across the country, they were persecuted first by wolves. Like when wolves would encounter coyotes, they would kill the coyotes.
Wolves are bullying them?
They killed them because they were competing for food. So the coyotes learned how to spread their range, and they also developed this method of roll call. Like wolves do it as well. They howl and they find out where everybody is. When coyotes do it, when the female coyotes recognize that coyotes are missing, all of a sudden her egg production ramps up, and she gives birth to more pups. So when more coyotes are missing, they don't just come in estrus. They actually produce more puppies. And so then they expand the range. So they were originally persecuted in the West. That's where they really existed, in the Southwest and the West. Now they're in New York City. They're everywhere.
So that's going to be the
Chicago.
sequel. 1 billion coyotes.
Dude, there's a fat one living on my block. He is fucking fat. My friend showed me a picture of it. I was like, oh my God. Look at the size of this coyote. He's like a well-fed dog. There's so many deer out here.
Yeah.
I guess they're just eating fawns and and whatever else they can find because there's a lot of wildlife in Texas. But yeah, coyotes are they're literally in every city. Every San Francisco's coyotes, everywhere.
Now I'm scared.
Houston, coyotes.
Now I'm scared.
Yeah.
Scared to leave the house.
Don't be
scared of anything.
Don't be scared.
Scared to come on here, I think.
Will you?
I'm going to get canceled.
You think so?
Yeah, again.
Are you really worried about that?
Well, people are mad at you. Me too.
People are mad.
You're not afraid of it?
Yeah, people are mad. They're mad about everything. They're not necessarily mad about actual content. They're mad about perceptions. They're mad about what they want you to be versus what you actually are sometimes, And then you're dealing with it's not a large number of people that are mad. It's a small number of very aggressive people that want to affect the way you do things and want to change the way you talk and change who you talk to and change what you do. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, I was, so I've been promoting the book for a while, doing different shows, going on different things. Mostly, liberal people read me, I guess. Then I went on Ben Shapiro's show, and...
Did you cancel for that?
Well, it's just like a lot of people yelling at me. They're like, why'd you go on that guy's show? I said, well, it's a big show.
Yeah, and you want to...
A lot of people listen to it.
You want to have a debate with this guy about some of these ideas.
You want to introduce yourself to as many people as you can. Like, you don't get to be, like, I want to sell books.
Yeah.
I want people to listen to my podcast. I want people to read my website. I want to talk to different people. I want to reach different audiences. And that just seems to me, 10 years ago, everybody would think that was obvious.
Yes.
Right? Not that, like, everyone agrees with everybody, but of course,
But
you want to
Matthew,
go on the biggest shows you can get
most
booked on.
people today still think that's obvious.
Yes.
It's just a small percentage of people that have got into this idea of platforming and deplatforming and going on someone's platform and, and amplifying someone's broadcast. Like, there's all these terms that people are using now that is really just, it's separatism in a weird way. It's ideological separatism. And what we're doing is we're taking these echo chambers and putting walls up around them and, enforcing it by yelling at people and being angry at people for having, like my friend Tim Dillon had a podcast recently with Candace Owen. And he's like, holy shit, dude, the blowback was like stunning. So many people were angry with him talking to her. And maybe some of it was angry that he didn't push back on some of the things that she said that they believe are untrue or biased or distorted or what have you. But I think conversations with people that have fundamentally different values are important for us. It's interesting to watch how a person's thought process expands. Like, how do you think about things? Why do you think about this?
Well, and there's a fantasy that you can sort of make disagreement go away if you, try to shut down certain cultural avenues. I mean, I think you saw that a lot in the election that just happened, and you continue to see it in politics, that it's frustrating to people that they can't just win everything and have all their ideas go through.
And shut you up.
Right.
Yeah.
But, in the electoral arena as well as anyplace else, but it's just true that, like, there's a big country, there's a lot of people in it, people have some different ideas, some different values. You don't need to agree with them. And, of course, in an election, like, it's vote. You try to win, right? You try to get more votes than the other guy. But conservatives aren't going to go away. Progressive people aren't going to go away. We're going to continue to exist as an ethnically diverse society. We're going to continue to exist as a society with some very traditionalistically minded people. And we have to find stuff that we can make headway on. And the only way to have that kind of headway is to be communicating. Because you don't actually know what exactly you agree or disagree about until you kind of have the dialogue, right? If you go hunting around to say, okay, this thing that this person said is so outrageous that I got to just write them off. Well, okay, you write them off, but they're still just right over there.
Right.
Like,
well,
nothing.
They're not, though. In some cases.
And you can blind yourself.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, one of the reasons why people have this perception that it's a good idea to not go on someone's platform and not talk to people. Whoa, good save. Good reflexes, buddy. Is because some people have been deplatformed. People like Milo Yiannopoulos and Gavin McInnes and Alex Jones. And there's people that have been removed from these significant portals, whether it's YouTube or Twitter. And so people, they understand that that's effective. And now they want to expand that. And once they learn how to do that, then they want to do it to others. I mean, I've seen people argue for people being deplatformed for just having dumb ideas. Like, you should deplatform him. I've literally seen that in podcasts. And it's so frustrating. It's like, God, that's not how to handle things. Like, we're supposed to have debates. We're supposed to have discussions. And I think because we've accepted this idea of censorship and deplatforming as a viable alternative to listening to things that upset you, just get rid of them. Shut them off. Well, that's this. And also, that reinforces the echo chamber. It's people with a very limited understanding of history in terms of, like, what happens when you do that to people, and also a very limited understanding of just general human nature. The best way to get people to listen to your point of view is to express it eloquently and accurately and in a way that resonates. You say something to the people that are listening that they might be on one side or another. I mean, there's a lot of people that are kind of left and kind of right, and something can come along and they go, well, and they like doing this. They like going, well, fuck this, I'm Trump now, or fuck this, Biden's my man now, Trump's got to go. And it could be one thing. There's a lot of people that don't have nuanced perspectives. They don't have an educated, long-term idea of what people are and how to communicate. And I watched a debate yesterday with William F. Buckley and Noam Chomsky, and it's from 1970 or something. I don't know when it's from. And it's amazing conversation. It's amazing because you have two completely opposing viewpoints. You have William F. Buckley, who's this kind of pompous right-wing guy, and you have Noam Chomsky, who was young and vital. Noam Chomsky, and it was amazing watching Noam Chomsky shut down William F. Buckley's ideas and have him challenge the points where Buckley was wrong on. And it's a great fucking conversation. And there's a lot of people today that would not want that conversation because Noam Chomsky would be Ben Shapiro or whoever, and you'd be like, oh my God, why is Noam Chomsky, William F. Buckley would be Ben Shapiro,
why are you going
and
on?
Noam Chomsky would be on that show. People go, why are you doing that? You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't give them a platform. You shouldn't go on their platform. But God damn it, that's how people learn that your perspective is better, or your perspective resonates more, or your perspective makes more sense.
Well, what I think really ideological people don't understand is that most people, like the technical term political scientists call it, is they're cross-pressured, right? So, like, you have some ideas that fit one way, some ideas that fit another way. You have some identities that go one way, some that go another way, right? And so people change over time, right? And you have voters who voted for Barack Obama, right? And then they vote for Donald Trump 4 or 8 years later. And then people who are really ideological, they say, like, well, Trump, like, he said all these outrageous racist things. So all these people who vote for them, they must be racist too. And you're like, oh, okay, but like they voted for the black guy 4 years ago. Like, how racist could they be?
That's
They're like, no,
impossible.
it's racist. And then 4 years later,
What?
well,
No.
Trump's actually gained some Latino support, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so they're white supremacists too, but like, no, right? And probably they don't agree with what
Bullet?
Trump said about Mexican immigrants,
Bullet,
right?
where
I
are
find
you?
it very unlikely that Mexican-American Trump supporters
Bullet?
agree that Mexico is sending murderers and rapists.
Bullet?
But there's a lot of issues in politics. Maybe they agree with Trump about guns.
Hey, Bullet!
Maybe they agree with Trump about
Wait
abortion.
up!
Maybe they agree with Trump about, I don't know what, right?
Deregulation,
There's just like a
business.
lot
Bullet!
of shit happening, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can convince people to care about what you're aligned with them on, you know, you win,
Hold
right?
on,
And if you can
boy,
come
I'm
across
coming.
as the kind of friendly coalition that's like, hey, you agree with some of our stuff, get on the bandwagon,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
That's good, you win like that. And you're not going to get anywhere by telling everyone about
gonna be
how
fine.
much you don't want them.
Let me just
Right, participating,
Yeah.
being like, wow, you know, if you're not with me on everything,
Yeah.
like you're dead to me. That's not how politics works. It's not how persuasion works.
No.
And it's not how interesting media works. You don't learn anything from shows like that, books like that, things
No,
like that,
and
and it's frustrating to me.
It's also, there's a tendency to embrace this polarization and to almost like solidify it. Like even AOC after the election wanted everybody to put together a list of people that were supporting Trump and that voted for Trump and donated to Trump. I'm like, Jesus Christ, are you really asking people to make lists? You know where this goes? Like, how is this possible that a
I don't know.
congresswoman-
I don't know what kind of list she wanted.
She wanted a list of sycophants.
I don't remember, but
That was what she said. She wanted a list of sycophants.
Oh, of like Trump
sycophants.
So we could,
Yeah.
so we can
Fucking
them out or
make sure they
something.
don't work. That's what a lot of it is. Make sure those people are polarized. Like these are the people that aren't on our side. These are the people that we have to shit on. And if you support them, you support all these negative things. You support homophobia, racism, xenophobia. Go down the list, and then I don't want to support that. So you get bullied into a perspective.
You know, I got mixed feelings because I cover politics, so it's
Mm-hmm.
good for me when people get more geared up about national politics, right? Like,
Right.
The more people care, like that's gravy for me. But I do think it's like not healthy, right? I mean, I want to go back to a time when people felt that the political arena was like for boring nerds, and you know, so and you could talk
So you wanna go
about
back when it's like when you're into a band and then the band becomes big.
hipsters.
You're
Yeah.
like,
No, but
"Oh,
no,
they
but not
fucking
like
sold
that.
out."
Not that I want to be like a Congress hipster. No, it's that like the more people care about politics. I mean, it's good to be engaged. It's good that people vote. It's
I
good
think
that people.
what you're saying is you
turn
want
out.
people to actually understand what they're arguing about, and the people that are going to actually understand what politics are all about are going to be really into it.
But also to have limits, right? To just be able to say, all right, now I'm talking about my favorite band. Now I'm talking about my favorite basketball team, and I'm like not bringing politics into all of it, right? That it's like it's not. Again, I say it's like it's good for me for people to turn politics into an all-consuming hobby, but I don't think it's healthy for them or for like
Anybody
society.
else, yeah.
It's one of the greatest things. It's one of the last bastions we have. Is that, you know, everybody in a given city usually roots for the football team. You know, black, white, Latino, young, old, religious, secular. So you know it's Democrats and Republicans who are in there. They're all rooting for the team. It's fine to me that, you know, athletes, you become famous, you want to use your platform, you want to do good. I mean, that's great. But it's good to see people care passionately about hating the Dallas Cowboys rather than an ideological disagreement. I mean, it's DC, so you know,
I know what you're saying.
our team's rivals with the Cowboys. It's cool to see those kind of cross-cutting things exist in society, but we have like fewer of them, right? It seems like if you like you buy a car and that's going to be a political statement based on what, and I know, so it's like I drive a Prius, right? So people see me coming and it's like they know who I'm voting for based on that, right? And it's not wrong, but I don't think it's good, you know? Like it would be better to be just more random.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, the more ways that we can separate people, the more separating we're gonna have. It's like, it is true that if you look at a Prius, I mean, I would like to see like a breakdown, like a pie chart.
How many Prius owners voted for Trump? It's like it can't be a lot, right?
Right. It's like what? I wonder what the number is. It's probably like less. It's probably single digits.
I mean, it can't be a lot. I would be if somebody rolled up in a Prius and got out and had a MAGA hat on. Like my mind would be fucking blown.
That
Right?
sounds like something that a provocative comedian would do. If someone was just
But it's weird, right? Like, is
silly.
that healthy for society that we feel like we can infer so much about somebody for something totally? It's like I wanted a reliable car.
Right.
They got good gas mileage.
Yeah.
And that fit in I've got this tiny ass garage, so like most cars won't even fit in there, but my Prius does. So you know that's good. Good for me.
My friend Greg has a Prius. I shit on him all the time for it, but it's a good car. Bill Burr, my buddy Bill Burr, had a Prius forever. They're not the worst cars in the world. They're super reliable. They just
It's
look like
boring,
shit.
it's boring.
But it's transportation. Look, if I was looking for something to take me to and from the city, and I had to park in small spots, and it's ideal.
That's
It's
what
better
I'm
than a
saying.
smart car.
That's what I'm
Those things
saying.
are ridiculous. Like that's too small, right?
Smart car.
That's too small. See, even Prius is shit on smart cars, right? That's the real question. How many smart car owners voted for Trump? Fucking zero.
Nobody in America.
Fucking
owns
zero.
those,
They
do
do. I've seen those. I've seen them. Smart cars. Yeah.
I was in Germany one time. I was in this like little van with some American journalist, German guy driving, and the alley's blocked because it's just like a smart car and it's not parked correctly. So it's up in our way, and the German guy's like, "Well, we're gonna have to wait." And the Americans are like, "We don't have to wait." He's like, "No, you gotta wait." And this lady, you know, she was like, "I don't either." She was like, "No, the young guys, you guys get out of the van, pick the smart car up, and just move it to the side." And the German guy's like, "No, it's not possible. It's not possible." She's like, "Matt, go." And so we go up. You know, it's this tiny fucking car, so we just pick it up, move it a few feet over, or like a meter, I guess they would say over there. Go right by.
They're
And
like, this is astounding.
he's
What
like, "It's
have
not
you
possible."
done?
And then she says to him, she's like, "You know, this is why you guys lost the war."
Oh shit.
It was real ugly
shit.
American stuff.
That's so rude.
It was.
She's trying to be funny, obviously.
But
did he laugh?
We moved the car. He did not. Germans are not.
They're a bit stoic.
Yeah, well, also, look, they're sensitive on that subject. And I guess rightly so.
They've outlawed Scientology.
Have they?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Scientology.
Really?
I mean, there's Thetans. That's what I know.
Oh, yeah.
And Tom Cruise.
Well, they're not into cults. You know?
Okay.
So if anything is demonstrably a cult, like if they can look at something and go, oh, I see where you're going here.
Yeah,
like,
that's out.
Yeah, they're pretty sure that's true. Google that. Germany has outlawed Scientology. Yeah, I found a Scientology channel the other day. I didn't know it existed. Flipping through the channels, or maybe I knew and I forgot. Fucking DirecTV has a Scientology channel. I saw this very unhealthy looking lady talking about like what is possible because of being a Scientologist. I'm like, what is this? Who is she talking to? I'm like, why is no one disagreeing with her? I'm like, what is this? And then I look at the channel. It's like Scientology channel. So it's all Scientology programming.
I used to walk past a Scientology church every day on my commute.
They tried grabbing you.
And no, but they there's a lot of illegal parking that they're doing there. They just pulled up on the sidewalk, and and I wonder how they get away with it. And I want to spin up all kinds of.
Oh, remains legal. Okay, there's been calls to ban. Oh, it's banned in Russia. Okay,
we got fake news.
Yeah,
we've got to unplatform you.
Well, I always check my fake news. Court in Russia has banned Moscow's Church of Scientology, saying it does not comply with federal laws on freedom of religion. According to Russia's TASS news agency, the country's justice ministry brought the case against the church, which is heard in Moscow. So Scientology, it says, why is Scientology banned in Germany? The German government does not recognize Scientology as a religion. Rather, it views it as an abusive business masquerading as a religion and believes that it pursues political goals that conflict with the values enshrined in German constitution. This stance has been criticized by the U.S. government. So it does, but it says, why is Scientology banned in Germany?
Yeah.
So it is not banned in Germany, or it is?
Our Wikipedia article says it's legal in a lot of laws.
Okay, so
but
they don't
it's not a
recognize it as a religion, so they allow the people a certain amount of freedom of expression. But
you probably don't get the tax benefits, right? It's good.
They have the same
Scientology is one of those things. You ever have something that you kind of like never wanted to look into because you're afraid it's going to be bad?
Yeah.
So it's like I want to just keep liking Tom Cruise movies.
Oh, Tom Cruise is great.
So I don't really want to know what's up with
Cruise,
Scientology. I always hear bad things.
He's crazy as fuck. Like, and all great actors are crazy as fuck. Like, and that's just his crazy. His crazy is that he believes that if you see a car broke down the side of the road, you've got to go over and help them because you're a Scientologist, and that's what you do. Like, he's fucking super intense and dialed in, and he wants to do sit-ups as soon as you're done talking with him. Like, that's that guy. Like, he's fucking.
He's gonna help me with my car trouble.
He's like, all my friends that have met him, like, dude, the guy looks at you, he remembers your name, he's got like fucking laser beam shooting out of his eyeballs. Yeah. What does it say?
He's just part of the article.
We're talking about it.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, he's crazy, but so's Daniel Day-Lewis, right? He's crazy in a different way. Like, they're all Christian Bale. That guy's fucking crazy. You know, Russell Crowe. He throws cell phones at people that work behind the counter at a hotel if he doesn't like what they're saying. There are a lot of crazy people, brilliant actors.
Yeah.
It's just like he keeps his shit together with this weird thing, like this weird religion. And have you ever read Going Clear, Lawrence Wright's book?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The HBO documentary, the series, I think was more than one thing. Maybe it was, I don't remember. But that's really good too. But the book is fantastic. Going
So
Clear.
do you have to be crazy like that to be successful in the podcast game? To get to the Rogan level?
No.
Do I need to become crazier?
No, well, I just started early. It's a dirty trick. It's a dirty trick. I'm an early adopter. I just made it through. You know, like there's probably a lot of people that make better cotton swabs than Q-tips, right? But Q-tip has been the name forever, right?
Sure.
So I got in 99 or 2009 rather. The book is. All my friends that have met him, like, dude, the guy looks at you, he remembers your name, he's got like fucking laser beam shooting out of his eyeballs. Yeah, what does it say?
He's just part of the article.
We're talking about him.
He was there.
Oh, thought you were bringing him up for some important news. Yeah, he's crazy, but so's Daniel Day-Lewis, right? He's crazy in a different way. Like, they're all Christian Bale. That guy's fucking crazy. You know, Russell Crowe. He throws cell phones at people that work behind the counter at a hotel if he doesn't like what they're saying. There are a lot of crazy people, brilliant actors.
Yeah.
It's just like he keeps his shit together with this weird thing, weird religion. And have you ever read Going Clear, Lawrence Wright's book?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The HBO documentary, the series, I think was more than one thing. Maybe it was, I don't remember. But that's really good too. But the book is fantastic. Going
So do
Clear.
you have to be crazy like that to be successful in the podcast game? To get to the Rogan level?
No.
Do I need to become crazier?
No, well, I just started early. It's a dirty trick. It's a dirty trick. I'm an early adopter. I just made it through. You know, like there's probably a lot of people that make better cotton swabs than Q-tips, right? But Q-tip has been the name forever, right?
Sure.
So I got in 99 or 2009 rather. So that's a long ass time ago. 11 years of doing a podcast is a long fucking time. So
Absolutely.
that's the key.
Ground floor.
Yeah, and also just doing a lot of interviews.
Sure.
Yeah, just give people a lot of shit to listen to. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck.
Just kill him with quantity.
I don't know what has made this popular. I don't.
You should find out someday.
I don't want to know. I'll probably change it then.
Right.
I mean, I think if you pay attention too much to criticism or praise, you're gonna fall victim to it one way or another.
No, I mean that's true. I mean it's not healthy to worry too much about.
Too much. But you gotta worry a little. You should think a little, because you don't want to piss people off. You don't want to be annoying. And I think I'm both of those things sometimes. But it's also inevitable when you're just thinking out loud, right? Because you and I, you can attest this. We had very little conversation before we got here.
Yeah, no, I did ask twice. I was like, "What are we going to talk about?" And everyone assured me. They're like, "No, you just go in. You're just going to talk." So
it works.
It's real. It's true.
Yeah, it really does work though. Like so that's what I want to hear. I want to hear a conversation between two people. I mean, I think interviews are interesting. I think debates are interesting. But what I genuinely like to do is have conversations with people. I just like to talk to people. It's fun. It's interesting. I want to know why you think the way you think, and especially this subject because I keep going on about how I think there's something about let's just go back to this rat population density thing. What they did was they took these rats They put them in a large container, a large area, and they only had a couple of rats, and the rats just behaved like rats. And then as they ramped up, it mirrored essentially all of the problems you see in big cities. They started getting more violence. They started getting mentally ill rats that would literally sit in a corner and rock themselves back and forth, things that just didn't exist when there's small amounts of rats in a containment area. I think people react to the people that are around them in a very tangible way. And one of the things they used to demonstrate this is there was a very good Radio Lab podcast that talked about this, where they took cameras and they would put a camera on one end of the street and a camera on the other end of the street, and they would time people walking from one end to the other. So they would track their footsteps, and then through that, when they have a certain amount of data, they could accurately determine how many people live in the city just by how quickly someone moved from point A to point B. And that
So at big cities, people walk faster?
They walk faster. Not only do
Oh,
they
good
walk
for us.
faster, they talk faster. So if you listen to someone if you listen to a certain amount of people form sentences, you can get a very accurate number, like really close, to what population density or what the population of that area is, which is really interesting. Yeah, so there's a reaction that we have to each other. Too many people makes people walk faster and talk faster, and some people love that. And my friends that live in New York City that love it, one of the things they say is the city's got so much energy, so much energy. And I agree. You go there, you're like, wow, so much energy. But you're reacting to other biological entities, right? It's like there's weird things that happen with people when you're around other people. Like women, when you're around other women, get coinciding menstrual cycles, right? We don't really totally understand that. It's like pheromones and they're reacting to each other. I think there's strange things that are happening with people around people. I think it's one of the reasons why podcasts in person are far better than podcasts through Zoom. Like, it's great to be able to talk to people that otherwise I couldn't talk to through that, but there's an impersonal, sort of disconnected, there's a magic that's missing.
Yeah, but so I'm more on that point, right? Like, there's great energy in person.
Yes.
I think that the move to doing everything remotely because of the pandemic, I think has really hurt sort of like morale in a lot of institutions, harder for people to get along, harder for people to relate to each other. I also think when you look at innovation, right, like big, inventions, new ideas, new developments, they tend to come out of urbanized areas, right, where people are bouncing off each other, maybe like drinks after work, maybe at a party somewhere. People who, work broadly in the same field are just able to see each other and interact randomly, right? And that kind of energy generates a lot of, where our sort of growth comes from as a kind of a modern society. And there's nothing wrong with, people living in small towns, people living in the countryside. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Obviously, also, we need food. As farmers, we'd be kind of fucked as a society. But there's a reason why you see a trend toward urbanization over thousands and thousands of years. People trying to find more ways to have more interactions with each other. Because I think we're not rats ultimately, right? Like, you put those rats in the crowded thing, and like they don't invent shit. They're still rats.
Right, but you understand the issue.
No, I mean, I see what you mean.
The negative aspects of overpopulation are represented in rat populations.
Right. I mean, there's something. I mean, look, there's definitely more violence in big cities.
Yeah.
You see that really clearly. On the other hand, you do see better health outcomes in the contemporary United States in metro areas than you do in rural ones. I don't know exactly what it is, but
better
it's
health outcomes in terms of response to hospitalization, or better health outcomes in terms of like the overall quality of life.
I mean, just like life expectancy, obesity, that kind
the
of
life
stuff.
expectancy is higher, like really in New York City than Boulder, Colorado.
No, Colorado is actually number one. But in general, I mean,
but
New York,
Boulder only has 100,000 people.
Yeah, but New York and California are some of the highest life expectancy states in the country. The really low ones, West Virginia, places
but that's
like that.
extreme poverty.
Well, they're poor, but that's part of the issue, right?
Rural...
Like, wealth comes out of, or maybe that'll change, right? Maybe we're going to have the technology that people can, and we're going to make some investments in broadband, other stuff like that. I mean, maybe we can have much more prosperity in rural areas, and like that would be great. Because I mean, it would just be good for people there. Also, people like it. It'd be cool. I have some hope that all this Zoom and stuff will do that, but I also have some doubts. I mean, I'm just not sure that you can fully replicate the sort of value of in-person interaction. And it's just a way that I do think we're different.
The only way that's ever going to come about is through virtual reality. Virtual reality, if it gets to a point where you and I can put on goggles and be in a room together, almost like this.
Yeah,
that's pretty close.
Well, I think
the wait is over. One of the sport's most notorious icons is stepping in the octagon this Saturday. DraftKings, the official daily can be only at
America's role in the world. Elevates beyond that, thinks about America's role in the world, and says the way we are going to meet this challenge of rising international competition to solve those problems.
How much pushback have you gotten from this idea? Because it seems like a lot of people think that
right? Like, why is the United States a big deal country and Canada is like, like our cute little brother? And it's because a lot of people live here. Canada's nice, but there's no people, no real strength there. Second, I think it'll make us a more prosperous country. What we do as modern day Americans is we do stuff for each other, right? Whether that's we make show, we write books, we teach in schools, we run restaurants, we're doing services to each other. And you get more prosperity when you have more ability to sort of have those interactions.
When you're talking about China and the NBA and Hollywood movies, a lot of people think of those things, those the interactions that Hollywood has and the NBA has with China as being insidious. They don't think it's a good thing at all that China has that kind of an influence, and they also think it's embarrassing. Like a lot of people think that it's embarrassing for the NBA to when the negative tweets when they're in support of Hong Kong, and then all of a sudden there was some pushback and the NBA was removed from viewership in China, and there was a lot of sponsorships being pulled, and it became a giant issue. And then all of a sudden you saw the NBA kind of backtrack and kind of kowtow, and a lot of people found that to be pretty disgusting. We don't want the United States to ever be a country that's doing that to China, right? If China has a bunch of, I don't know what they're really into over there, ping pong players, like what's their primary sport?
I don't know.
They have a lot of basketball.
Basketball, they like basketball.
So imagine if Chinese basketball becomes super popular in the United States, and then the Chinese basketball players in the United States start talking shit about how Apple uses slave labor, and we go, hey, watch your fucking mouth, bro. We won't pay for your Chinese basketball anymore. And then all of a sudden China backs off. Like, we would think of that as being pretty gross by the United States, of ignoring some human rights violations or trying to whitewash them and trying to economically attack another country. So like saying that it's a positive that China has all these people, and using as an example the fact that they strong-arm Hollywood and they strong-arm the NBA, a lot of people think that's moving in the wrong direction, me included. Like, I don't want
Well, no,
that.
I don't think it's positive. I'm saying we
Right.
need to be in a position to level the playing field.
But is that leveling the playing field, or will we just look? Corporations have a giant problem with infinite growth, right? Yep. This is a thing that seems completely, totally preposterous, but it's the norm and the standard in the business world. You want your growth to increase every year, no matter what, and God knows where that goes. I'm not a mathematician or an economist, but if you extrapolate and keep going with that, it leads to preposterous outcomes, right? That's what people would be worried about tenfold if there's a billion people here. They'd be like, oh my God, we'd be even more ruthless and more cutthroat and more, like, maybe more competitive with the rest of the world, but in what way?
Well, so here, let's talk about the China thing, right? So the NBA is under China's thumb because they need access to that market.
Do they,
Hollywood,
though?
well,
Do
they think they do.
Aren't they
right?
rich as fuck?
So we could say, right, maybe we need to have a rule that says, like, well, you can't let the Chinese censor your shit, right?
Yeah.
But the relative size of the markets is going to matter, right? So we're on Spotify here, right? So that's a Swedish company, I think. So
They make great meatballs, I hear.
Absolutely, it's a lovely country, right? But so Sweden's a little country, right?
Yeah.
All their companies, you're talking Volvo, Scania, Spotify, they're dependent on a global marketplace. They need access.
Right.
If China is the biggest market in the world, ultimately they're going to find themselves playing by China's rules. If America stays the biggest market in the world, then we can play by our rules. And not that we should use the way China does, right? We shouldn't say, like, no, nobody can say bad stuff about America. America, we've got a great tradition of free speech here, despite some tensions. It's a world of difference from China. And we carry so many other countries, smaller countries from Europe, Canada, Australia, on our backs in that regard, as creating a sort of cornerstone of openness as a leading market in the world. That's how it's been for so long that people don't even think about it. But if we go into a world where China's the #1 economy, where that's the #1 market, where that's what every company cares most about, China's rules, then we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble here. The Swedes are going to be in trouble. And I don't think that's a world we should look forward to.
Why do you think that increasing the population threefold is the way, or
You'll have to work
3
for
times?
that.
Is that the only way that we can be competitive in the world? Is that the only way? Or when you came to that conclusion, like, you ramping it up to 1 billion people, like, what led you to that? Did you know you're being provocative? Was that part of what you were doing? Like, fuck those people off a little bit.
I like to provoke. I think you may be familiar with that as an approach.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wanted to grab people's attention. I didn't want to be boring. I don't like being boring. It's a nice round number. Obviously, also science delivered it. It was when I realized that 1 billion is triple. It's also if the U.S. population were to grow fast,
Jess, I'm so sorry for everything.
That's the official math.
If only I could.
The reality is,
If only I hadn't married you. If only I listened.
Jess, please.
How would be as nice?
I know I messed up.
Is that a goal we should work towards?
Being as nice as Canadians? Yeah, I don't know. So I'm from New York. We're a little brusque there.
But you're nice.
Kind of.
You seem like a nice guy so far.
Well, because we're here in the South now, so we got to be nice. We got to ask Southerners how to be more polite like Canadians.
Well, one of the things I think, and one of the things that I've said about Austin in particular, is that I love the fact that there's friendly people, and I think one of the reasons why they're friendly is there's not that many of them. They value people more. I think people get devalued when you get high population densities. I'm not saying that it has to be like Los Angeles in order to reach 3 billion or 1 billion people in this country, rather. I don't think it does, right? It's not like you're trying to turn the whole country into Los Angeles. But there's a problem with Los Angeles. I think one of the problems with Los Angeles is there's an insane amount of people jammed into one area. And when you're on the highway, like if you drive and you have to go to Orange County and you're on the 405, you just want Godzilla to come out of the ocean and just start eating cars. You're like, this is fucking ridiculous. There's so many people, and it never ends. It's like every time you want to go, if you want to go to Orange County, say if you want to go to Disneyland or something, like that, take your family, you gotta leave hours early. Hours earlier than you think you need to. You want to be there by 5 p.m.? Oh, Christ. You got to leave at like 2. You got to leave maybe at 1:30 if you want to be safe. Leave at 1:30, and you'll be stuck in fucking insane traffic and never-ending road construction, and it never ends. And a lot of people get real testy when there's that many people. And this has been recreated in rat population density studies. I'm sure you've probably gotten into some of this when you started looking.
But
at
the rats don't really
population.
drive, though.
They don't. But it does when they have these rat population density studies. It does mimic what happens in big cities in terms of violence, in terms of mental illness. Like when you have a certain amount of rats in a large containment. You know about all this, right?
Yeah, I got it, rats. Yeah.
Yeah, but have you ever?
I have. Yeah.
Read rather. Any
I
of this
have.
stuff? Yeah.
So let's distinguish a couple things, right? So I'm not so sure about the friendliness, right? Because you've been to like, I don't want to cast aspersions, but you've been to like New Hampshire, like small towns up there. People there, they're kind of assholes.
We kind of keep to ourselves up here.
Yeah, so people are friendly here, but you know, there's some small town weirdos up in New England.
I don't care about that as well.
Los Angeles, now the traffic, right on. You know, every time I go to Southern California, I think, oh man, this weather's nice. People here must be happy all the time. And then I try to meet up with somebody, and I get on the road.
Yeah.
It's a fucking nightmare.
It's a fucking nightmare.
So, you know, that's going to make people mad. Now, the rats, right? So, what they're studying there, I think, is crowding, you know, which is not exactly the same as density. Because we build buildings, right? So, people in New York have small houses by American standards, but big houses by European standards or Japanese standards, right? We're still taking up space because we're sort of building structures. So I think we have to look at what we're doing with our housing laws, with our land use laws. One of the reasons Texas has been such a center of growth, so many people coming here, is that the Texas legal framework actually lets you come here, right? You want to throw up some houses in the Austin area, Houston, Dallas, you can do it. So you can get affordable space, and more people are coming in, and it's an asset for the state, right? Like people like you, all kinds of folks come in here. The governor brags about it all the time. I think Hewlett Packard is coming to Houston or something, and it's really good. It's a big kind of success story. And in California, they got terrible problem where a lot of people want to go there because it's nice. California's nice, right? But they can't find a place to live. They can't get space, and they can't sort out their transportation infrastructure. Los Angeles poured all this money into building out the LA Metro, but then they didn't align their zoning, you know, so people don't live near the stations.
Right.
So nobody rides the thing.
Well, it's also there's a culture of driving your own vehicle that's been firmly established in Los Angeles. It's very difficult to get people to deviate from their habits.
Yeah. But also, you can't take a train if it doesn't go where you're going.
Right.
If you don't live by it, right? So, you know, my cousin, she was taking the Metro to work for a while, and, you know, good for her. But it was, like, very unusual out there. I live in D.C. now. A lot of people ride the Metro there, right? And, you know, it's people from all over. People are used to cars. But when you have a well-designed system where people live near the stations, where the jobs are near where they come together, you know, people do it. It's convenient. You can, you know, read a book, something like that. Well, we don't want to encourage people to read other convenience. Stick to the podcast.
Well, listen, if you can, but whatever you want. I mean, you can make a great argument for it being far more relaxing. All you have to do is just sit down. You don't have to think about traffic.
Right, you zone out.
You zone out. You can read a book, like you said. You can read the paper. You want to kill yourself. You could
watch on your phone. You know, whatever it is you got.
There's plenty of things you can do, and it can be. I have friends that live in Westchester, and they take public
that Metro North
transportation.
down. Yeah,
and it's great. I used to do it when I lived in New Rochelle. Did it all the time. Yeah.
New Rochelle.
Yeah, I used to live in New Rochelle.
Well, there you go. Nice place. So, you know, I think that there's ways to create those kind of like, you know, low-key virtues. People have nice-sized houses. People have nice commutes while also having growth, right? And having some sustainability. But the idea of patriotism in the book, the idea of national greatness, the idea that America should want to be number one.
Right.
But I think that's something that's important to a lot of people, moderate people, conservative people.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
And I don't think it has to be xenophobic either.
Well, and I think it's part of inclusiveness, right? Like what holds this country together. People with different religions, people with different ethnic backgrounds, people with different ideas, is loyalty to, you know, certain concepts, right? Like high-level political concepts. And it's not bad to be a little corny and, you know, wave the flag a little bit if that's how, like, we can all be Americans together.
Right.
And to me, that's important, you know, and I was surprised doing some of the virtual touring on this at how much conservative people were like, wow, I can't believe you wrote this book, and how much some people on the left were just skeptical of not like the specific ideas, but of the general concept of like wanting America to be awesome.
A positive feeling about nationalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, nationalism, when you say even the word, something's happened over the last decade where you say the word nationalism and somehow it gets it gets equated, at least peripherally or in the neighborhood of white nationalism. It's like, it's one of those weird words, you know, like if you say, you know, I'm a Texas chauvinist, like, what do you mean? Do you hate women? Like, no, I just think Texas is the best.
Right.
Like, people get mad at you because it's too close to male chauvinist. Like, male chauvinist is a common phrase. If you say you're a patriot, people go, oh, great, you're stockpiling food and guns and you're ready to take over and you only like white people, right? Like, that's
no,
weird
and it should be the opposite, right?
Yes.
That if you think about, you know, the history of white nationalism in America, right? It's an anti-American movement. This is the Abraham Lincoln is an American nationalist, right? And, you know, and civil rights, Martin Luther King is appealing to the values of the Declaration of Independence. This is a country, e pluribus unum. Obviously, America, like, bad things have happened. We have not lived up to those ideals, but those are the ideals of America. What it is to be an American nationalist is to believe in that kind of human equality,
and not abandon
universal rights,
right? And
it's antithetical to the sort of racist and exclusionary visions that people have. But it's important to hold to that, right? To that notion of an inclusive nation that has a national identity, I think, rather than sort of surrender the idea to the most right-wing people.
Yeah, I think the idea of America should be like the greatest house party ever. Like, everybody can come over. That's what it should be. White nationalism is just fucking stupid. I mean, you're just fools. Like, the idea that only melanin, that's what counts, and only European heritage, that's what counts. Everything else, like, it's nonsense. It's one of the dumbest ideas ever. And then it's also it's a scared person's version of America. And the problem with the concept of nationalism being equated to white nationalism, like, you're giving that word up to cowards. Like, white nationalists, you're a coward. You're afraid of, what are you afraid of? You're afraid of brown people, black people, yellow people? You only like white people. I only like people who look similar to me. That's one of the dumbest ideas of all time. And the fact that idea is still it's so prevalent that you have to argue against it. That it's one of those things like it's real. Like until Charlottesville happened, when you see those guys walking with the tiki torches going, they will not replace us. Like I was like, that's never going to happen again. If that hadn't happened, I would have said, there's no way after the civil rights movement. After all we've been through, particularly today with the internet and the way people can exchange ideas, there's no fucking chance you're gonna have a bunch of assholes that only think that America is supposed to be about white people, and they're walking down the street with Home Depot torches. It's like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you know, the whole replace us thing, right? Like it's so insecure. You know, because you go to France, right? And they're paranoid that our McDonald's and our fucking movies are gonna take over and like replace their culture. But like nobody is replacing us. Like it's our American culture is awesome.
Yeah,
and, like it dominates everywhere.
But they will not replace us. It's well, they will if you suck. Like, are you saying you should be allowed to suck and be white?
We're gonna replace those guys.
Yeah,
but it's like nobody.
That's really the irony, right? Like if you think like that, bitch, you're gonna get replaced.
But people who come here, right? People come from Latin America. People come from Africa. Historically, people come from Europe. Now more and more people come from Asia. They don't replace anybody when they come in, right? It's an additive thing. You know, there's like cool stuff. I went in the suburbs of DC. There's a lot of Vietnamese people, a lot of Vietnamese restaurants out there. The last time I went out to get a banh mi place, there was a Cajun, Viet Cajun crawfish broil thing, which comes from Houston because Vietnamese people came there, Louisiana people came to Houston. They got this fusion cuisine. Now they exported it to other Vietnamese enclaves around America.
God damn it, man, you make me hungry. That sounds fucking great.
Someday someone's going to open one of those places in Ho Chi Minh City. You know, like it's gonna come back out. Like there's, I went to Shanghai and I met somebody there whose idea was they were starting a business that had fortune cookies, because that shit's American,
right?
You know, but it's cool.
So fortune cookies came from America. They added it to American Chinese food.
Yeah.
No, well, that makes sense.
It's a friend of mine, Jenny 8 Lee. She wrote a book called Fortune Cookie Chronicles.
You want to talk
it's about Chinese food. It's really the only. I wish I could write a book about Chinese food, but it's a fascinating subject. Fortune cookies, 100% American.
It seems like an American thing, but you want to talk about an industry that clearly has had no growth. The fortune cookie industry is sucking fortunes, man. You know, like a lot of times they're like, a stitch in time saves 9. What the fuck? Like I got robbed.
Well, they got lottery numbers though. You play those lotto numbers and you get rich. That's my tip to you out there.
God, it's so dumb, and it's also not a delicious cookie. I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
If the fortune cookies were for sale and they didn't have a fortune side of them, they would never survive. Right?
That's
like Chick-fil-A's everywhere. You know what you don't see? Turkey fillet. Turkey can't survive without Thanksgiving. If it wasn't for Thanksgiving, the turkey industry would be fucked. They rely on one day a year.
Well, but also sandwiches. People get like a turkey sandwich at the deli.
Boring people.
Yeah.
Boring people that are afraid of like salami.
You ever been? So I went years ago. I was in southern Mexico in Oaxaca, and I went to a restaurant there, and there was just turkey on the menu.
Just turkey?
And no. I mean, it's not only turkey, but there was turkey dish on the menu, right? And it threw me for a fucking loop because who eats turkey outside of Thanksgiving, right? But apparently in Mexico and Central America, it's like a thing. That's where turkeys are from. It's a turkey with the mole poblano, and it's pretty good. But it goes to show it's a kind of flavorless meat.
Right, but they use
you get that
strong Mexican spices.
Yeah, you get that big sauce on it.
Yeah,
that's what makes it work. So sometime next year, maybe I'll get my mole Thanksgiving.
Well, what I do is with leftovers, I take leftover Thanksgiving turkey and I just take a plate and dunk some habanero sauce all over the plate and then dip the pieces of turkey in that habanero sauce. Woo! Now you got a party.
It's all happening.
Yeah, but that with mole sauce, that sounds outstanding. That sounds good. Now I'm seeing the flavors come together. I made a turkey this year and I brined it for the first time.
Yeah.
I've never brined a turkey.
That's what the experts say.
It was sensational.
Yeah.
It was so good. Turkey's a thing though. It's really best served right after you get it out of the oven. I think it's really best served like while it's still really hot. But while it was hot, it was so juicy. It was the juiciest turkey I cooked it on a Traeger grill, which is like a
I was gonna say, my friend's got a smoker. It makes smoked turkeys.
Yes.
Those are good. They're juicy. They're fucking great. And then you get some turkey out of your oven.
Yeah, it's kind of dry. It's a different kind of heat. And it's like there's something about cooking with that indirect heat from the smoke. Like it's not like cooking over a regular grill, because the smoke is really doing all the cooking for you. It's almost like they seal so good that it's like you're not losing moisture and you've got this amazing retention of heat, and so the temperature stays at a good. But having the turkey brined first, man, that made such a big difference. It was so juicy. It made me think like, okay, so hey, assholes, if you just do this with all turkeys, then people would be ordering turkey all over the place.
Just brine it.
And they would say how great this turkey is.
Just brine
But if you're a restaurant and you have turkey on the menu and you have turkey right next to like a T-bone steak, people are like,
It's gonna be steak every time.
Yeah, I'm not going with a turkey.
I agree. I'm not a turkey guy.
Yeah,
I don't know how we got on this.
But chicken is delicious. Chicken is like chicken. Here's a weird thing about chicken. It used to be expensive. Like there's one of the I think it was which president that was running for office, and one of his promises was a chicken in every pot.
That was Hoover, right? Was going to give us a chicken in every pot, and then we got the Depression.
Yeah.
But yeah, chicken was high end. Now, unfortunately, my knowledgeable friends say that the chickens are in horrifically cruel conditions.
Many
and
are.
That's how they got so cheap. So
that's true.
I don't know.
But you can buy free-range chickens.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure that you're ethical in your pursuit of where your chickens are grown.
Find the good ones.
Yeah, but even then.
Be a backyard chicken person.
Being a backyard chicken person.
Weirdos in Portland.
Yeah, I was a backyard chicken person, but it'd be turned into a coyote apocalypse. Those motherfuckers, they killed all my chickens slowly. It took a long time, but they eventually got them all. We also went through a fire, and the fire actually burned down our chicken coops, but the chickens got out. While the fire was burning their chicken coop, it created a hole, and they got out, and they were wandering around the yard, and so we saved them from that and then put them into a smaller chicken coop. But the area that we lived in, there was so much fire that I think the amount of animals was greatly reduced. And the coyotes, they got very clever, and they lived literally pulled the chicken wire off of the chicken coop and created a small hole big enough for them to get inside, and then it was a slaughter fest.
This is why I stay in big cities. I'm afraid of the coyotes.
Oh, that's the problem. Is coyotes are everywhere now. They're in every city in the country.
Wait, really?
Yeah, coyotes are a fascinating animal. If you want to really get into what happens when animals get pressured and like different methods of adaptation, there's a great book by Dan Flores called Coyote America, and it's all about when the female coyotes recognize that coyotes are missing, all of a sudden her egg production ramps up and she gives birth to more pups. So when more coyotes are missing, they don't just come in estrus, they actually produce more puppies. And so then they expand the range. So they were originally persecuted in the West. That's where they really existed, in the Southwest and the West. Now they're in New York City. They're everywhere.
So that's going to be the
Chicago.
sequel. 1 billion coyotes.
Dude, there's a fat one living on my block. He is fucking fat. My friend showed me a picture of it. I was like, oh my God, look at the size of this coyote. He's like a well-fed dog. There's so many deer out here.
Yeah,
I guess they're just eating fawns and and whatever else they can find because there's a lot of wildlife in Texas. But yeah, coyotes are they're literally in every city. Every San Francisco's coyotes everywhere.
Now I'm scared.
Houston, coyotes.
Now I'm scared.
Yeah.
Scared to leave the house.
Don't be
scared of anything.
Don't be scared.
Scared to come on here, I think.
Will you?
I'm going to get canceled.
You think so?
Yeah, again.
Are you really worried about that?
Well, people are mad about you.